From the moment he was born, he stood at the top of the world. His father was the first man to use the power of God, known as the original Awakener. His magic system rating was as high as 97%, but Zai ultimately chose to become a combat Awakener, only because people thought poorly of the magic system at the time. Now, as a combat Awakener, he can only watch magic Awakeners being celebrated on TV. It's worth noting that an Awakener's growth generally stops at age 20. It's too late for Zai to make changes now. The only job he can do now is to serve as a human shield in combat teams. That inexplicable passion he once had for the combat system has long disappeared with the blows of reality. Fortunately, unexpected treasures can occasionally be found in dungeons. Although these treasures might bring fatal dangers to Awakeners, they are also the hope that keeps low-level Awakeners alive. Everyone, please note that we'll be entering in 10 minutes. Zai has a habit. Before entering each dungeon, he takes out his phone to look at a photo of himself and his mother. After all, once inside the dungeon, no one knows if they'll make it out alive. However, this dungeon seems quite simple. Their opponents are zombies without powerful skills. All Zai needs to do is hold his position firmly with his shield, as dazzling spells flash by. The zombies in front of them are easily eliminated. The participants in this dungeon are from the Meteor Guild, which, though recently established, has already become famous. At this rate, Zai thinks he should be able to make it out alive. Soon, only the final boss zombie remains. During the break, Zai wants to check his gain so far. At this moment, the system panel shows scrambled code for the first time. This is followed by an excruciating pain. It turns out that the Acer system, on which humans rely for survival, has crashed. In his daze, Zai hears someone telling him to follow the light. At this moment, the Acer system keeps sending notifications. It turns out that the Acer system has been infiltrated by an unknown alien. Zai wonders if the alien is the voice he heard. When he looks back, he discovers many light spots have mysteriously appeared around him, and besides him, no one else can see these anomalies. These light spots seem to exist only for Zai So, Zai decides to follow the light spots to investigate. Along the way, he tries countless times to activate the Acer system, but unfortunately, the Acer system remains paralyzed. This kind of thing has never happened in the past 17 years. Years ago, a giant tree suddenly grew from the Pacific Ocean. In just days, it grew to obscure the sky. That tree was the world tree from mythology. On the Thay after the tree's completion, monsters began to appear worldwide, bringing unprecedented disaster to humanity. Half of the world's population lost their lives. Then another half of the survivors died from famine and disease. It was at this time that the Acer system appeared, granting people divine power to become Awakeners. This allowed human civilization to survive. The Acer system, upon which humanity relies for survival, suddenly crashes. A mysterious voice tells Zai to follow the light spots. At the end of these light spots is an ancient door. Zai guesses this might be the legendary treasure door, rumored to appear only in high-level dungeons. Behind it lies a room filled with countless treasures. For Zai this is the only chance to change his life. With an anxious heart, he pushes open the door. But there are no countless treasures as rumored. The only thing in the room is a sphere placed in the center. Zai naturally doesn't want to miss this opportunity to change his fate. Without a moment's hesitation, he reaches for the sphere. The moment Zai touches the sphere, the Acer system is repaired. It turns out to be a mythical artifact, Odin's Lost Eye. It can not only break down and destroy magic's computational structure, but also easily copy others' skills. Until now, the highest level artifact was only S-class. The mythical Odin's Lost Eye is enough to ensure Zai comfort for the rest of his life. He did consider keeping it for himself. But after 20, levels can't be increased, so even if he used it, it wouldn't be very effective. Having obtained the treasure, Zai prepares to return, but when he gets back, he finds everyone waiting for him. This time, Zai completely suppresses his dissatisfaction, because once people know he got something good in the dungeon, all that awaits Zai would be death. Fortunately, he successfully deceives them this time. What he needs to do now is ensure no one suspects his departure from the team. But just before the final battle begins, an accident occurs. Huge rocks start falling into the team from the cave, followed by a wave of strange poisonous creatures. Many less powerful mages immediately fall to these poisonous creatures. Zai wants to quickly warn everyone to retreat from the poison, but the man in front of him is suddenly pierced by a sword. Zai realizes there must be enemies hidden in the poison. Without any hesitation, he immediately flees. Having just obtained a mythical artifact, Zai doesn't want to lose his life here. The next second, a lightning chain passes by his shoulder. The force of the explosion completely blocks his path. Zai can't help but wonder who this person is. The other person says, "I knew you would survive." Zai didn't expect that the one ambushing everyone was Zhang Yuming. Zhang Yuming has always been Zai agent. As an A-level magic awakener, Zhang Yuming has found many good jobs for Zai including this dungeon mission. Zhang Yuming says, "I told you I would come to see you today." Zai asks, "Did you do all this? Was it you who spread the poison and attacked the Meteor Guild?" Zhang Yuming says, "That's right, I did all of this, but I did it on behalf of my client. There were already many who disliked the Meteor Guild. They look down on other guilds. How could they not attract hatred?" Zai says, "Zhang Yuming, I'll pretend I didn't see any of this." But before he can finish, another lightning chain comes at him. Zhang Yuming says, "The target of this attack isn't just the Meteor Guild." With Zai D-level combat abilities, he is absolutely no match for Zhang Yuming's A-level magic. If he had reacted a bit slower just now, he would certainly have been killed by Zhang Yuming. But Zhang Yuming doesn't intend to let him go. 3 more lightning chains come towards Zai Fortunately, Zai uses his combat skills to dodge again. He can't help but wonder who he offended. For someone to send an A-level magic awakener to kill him. Suddenly, a familiar voice appears in Zhaixuan's mind. He says, "Was it my father who sent you?" Hearing this, Zheng Yuming is visibly stunned. For a moment, he forgets to attack Zhaixuan, who stands still. Zheng Yuming stands there trembling. Finally, he can't help but laugh out loud and says, "Your reaction is indeed quick. I like that about you." Zhaixuan involuntarily thinks of his mother in the photo. He says, "Let me ask you one last question. In the winter 5 years ago, did he commission you for the same thing?" Zheng Yuming says, "I can't believe you guessed even that. You're really something. I really can't understand. As a father, he first eliminated his wife, and now wants to eliminate his son. Don't you think that's too much? But it's already come to this. Farewell." In his dying moment, Zhaixuan uses Odin's lost eye. A powerful flash appears before Zheng Yuming. He sees the magical power in Zhaixuan continuously rising. To avoid surprises, Zheng Yuming decides to stop playing around. This time, the lightning chain flies towards Zhaixuan at extreme speed. Just as Zhaixuan is about to be hit by the lightning chain, Zheng Yuming's lightning chain suddenly dissipates. For a moment, Zheng Yuming stands there with his eyes wide open in shock. It turns out that just now, Zhaixuan equipped Odin's lost eye. He also used a blank card to copy the lightning chain. Zhaixuan says, "Zheng Yuming, I'll make you die as painfully as possible." As soon as he finishes speaking, 6 lightning chains appear behind Zhaixuan. This skill took Zheng Yuming a lot of time to learn, but now it's easily mastered by a D-level combat awakener. He even suppresses the A-level magic awakener Zheng Yuming in battle. Every lightning chain Zheng Yuming uses is destroyed by Zhaixuan using absolute computation, but Zheng Yuming cannot dodge Zhaixuan's lightning chains. He can only use a magic shield to block Zhaixuan's attacks. At this moment, Zhaixuan activates absolute computation again. Without the protection of the magic shield, Zheng Yuming can no longer resist the lightning chain's attack. After eliminating Zheng Yuming, Zhaixuan also collapses. The recent battle has completely drained his physical and magical energy. The mythical artifact he worked so hard to obtain will now leave this world with him. But at this moment, a new operating system finishes downloading. It gives Zhaixuan a chance to travel back in time. Zhaixuan has no choice but to execute it. Thus, the Norn system begins to run. In his daze, Zhaixuan seems to see angels. They are chanting some kind of magic and slowly reach out to Zhaixuan. Without hesitation, Zhaixuan reaches out and takes the angel's hand. At this moment, the Norn system notifies Zhaixuan that he has become the greatest enemy of the Aesir. When Zhaixuan opens his eyes, he has returned to a familiar place. He suddenly sits up and begins to observe his surroundings, until he sees the photo of himself and his mother on the desk. Zhaixuan doesn't know if this is all a dream, but even if everything he sees is just a dream before death, Zhaixuan is willing to stay in this dream forever, because here is his mother who died long ago. However, his body functions have only recovered to percent. The Norn system's first task for him is to restore his physical strength to 80%, and the reward is a blank card. What Zhaixuan needs to do now is confirm what time he's in. The moment he gets the calendar, Zhaixuan smiles, because he has returned to the day before submitting his major. This time, he definitely won't make the same mistake as before. At mealtime, Zhaixuan still can't hold back the tears in his eyes. The scene that has appeared countless times in his dreams is now happening before his eyes. But his mother is worried that Zhaixuan might be troubled by something. The originally wooden child cried so sadly when she was about to leave in the morning, so his mother is curious if Zhaixuan has something bothering him. Zhaixuan says, "No, I just had a nightmare while sleeping. A nightmare that Zhaixuan doesn't want to see again. Mom, there's actually something I've been wanting to tell you. I want to change my major to the magic system." It's worth noting that Zhaixuan had always been determined to choose the combat system, but his mother knows he wouldn't joke about such things. His mother says, "Do as you think best. Mom hopes you do what you want to do. Whether you become a mage or something else, Mom will always support you." Zhaixuan knows this is not the time to cry. He must take revenge against his A-level awakener father, so he needs to quickly complete the tasks given by the Norn system. After completing the task, Zhaixuan also received a blank card. His advantage now is knowing some hidden levels and relics that can be exclusively claimed. However, Zhaixuan's skills are still all from the combat system. He decides to check his system panel first. Zhaixuan's level has returned to 7, and his attributes have been initialized, but he's curious why his passive skills weren't initialized. It turns out that due to the effect of being scrutiny of the god, Zhaixuan's passive skills from before the time travel were preserved, and with each level up, all his attributes increased by 1 point. But Zhaixuan couldn't understand the effect of another skill. Zhaixuan simply decides to allocate his points first. Although the importance of mana for mages is undisputed, what's more important is actually stamina. While stamina doesn't directly increase combat power, it can slow down the rate of fatigue. Next, Zhaixuan needs to consider which skill to learn. Even if he has powerful attack skills now, he can't utilize them effectively due to low mana. Moreover, magic awakeners currently have very low status, so the best choice is to learn a healing type skill. With a healing skill, he won't be looked down upon wherever he goes. But the biggest problem now is finding a healing type awakener. Just then, Zhaixuan's phone rings. He can't help but wonder who would call him at this time. The moment he picks up the phone, Zhaixuan is stunned. It turns out the caller is his childhood friend, Jin Yuqing. They grew up together, and both were admitted to Milas Academy. Both had dreams of becoming hunters. But later, Jin Yuqing died in Zhaixuan's arms. Fortunately, this time Zhaixuan has a chance to change all that. Jin Yuqing called to ask Zhaixuan to accompany her to see the Holy Maiden. Holy Maiden Lu Xin-en is the strongest healing type awakener today. Her most representative magic is sacrifice. With her around, Zhaixuan doesn't need to look for other healing type awakeners Awakeners. After saying goodbye to his mother, Zhaixuan sets off immediately. Meanwhile, Lu Xinan is sitting in a Rolls-Royce on her way to the event venue. Xingkai has been trying to persuade Lu Xinan to reduce these unnecessary trips, because sacrifice consumes not Lu Xinan's magic power but her life force. If she continues to participate in these unnecessary activities, Lu Xinan might soon collapse, unless another person who can use sacrifice magic can be found. Soon, the two are sitting in the venue waiting for Lu Xinan's arrival. Hello everyone, I am Lu Xinan. The whole world is facing an unprecedented disaster. The appearance of Yggdrasil and monsters has taken many lives. Now, less than 20% of Awakeners are willing to become hunters, but the death toll is several times this number. The world is still at a life and death crossroads, and countless innocent people are facing death. What we need now is courage. Awakeners all over the world, your courage is enough to change the world. Please enthusiastically sign up to become hunters and let the world regain light. For a better tomorrow, the Lotus Guild and I personally will fully support you all. After the speech, Zhaixuan finds an excuse to separate from Jin Yuqing. He wants to take the opportunity to connect with Lu Xinan. After some searching, Zhaixuan sees Lu Xinan's car. Zhaixuan says, I'm here to see Chairman Lu Xinan. Xingkai thinks Zhaixuan is just a fanatical fan obsessed with hunters, and wants to just say a few words to send him away. Zhaixuan says, I'm not her fanatical fan. I know Chairman Lu Xinan now has an incurable disease, and only I can cure her. Xingkai grabs Zhaixuan and says, tell me, where did you learn this information? Just then, Lu Xinan's car window opens. Lu Xinan says, can you take responsibility for what you just said? Get in the car first, there are too many people here, let's go somewhere quiet. Soon Zhaixuan is taken to the Lotus Guild's conference room. Lu Xinan says, how did you know I have a terminal illness? Zhaixuan says, I'd rather not tell you. If you really must know, I can tell you, but if I do, I won't offer treatment. Lu Xinan says, you're quite a shrewd child. Next question, how do you plan to treat me? Zhaixuan says, I plan to copy your sacrifice skill. Hearing Zhaixuan's words, Lu Xinan is stunned. Xingkai says, Chairman, stop listening to his nonsense. Kid, do you even know what the sacrifice skill is? You're just talking rubbish. It turns out sacrifice is Lu Xinan's exclusive skill. This kind of skill cannot be copied, only passed down through bloodlines. Zhaixuan says, if I didn't have the ability, I wouldn't have come looking for you. Lu Xinan says, so you mean to use my sacrifice skill to treat me? Since you've said this much, prove it to me. As she finishes speaking, Lu Xinan directly uses sacrifice. Without any hesitation, Zhaixuan immediately uses the blank card to copy the skill. Zhaixuan says, you probably don't believe me yet, so I need to gain your trust first. So Zhaixuan uses the sacrifice skill he just copied. Since it's a skill obtained with a blank card, the side effects of sacrifice don't affect Zhaixuan. For a moment, both Lu Xinan and Xingkai are stunned. Zhaixuan says, alright, now let's sit down and talk properly. Lu Xinan says, what do you want from our guild? Just being able to treat Lu Xinan is enough for Zhaixuan to be on equal footing with her. Zhaixuan says, I'd like to ask you to be my sponsor. Lu Xinan says, since you have the courage to make such a request, it means you have investment value. And you do indeed have ability, but I also have a condition. My illness is my personal matter. It has nothing to do with the Lotus Guild. However, what you want is not just my support, but the support of the entire Lotus Guild. We won't help you without reason, unless you join the Lotus Guild. Zhaixuan thought Lu Xinan would set some restrictive conditions, but didn't expect an invitation to join the guild. Lu Xinan continues, don't worry, I won't joke about this. I have several reasons for inviting you to join our guild. First, you know that I, the chairman of the Lotus Guild, am suffering from an incurable disease. Without extremely strong intelligence gathering abilities, you couldn't know such confidential information. Second, you can perfectly copy my sacrifice skill. So far, no one has been able to copy exclusive skills. Your future contains infinite possibilities. Third, you're not nervous at all in front of me. Standing in front of the president of the Lotus Guild and not being nervous at all. I feel you have charisma. I wonder if my reasons for recruiting you are enough. In the previous life, the Lotus Guild was the strongest guild, but after Lu Xinan became critically ill, the guild quickly collapsed. But with Zhaixuan's help, he believes none of this will happen. Zhaixuan says signing a guild contract with a school student is illegal. Lu Xinan says, have you heard of priority negotiation rights? Just give me your address and I'll send the contract to your home immediately. Think it over before making a decision. Zhaixuan says, then let me treat you first. Zhaixuan stands behind Lu Xinan. At this moment, Xingkai is extremely nervous. For Lu Xinan's illness, he doesn't know how many healing type awakeners he has sought. Even those who have spent their lives studying medicine were helpless. Now he can only place his last hope on Zhaixuan. To his surprise, Lu Xinan's condition improves visibly. Xingkai says, I'm really sorry about earlier. I entrust the chairman to you. Zhaixuan says, it's okay. If I were you, I wouldn't believe what a child says either. Xingkai says, for my previous rudeness, I will formally apologize to you again. After the treatment, Zhaixuan's passive emergency healing skill also rises to level 19. Under their gaze, Lu Xinan slowly walks to the window and says, the disease that has troubled me for years has completely disappeared. Thank you. But after healing me, won't you suffer from side effects? Zhaixuan says, I'll be fine. You can treat me when needed. Lu Xinan says, of course, I can treat you anytime. Here's my card. I'll try to meet all your conditions. I also hope you'll reconsider the conditions I mentioned earlier. Zhaixuan says, there is indeed something I'd like to trouble the chairman with now. Early the next morning, Xingkai drives to pick up Zhaixuan. Zhaixuan hopes to use the Lotus Guild's low-level dungeons to level up, because Milas Academy is a place that gathers countless talents. To survive there, leveling up is inevitable. For this raiding activity, the Lotus Guild has prepared quite a bit of supplies for Zhaixuan, but due to time constraints, they can only temporarily give him some extra equipment from the guild. However, Shinkai has been very concerned about Zai safety. Although it's only an E-level dungeon, it's still dangerous for Zai to go in alone. Zai says, "Don't worry, I just want to level up." With no choice, Shinkai opens his inventory. He says, "Take this, it can guarantee your safety. After breaking it, you can immediately return to the guild entrance. If you encounter danger, use it right away. Please accept it, consider it compensation for my rudeness yesterday. Also, it's a thank you gift for healing the chairman." After Shinkai said so much, Zai couldn't refuse. From the magical power he feels, this is indeed an E-level dungeon. This level should be no problem for Zai Shinkai says, "Remember, at the first sign of danger, you must use the teleportation stone." But the moment Zai enters the dungeon, he feels the change in the surrounding magical power. Due to the influence of the Norn system, Zai is teleported to the king's domain in the underworld of Helheim. Meanwhile, Liu Xinen is still recalling the scene of sitting on Zai lap. She can't forget that feeling. This is the first time she has begun to miss a man. Whenever she thinks of Zai she can't help but smile. Just then, her secretary Park Hana arrives. Zai personal information is all here. After receiving the data, Liu Xinen begins to look through it slowly. Soon she is shocked by the information before her. Zai who can use such powerful magic, chose combat as his major. Liu Xinen is completely stunned. She even begins to doubt the authenticity of this information, because Zai magic system rating is as high as 97%. She makes a phone call and says, "As soon as Zai comes out, have him come see me immediately. I want to personally confirm the child's true abilities." But at this moment, Zai has been transported to the realm of the dead due to the Norn system. The scene before him tells him that this is definitely not an E-level dungeon. Just as Zai is checking his surroundings, a black-robed figure hidden in the mist slowly raises a bow. The next second, a black arrow flies straight towards Zai Hearing the sound, Zai tilts his head in time to avoid the attack. He immediately looks in the direction the arrow came from, only to see the black-robed figure slowly draw another arrow from the quiver and raise the bow to aim at Zai again. Before the arrow is released, Zai quickly uses sacrifice to heal his wounds. But at this moment, a hand reaches out from the ground, and somehow ghosts have appeared behind Zai Suddenly, he faces three completely different types of monsters. Just then, the black-robed figure's arrow flies straight at him. This time, Zai easily catches the arrow in his hand. However, defeating the monsters in front of him won't be easy. Although arrows have high damage against undead creatures, using high-level sacrifice consumes a lot of mana. If he encounters higher-level monsters later, Zai will be in a dangerous situation, so he must rely on his combat experience from his previous life to fight. Also, Zai knows little about mages. The enemies in front of him are a good opportunity for practice. Perhaps due to their level, Zai finds these monsters not too difficult to deal with. Even with his current strength, he can still handle them with ease. He decides to charge forward with his staff, and hits the black-robed figure hard on the forehead. But this attack completely breaks his staff. At this moment, the scythe, ghost, and zombie swordsman charge toward him. With no choice, Zai has to use sacrifice to attack them. Almost instantly, the two monsters vanish in the holy light, and Zai collapses due to excessive mana consumption. If he hadn't just leveled up, Zai would be in a very dangerous situation. He knows his strength isn't enough to clear this dungeon, but just as he prepares to teleport away, he suddenly feels an icy chill. Zai can feel something approaching him. This terrifying aura even makes it hard for him to breathe. He quickly stabs his thigh with his staff, trying to regain some clarity. At this moment, he sees a shadow suddenly appear on the ground. He's unable to breathe due to fear. Standing before the dark specter, he doesn't even have a chance to use the teleportation stone. Zai can only close his eyes and accept his fate, but when he opens his eyes again, he finds time has stopped. A woman says, "That won't do. I personally brought that boy here. He is an honored guest, a child chosen by fate to be a rebel." Zai is curious about who this woman is. The woman says, "To think the person who could eliminate other rebels is just a child. Ordinary bones, decent magic power, but still far from being able to oppose the Esser gods. I really can't understand why Loki would choose a child like you." Due to blood loss, Zai consciousness is gradually fading, but he hasn't completed his revenge, so he absolutely cannot fall here. The woman says, "I'm quite satisfied with the expression in your eyes, but you're still too weak. Time is running out. You need to become stronger quickly. If you can't get stronger, I'll eliminate you before hell descends again. You are a very important existence to us, so I can give you one more chance. Hurry and become stronger. Become much stronger than you are now. Then come back and defeat the Shadow Spectre before you. If you do, I'll give you a really great gift, but I'll only give you 2 months. If you can't do it, you know the consequences." Thus, Zai is forced to accept Hell's task. She says, "Remember, if I don't see your growth during this period, I will personally send you to the underworld. Good luck, child chosen by the Norns." When Zai opens his eyes, he has returned to the entrance of the dungeon. His injuries have also miraculously healed, but the task in the Norn system tells him that everything that just happened was real, and the woman he just met is Hell, the goddess of death who rules the 9 worlds. However, Zai can't make any sense of what Hell said, but the one thing he can be certain of is that he must hurry to become stronger, if what Hell just said is true. When Zai stops progressing, he will be eliminated without hesitation, but it's not so simple to defeat the Shadow Spectre in 2 months. The current Zai isn't even familiar with how mages fight. To build a good foundation, the best choice is to get Liu Xinen's help, but at this moment, Shinkai has already arranged for him to meet Liu Xinen tomorrow. Early the next morning, Shinkai brings Zai to the Lotus Guild. Zai Xuan guesses they probably saw his awakening evaluation form. Despite having extremely high magic aptitude, he chose combat as his preference. This was all because television stations were vigorously promoting the combat system, while the magic system was being depreciated. Soon, the two arrive at the Lotus Guild's training ground. The moment he sees Lu Xinan, Zai Xuan is stunned. Lu Xinan says, "You're finally here. I've been waiting for you. How are the contract terms?" "I think the conditions I offered should be quite good." The conditions Liu Xinan gave Zai Xuan are all beneficial to him, and the treatment is almost what only a level or above hunters can enjoy. Zai Xuan says, "I just told manager Xingkai, before signing with you I have one more request." Liu Xinan says, "No problem. Whatever request you have, just say it." Zai Xuan says, "Before I make this request, I believe you've already seen my personal information. I've switched from combat to magic less than a month ago, so I'm not yet familiar with how to use magic. Chairman Liu Xinan, I hope you can personally teach me magic." Liu Xinan is one of the few S-level hunters in the world. Xingkai didn't expect Zai Xuan to dare make such a request. Zai Xuan continues, "If you can accept my condition, I'll sign the priority negotiation contract with the Lotus Guild." Liu Xinan says, "What an interesting request. I can agree to your request. After all, I'm interested in you. But before that, I want to confirm your talent, if you don't mind." But this is actually within Zai Xuan's expectations. After offering such good conditions, they would certainly want to test his abilities first. But Xingkai sees Liu Xinan's intentions from her expression. Liu Xinan quietly snaps her fingers. A tremendous magical power surges from behind her. Liu Xinan says, "This is the magic cube. From now on, you need to solve this cube." The magic cube is generally used by B-level or above magic hunters to understand magical resonance, and less than 7% of people can solve it. So, isn't it just right to showcase your abilities? If you're worthy of the Lotus Guild signing a priority negotiation right, you should at least be able to do this, right? Zai Xuan says, "From what you're saying, it sounds like you want to dampen my spirits." Liu Xinan says, "Why would I do that? Even if you fail, I'll still sign the contract with you, and the terms won't change. I promise you in the name of the Lotus Guild president. Xingkai, please help prepare." Xingkai says, "Chairman, the magic cube is a device that even regular magic hunters find difficult to solve, let alone Zai Xuan, who is not yet mature." Liu Xingyan says, "Do you think the child before us is an ordinary person? Don't worry, he's worth a try." So, Xingkai activates the magic cube for Zai Xuan. Although Zai Xuan had heard of the magic cube in his previous life, when he actually sees it, he's still quite shocked. Liu Xinan says, "Start whenever you're ready. I look forward to your good results." And so, under the watchful eyes of both, Zai Xuan slowly walked into the magic cube. Xingkai said, "Actually, I'm still a bit worried. I completely understand your curiosity about him, but he's just a child after all." Liu Xinan said, "Trust me, he can definitely do it." Xingkai said, "Why are you so certain? Perhaps this is what they call woman's intuition. Now, let's see how long it will take you to escape from the magic cube." The magic cube, with only a 7% success rate, surprisingly contains a vast sea formed by magical power. Although magic is an essential element when using skills, staying in a place with overly high magic concentration for too long will cause rapid decline in heart and lung function, even death. And there's only one way to get out of here. That's to find the single gateway connecting to the outside world among countless vortices. Zai Xuan calmed himself and began to sense the magical fluctuations around him. He felt something different in the vortex in front of him. After approaching the vortex, he discovered it was actually a crystal, and it seemed to be carrying all the magic power in this vast sea. Xingkai said, "From your expression, it seems you believe Zai Xuan will definitely come out of the cube. So how long do you think he'll need?" Liu Xinyan said, "I previously took 40 minutes, which is already the fastest time in the country. So now there are only two possibilities. First is that he cannot escape from the magic cube. The second is that he will create a new skill. And I don't think Zai Xuan will crawl out looking sickly." But in the next second, Liu Xinyan's eyes widened. She said, "Look over there." Hearing this, Xingkai quickly looked toward the magic cube. The magic cube was already showing signs of collapse. At that moment, the two outside looked at each other in astonishment, because it had only been 10 minutes since Zai Xuan went in. They were very curious about what happened to Zai Xuan inside. It turned out that, after discovering the crystal, Zai Xuan determined it must be the key to clearing the magic cube. So he immediately gripped the crystal in his hand. As the crystal was crushed in his hand, this sea of magic power also shattered. Zai Xuan also gained a new passive skill, Essence of Magic Utilization. But this scene caused great shock to the two people outside, because the magic cube only had a 7% escape rate, and those who wanted to escape from it needed more than 3 hours on average. Even S-Class Liu Xinan took about 40 minutes, and even Karami, who had the fastest time passing through the magic cube, took 36 minutes. Now this record has been broken by Zai Xuan, even beating the world record by 26 minutes. Xingkai excitedly said, "That's amazing, you only took 10 minutes. Liu Xin said, "I want to ask you a question. How did you escape from the magic cube so quickly?" Zai Xuan said, "I found a crystal in the cube. After breaking it, I came out." Liu Xinyan said in shock, "What? Broke it? You broke that crystal? That crystal contains all the magic power in the cube. Ordinary Awakeners can't even find it, let alone break it. This means the magic power within Zai Xuan is stronger than the magic crystal." Liu Xinyan said, "Zai Xuan, congratulations on passing the test. From today onwards, I'll stake the reputation of the Lotus Guild and my honor. I will definitely train you to become the most powerful mage. Are you ready?" The scene changes. Jin Yu King is waiting with Zai Xuan's mother for him to come home. At this moment, a Rolls Royce slowly appears in front of them. The next second, Zai Xuan steps out of that car. For a moment, the two can hardly believe their eyes. business. They even suspect that Zai Xuan has been kept by a wealthy older woman. Zai Xuan's recent unusual behavior has aroused Jin Yuqing's suspicion. Besides getting out of a mysterious luxury car, Zai Xuan has also given up his dream of joining the combat system. Although Zai Xuan explained that he switched to the magic system because he wasn't suited for combat. Jin Yuqing, who knows Zai Xuan well, doesn't believe these words at all. Zai Xuan had originally chosen the combat system, though it didn't suit him, to prevent his mother from suffering. Zai Xuan says, "Enough. Don't mention this matter anymore. Why did you come to my house? Are your parents on a business trip again?" Jin Yuqing says, "Yes, that's why I came to play with you. Auntie said I could stay overnight." Jin Yuqing is a genuine rich kid. Her parents sell monster products to various countries, so they often travel overseas for business, which is why Jin Yuqing is often alone at home. Because Zai Xuan's mother has a good relationship with her parents, Jin Yuqing frequently stays at Zai Xuan's home. Zai Xuan says, "Do you want to take this opportunity to teach me some magic theory?" Jin Yuqing says, "You want me to teach you for free?" Zai Xuan says, "What do you want? Tell me first, then I'll decide if I can agree." Jin Yuqing says, "Now that you mention it, I haven't thought about it yet. How about you help me fulfill one wish? Whatever wish I make, you have to help me fulfill it." Zai Xuan says, "I got it, but this promise expires in 1 year. If you don't make a wish within a year, it's void." Jin Yuqing says, "You stingy fellow, fine, let's do it that way." It turns out Jin Yuqing doesn't have the best memory. If it's a 1-year limit, Zai Xuan believes she'll definitely forget. Seeing Zai Xuan's mischievous smile, Jin Yuqing grabs a pillow nearby and throws it at him. In the past, Zai Xuan would have counterattacked without hesitation, but after experiencing so much, his current life feels incredibly warm and precious. Meanwhile, a powerful hunter is clearing a dungeon. In front of him lies a pile of monster corpses. This man is Ming Chengao, Zai Xuan's father. A soldier says, "Thanks to you, we were able to easily conquer this monster. It's been a long time since we've taken down a monster so easily. If you could join our guild, we would definitely become stronger. Would you consider joining our guild? If it's you, our Crimson Guild will definitely give you the best treatment." But in the next second, the man feels a terrifying aura emanating from Ming Chengao. Ming Chengao slowly turns around with nothing but emptiness in his eye sockets, and the soldier is firmly bound by invisible chains. Filthy and shameless, filled with vile greed. This is human nature. No, not just humans. After Ming Chengao disappeared, the soldier lost all memory of what had just happened. On the other side, on the first day after Zai Xuan signed the agreement, Liu Xinen wants to test Zai Xuan's sensitivity, and the testing method is a real combat session with Liu Xinen. Zai Xuan says, "Starting with actual combat seems too difficult." Liu Xinen says, "That doesn't sound like something you should say. You escaped from the magic cube in just 10 minutes. Come on, launch an attack against me." Zai Xuan doesn't say anything and directly assumes a combat stance. Liu Xinen immediately recognizes this as the standard combat system posture. Zai Xuan throws a powerful punch forward. Unexpectedly, the punch is easily caught by Liu Xinen. Zai Xuan didn't expect his attack to be ineffective. Liu Xinen is a magic system practitioner after all. Seeing his attack fail, Zai Xuan quickly creates distance between them. Liu Xinen says, "You don't seem to understand some things yet. You are no longer the combat system warrior you once were. How could a mage rush in without a plan? What do you think is the biggest difference between the combat system and magic system?" Zai Xuan says, "The combat system is close-range attack, while the magic system is long-range attack." Liu Xinen says, "Correct. Generally speaking, magic system hunters will weaken enemies from a distance first, then engage in battle. This is the most traditional combat method. But you always want to get close to the enemy, which would cause a magician with weak defense to fall quickly. What you need now is experience as a magician. From now on, I will also attack you. But don't worry, I won't let you get seriously injured, especially since I'm a healer. I know that wasn't your true strength just now. Now let me see what you're really capable of." Before she finishes speaking, Liu Xinen's attack comes straight at Zai Xuan. Fortunately, Zai Xuan manages to dodge this attack by instinct. Liu Xinen says, "Alright, now it's your turn to attack." Suddenly, electric light appears around Zai Xuan. In an instant, 3 lightning chains fly toward Liu Xinen. Liu Xinen remains standing in place, unmoved. At this distance, Liu Xinen definitely cannot dodge this attack. Liu Xinen says, "So it's A-level lightning chains. You really were hiding your abilities." The next second, Liu Xinen's attack arrives in front of Zai Xuan. Liu Xinen says, "Even the most powerful skill is meaningless if it doesn't suit you. But you really exceed my expectations. Although I deliberately reduced the power of my skill, I didn't expect you would still be standing. Can you handle this move?" In Liu Xinen's view, Zai Xuan's current state definitely cannot dodge her attack. But to teach him a lesson, she still releases her skill without hesitation. Unexpectedly, Liu Xinen's holy arrow dissipates in midair. The only explanation is that Zai Xuan calculated and destroyed her magic in such a short time. Liu Xinen says, "You always surprise me. How many more surprises are waiting for me?" Zai Xuan says, "That I can't say for sure." As soon as he finishes speaking, a lightning chain suddenly shoots up from the ground. Fortunately, Liu Xinen opens a protective shield in time to block it. But even so, Liu Xinen's hand still trembles uncontrollably. Before she can counterattack, several more lightning chains appear behind Zai Xuan. Liu Xinen now realizes that Zai Xuan seems able to release skills without incantations. With just a glance, he can make an S-class Awakener's magic ineffective. This is not something a novice magician should be able to do. But the magical power in Zai Xuan's body is also nearly depleted. Liu Xinen says, "You really are gifted, but you're still too green." Before Zai Xuan could figure out what happened, he was already lying on the ground. Liu Xinen says, says, "You don't actually think you could beat me, do you?" Despite saying this, Lu Xinan immediately pulls Zhaixuan up from the ground. After this battle, Zhaixuan also realizes the gap between himself and S-Class. However, Lu Xinan sees unlimited potential in Zhaixuan. Lu Xinan says, "Your battle style just now gave me an idea. A fighting style that everyone has considered, but no one has been able to implement. A style that only you can use. From now on, call me teacher. Congratulations on becoming my first disciple." After returning home, Zhaixuan still can't forget today's battle. "Hey, Zhaixuan, are you even listening to me? If you're going to be like this, I won't tutor you anymore. Now that you're paying attention, let's get to the point. There are many types of magic, but only 3 are most important: attack magic, buff magic, and healing magic." As Zhaixuan's understanding of magic continues to improve, the Norn system keeps sending pop-up notifications. It feels as if the system is urging Zhaixuan to grow quickly. Jin Yuqing says, "You're really amazing. Magic that takes others a month to learn, you master in 2 days." Zhaixuan says, "What's so special about that? You learned it in 3 days too." Jin Yuqing says, "Your growth rate makes me so anxious." Little does she know that Zhaixuan is actually more impatient than Jin Yuqing, because he has already bet his life with the goddess of death. Jin Yuqing says, "You know how surprised I was when you originally wanted to join the combat system? Even if the magic system doesn't make as much money, you still shouldn't ignore such a high compatibility." In an instant, countless chains appear before Zhaixuan's eyes. Then a man slowly appears behind him. The man walks step by step to Zhaixuan, then bends down and whispers something in his ear. Jin Yuqing says, "By the way, you must be practicing actual combat techniques too, right?" Zhaixuan deals with Jin Yuqing while recalling everything that just happened. He's not sure if what he just experienced was an illusion. He seems to have heard some strange voices, but Zhaixuan doesn't have time to process these things now, because he only has 2 months, unless he can get a miracle cure to break this situation. The scene changes. Shinkai is inspecting the Lotus Guild's training ground. His task is to discover problems with the new recruits and help them correct them in time. Seeing Liu Xinan arrive, he goes over to report today's training situation. However, Liu Xinan always appears distracted. Shinkai says, "You must be thinking about Zhaixuan." Liu Xinan says, "Indeed, nothing escapes your notice." Shinkai says, "If I remember correctly, the thing you want to teach Zhaixuan is something many hunters have challenged but none have succeeded in." Liu Xinan says, "You must have seen Zhaixuan's talent too. If a new S-class hunter appears in the magic system in the future, I believe that person will definitely be Zhaixuan. He will bring revolutionary changes to the magic system. In previous life, Li Zhaishang created a pill that could increase magic power, saving all of humanity. He chose to unconditionally publish the pill's formula, just to help hunters around the world. But even someone as selfless as him suffered endless humiliation during his student days. It turns out the pill would only be created by Li Zhaishang 5 years later, although Zhaixuan already knows the formula. What he makes following the steps is simply poison. With no choice, Zhaixuan decides to meet the current Li Zhaishang. With his talent, perhaps he could create the pill ahead of schedule. According to the current timeline, Li Zhaishang should still be a first-year student at Milas Academy, so Zhaixuan prepares to head to Milas Academy overnight. The ticket seller says, "Where would you like to go?" Zhaixuan says, "Please give me a ticket to City D." The ticket seller says, "Due to monster infestation, City D is currently closed. Monsters infest the entire city, and entering there would immediately put your life at risk." At this point, there's only one reason someone would still want to go to City D. That person must be a student of Milas Academy. Soon, Zhaixuan arrives at Milas Academy. Walking through the campus he once knew after many years, Zhaixuan feels no nostalgia, because this place had brought endless pain to young Zhaixuan. But his main task now is to find Li Zhaishang first. Li Zhaishang's father is the country's first S-class hunter. Living under his father's halo, he is always given high expectations. Therefore, Li Zhaishang is assigned to the combat system, but his skill level isn't outstanding. So Li Zhaishang, who dislikes fighting, probably wouldn't be at the training ground. Just as Zhaixuan is about to check the classroom, he suddenly hears noisy sounds coming from nearby. From the onlookers, he learns that someone with a stutter is being bullied. Recalling his own past, Zhaixuan decides to intervene. With a slight effort, he pushes through the crowd. Without any hesitation, Zhaixuan opens the door in front of him. At that moment, someone bumps into Zhaixuan. Seeing that he has bumped into someone, the stuttering person quickly apologizes to Zhaixuan. The blonde guy asks, "Who are you? What business do you have with our little stutterer?" And the Dutch stutterer the man refers to is none other than Li Zhaishang. Zhaixuan says, "Brother, are you okay?" Li Zhaishang is curious about who this person in front of him is. The blonde guy says, "I didn't know the little stutterer had a brother. You two don't look alike at all. I never heard him mention family. Thought the monsters had killed them all." Zhaixuan slaps away the blonde guy's hand and says, "I think you'd better go to the infirmary." The blonde guy says, "Don't you see I'm talking to the little stutterer? This is the second time you meet me. Why do I keep getting my collar pulled lately?" Zhaixuan begins to recall the magic theory Jin Yuqing taught him. Then, following how Lu Xinan releases skills in his mind, in an instant, a holy arrow hits the blonde guy directly. The blonde guy, in pain, immediately swings his sword at Zhaixuan, but the next second, the sword is bounced away. Zhaixuan has just used a magic field. Taking advantage while the blonde guy hasn't reacted, Zhaixuan grabs his face and says, "It's time to end this now." Then, the blonde guy is knocked unconscious by a holy arrow. Zhaixuan beats the blonde guy until he can't function, then pulls out a potion to heal him. Seeing the potion, Li Zhaishang panics as the potion is poured on the blonde guy's face. His injuries visibly improve. Zhaixuan says, "We should go to the infirmary now." Despite saying this, Zhaixuan Xuan walks in a direction that isn't toward the infirmary. Zai Xuan says, there shouldn't be anyone around here. Whatever we say won't be heard by anyone. Li Zaixiang instinctively thinks Zai Xuan is sent by his father, although Zai Xuan says he doesn't know his father. From Li Zaixiang's eyes, it is clear he doesn't believe these words. Li Zaixiang says, why did you come looking for me? Zai Xuan says, I have something I want to ask of you. I want you to help me make a drug. Li Zaixiang says, I won't make that kind of thing. Zai Xuan says, aren't you good at alchemy? You're the one selling this drug on the black market, right? You should know that no one can trace transaction information from the black market. But this very thing has happened. Li Zaixiang is very curious about who this person is and how he has investigated his personal information. Zai Xuan says, this drug was made by you, wasn't it? Li Zaixiang says, I don't even know what you're talking about. Li Zaixiang begins to regret putting the potion up for sale on the black market. He thinks it would be an absolutely safe transaction, but now it has become his weakness. Li Zaixiang says, please don't tell anyone about this. Zai Xuan says, I'm not saying this to threaten you. Then Zai Xuan hands the potion to Li Zaixiang. Zai Xuan says, I just need an excellent alchemist to help me make the drug I need. Looking at Zai Xuan, Li Zaixiang knows he isn't lying. Li Zaixiang says, who exactly are you? Zai Xuan says, I'm Ming Zai Xuan, a prospective new student at Milas Academy. Li Zaixiang says, then let me hear what you need. Soon, the two arrive at Li Zaixiang's workshop. Li Zaixiang says, what kind of drug do you want me to make for you? Zai Xuan says, I want a pill that can permanently enhance magic power. Li Zaixiang says in surprise, permanent enhancement? That's impossible. But the next second, Li Zaixiang begins analyzing the required raw materials. Zai Xuan notices his aura completely changes at this moment, no longer stuttering, and able to deduce most of the raw materials just based on requirements. Li Zaixiang says, for such a powerful drug, you should ask another alchemist. Zai Xuan says, I only want to ask you, senior. I will provide everything you need. If there's a formula, most alchemists could make that pill. But Li Zaixiang has talent that other alchemists can't compare with. Li Zaixiang says, I understand, but I can't guarantee success in the end. Zai Xuan says, it's okay, even if you fail, it's fine. Li Zaixiang says, but if I fail, it will cause you losses. Zai Xuan says, I'm willing to believe in your ability. An investment always comes with risks, doesn't it? This is the first time someone has such faith in Li Zaixiang. From birth until now, he has always lived under his father's shadow. Compared to his brothers, he never shows excellent combat qualities. This Li Zaixiang can't gain his father's approval, so Zai Xuan's trust deeply touches his heart. As days pass, Zai Xuan becomes familiar with the mage's fighting style. Now he wouldn't easily be defeated by Lu Xinan. He can even occasionally gain the upper hand in battle. And now it is time to meet the goddess of death. But Zai Xuan still can't be sure he can defeat the Shadow Spectre. Before departing, he visits Li Zaixiang again. Li Zaixiang has not disappointed him and creates the pill. After taking the pill, Zai Xuan's magic power increases by 15 points. Zai Xuan says, I told you, Senior really has talent. Li Zaixiang says, it's all thanks to your trust in me. Zai Xuan says, Senior, get some rest. You look like you haven't slept for days. Li Zaixiang says, contact me again if you need anything. After chatting, Zai Xuan leaves Li Zaixiang's workshop. And tomorrow is the day of his appointment with the goddess of death. I have a feeling we're about to have an esteemed guest. Early the next morning, Zai Xuan comes to the dungeon entrance again. After preparing, Xingkai opens the dungeon door. And so, Zai Xuan enters the dungeon alone once more. With experience from last time, Zai Xuan shows no panic during this teleportation. Soon he arrives at the realm of the dead. If he can defeat the Shadow Spectre, he would know the truth about his rebirth. At this moment, light comes from not far away. It is a skeleton archer already aiming at Zai Xuan. But now Zai Xuan is no longer the same person. He has learned two fighting styles. Generally speaking, this close-range attack can't match the combat system. Long-range attack can't match the magic system. Not particularly skilled in either. It's a very ambiguous profession. But Lu Xinan believes that if this person is Zai Xuan, it would be different. Meanwhile, Xingkai is waiting outside the dungeon for news of Zai Xuan. At this moment, he suddenly senses an unfamiliar aura. Xingkai immediately grips his weapon. It is his college junior, Yanju. The two haven't contacted each other since graduating from university. And now, Yanju has actively come to the dungeon. Yanju says, so you're here. I've been looking all over for you. Is this dungeon under your management, senior? It's strange. Managing a dungeon shouldn't be within your responsibilities. Actually, I've been curious about something. Is the rumor true that Chairman Lu Xinan is in poor health? Xingkai says, of course not. Where did you hear such gossip? Yanju says, many people are saying so. Our agent guild can find out quite a lot of information. Xingkai immediately realizes that the Lotus Guild has been infiltrated. Xingkai says, thank you for telling me. Thanks to you, I have work to do when I get back. Yanju says, there's one more thing. Do you know this child called Ming Zai Xuan? Recently, he's been frequently visiting the Lotus Guild and meeting with Chairman Lu Xinan. I wonder if you know the reason for this? Xingkai says, you don't need to worry about this matter. Yanju says, I didn't really expect you to tell me anyway. I know how tight-lipped you are. I came here only because I took money from the guild and had to put on an act. I'll be going now. Goodbye, senior. Meanwhile, Zai Xuan returns to the realm of the dead. This time he can easily handle the monsters here. After killing the minions, the Shadow Spectre finally appears. Zai Xuan says, long time no see. This time I'm different from before. After being attacked, the Shadow Spectre immediately counterattacks Zai Xuan, but Zai Xuan easily dodges its offensive. Even in midair, Zai Xuan doesn't miss the opportunity to attack, constantly using holy arrows to deplete the Shadow Spectre's health. This forces the Shadow Spectre to let Zai Xuan lands safely. After recovering, the Shadow Spectre immediately launches an offensive against Zai Xuan. 3 slashes fly straight at Zai Xuan. Unexpectedly, Zai Xuan simply sidesteps and easily avoids the Shadow Spectre's skill. Seeing this scene, the Shadow Spectre is stunned. Seeing Zai Xuan about to reach it, the Shadow Spectre immediately attacks Zai Xuan, but each of its attacks is easily dodged by Zai Xuan. Zai Xuan says, "You're panicking already? Not what you expected, is it?" As soon as he finishes speaking, several lightning chains fly straight at the Shadow Spectre. As an A-level skill, its power is much stronger than Holy Arrow, and Zai Xuan can freely control its attack angle. The Shadow Spectre clearly doesn't expect Zai Xuan's skill can change direction. Before it can react, it is firmly bound by the lightning chains. Zai Xuan understands that this damage alone isn't enough to kill it, so he immediately releases Holy Arrow to add damage. However, the Shadow Spectre's health also exceeds Zai Xuan's expectations. After taking so much damage, it enters a berserk state, and if Zai Xuan can't kill it within 10 minutes, he would die directly. Zai Xuan wants to use absolute calculation to destroy this skill. Unexpectedly, at the critical moment, Hell intervenes to stop him. Zai Xuan says, "Hell, why are you doing this to hinder me?" Seeing Hell not answering, Zai Xuan can only hurry to kill the Shadow Spectre. But to his surprise, the Shadow Spectre actually begins to actively flee to delay time. Zai Xuan has to use sacrifice to control it first. During Zai Xuan's skill casting interval, the Shadow Spectre begins to counterattack, not only interrupting Zai Xuan's casting, but also inflicting the fear status effect on Zai Xuan. Taking advantage of Zai Xuan's disorientation, the Shadow Spectre immediately charges over to drain his health. Fortunately, this attack doesn't inflict fatal damage on Zai Xuan, but simply dragging things out gives Zai Xuan no chance of victory. He decides to block its vision first. Seeing Zai Xuan charging forward, the Shadow Spectre instinctively wants to create distance, but it quickly realizes Zai Xuan is just standing nearby casting skills. Zai Xuan says, "You didn't really think I'd rush over and fight you head-on, did you?" Before he finishes speaking, intense light appears in front of the Shadow Spectre. The lightning chains hidden within strike its body directly. At this moment, Zai Xuan finally reaches the Shadow Spectre. The Shadow Spectre still tries to summon minions to delay time, but unfortunately, Zai Xuan has already set a trap. Because it detects an undead monster, sacrifice automatically converts to Light's Judgment. With only 3 seconds remaining, Zai Xuan finally defeats the Shadow Spectre. Zai Xuan thus earns the title, the first to pass the trial. Loki's choice is indeed justified. "Come, child, I invite you into my temple." Almost instantly, Zai Xuan is summoned to the temple gate. At that moment, a terrifying aura locks onto him. A monster charges out from the temple. Just as Zai Xuan is about to lose his life, a voice appears, "Garm, bring our guest in." Hearing this, Garm immediately changes direction, taking Zai Xuan into the Death Temple. Zai Xuan says, "Hell, I've come to see you." Hell says, "I didn't expect you would actually succeed. Congratulations, child chosen by fate to become a rebel. You perfectly passed the test I gave you." Zai Xuan says, "Why did you send the Norn system to me and give me this test? What is your purpose?" Hell says, "This is all to make you a rebel." Zai Xuan is curious why it is him. Hell says, "You were born with this fate, to rebel against the high and mighty Aesir gods, to kill the supreme god Odin. That is Loki's and our expectation of you." Zai Xuan says, "Have me eliminate Odin? I don't understand what you're saying." Hell says, "You don't need to understand. From the beginning, I never expected you to understand. You probably can't comprehend why you've been drawn into the gods' conflict. But you need to remember one thing. This isn't just about us Aesir dissenters. The entire world is developing toward its end, and Odin wants to dominate the entire world. To stop this, we need your power. Become stronger, and I look forward to seeing you again." Before Zai Xuan can say anything, he is forcibly sent away from the temple by Hell. Hell says, "Are you going to continue watching from the side? I don't recall inviting you." The old man says, "Please forgive this old man's rudeness. When I heard you met him, how could I sit still? This guy is loyal as always, no matter when." The old man continues, "By the way, how did it feel to see him in person?" Hell says, "It's too early to draw conclusions now. After all, he's just taken his first step." The old man says, "I think you seem quite satisfied with that kid." Hell says, "As a rebel, his growth has exceeded my expectations. He solved the problem I gave him and finally came before me. Although I miscalculated, I'm still happy." The old man says, "That's good. I'm relieved that everything is going well for him." Hell says, "Is that all you wanted to say? You must have something else to tell me, Mimir." The old man says, "I don't know what you're talking about." Hell says, "Cunning old thing, you still pretend to know nothing? The rebel's law of causality has clearly been distorted. Do you think I wouldn't notice? It seems your title as the wise giant is already a thing of the past. And the rebel's left eye, that was clearly what Odin sacrificed to the spring of wisdom. Aren't you going to explain? Mimir, what exactly are you and Loki planning?" The old man says, "Please forgive me. It's too early to tell you now. Just consider it all fate's arrangement." Hell says, "Fate, huh? Well, I'm used to waiting anyway, but I certainly won't stand idly by. According to the prophecy, countless hardships still await him. He needs a guide. To climb a high peak, one must have a guide ready to help point the right way." Meanwhile, Zai Xuan has been teleported outside the dungeon. Although he can't learn the truth, he receives Hell's blessing, immunity to all abnormal states. Park Ha-na gives Zai Xuan the opportunity to shop freely at the mall. But Zai Xuan can't be happy at all. Park Ha-na says, "Your expression doesn't look good. Have you encountered some trouble?" Zai Xuan certainly can't reveal his secret. He went to the realm of the dead, but didn't get the truth. Only more questions. Although he gains a new X-level skill. The price is to eliminate Odin. Zai Xuan is thinking while casually following Park Ha-na. Before he knows it, Park Ha-na is chatting with a salesperson. million. It turns out Park Han-na has chosen a magic dagger for Zai Xuan. Zai Xuan hasn't expected that a consumable item would cost as much as 300 million. Although Milas Academy provides supplies to new students, those things are generally of average quality. So Liu Xinan gives Park Han-na a long shopping list. Looking at the dense text, Zai Xuan breaks into a cold sweat. Although Park Han-na has already explained her purpose, Zai Xuan thinks they would at most buy some cards or pills, so it shouldn't take too much of his time. But now the situation has clearly exceeded his expectations. Park Han-na says, then let's go purchase armor now. But Zai Xuan has already obtained armor in the realm of the dead. This armor is already sufficient for Zai Xuan's current needs, and it provides the skill, invisibility. Hearing Zai Xuan muttering to himself, Park Han-na thinks he needs invisibility cards. Park Han-na says, this is indeed something every hunter wants, but it probably can't be bought in a place like this. Zai Xuan says, I was just talking to myself, don't think too much about it. Not many people learn invisibility skills anyway, right? If you're not lucky enough to find an invisibility card in a dungeon, you almost can't get one. Park Han-na says, that's right, only my brother in the whole country has the invisibility skill. Zai Xuan is curious about who Park Han-na's brother is. Park Han-na says, my brother is Park Xingkai. Don't you know? Zai Xuan never would have imagined that Park Han-na is actually Xingkai's sister. Their auras are completely different. Just then, some item resonates with Zai Xuan, and light appears before his eyes again. Zai Xuan quickly runs toward the direction of the light. He believes there must be some treasure waiting for him there. The scene changes to the training ground where fierce sword strikes approach a man. The white-haired man in front of him seems tireless. Each sword swing carries extremely strong aggression. The practice ends with Haoyan as the victor. Although the man's strength is also formidable, the difference in talent between them is too obvious. People say he will be the next S-class hunter for a reason. The man says, good job, don't be too proud, you were supposed to win this match. The boy says, I understand, father. The man says, prepare for the next schedule. We'll go shopping after you shower. And Haoyan is already tired of this mechanical life. The hunter he wants to become isn't like this. Meanwhile, Zai Xuan discovers that the treasure in front of him is actually mistletoe. This is the treasure that pierced the chest of Baldur, Odin's son, possessing endless magic power that can grow with its user. Zai Xuan is curious if this is another joke from the Norn system. He doesn't notice Haoyan passing behind him, and Haoyan is the genius most likely to become the next S-class. But he lives a zombie-like life. The current Haoyan is just like a chess piece in his father's hand, and apart from accepting this, he has no other option. And Haoyan says, do we need to buy so many things? His father says, someone destined to become an S-class hunter? How could you be reluctant to spend this little? And Haoyan says, but if we spend so much money, mother's hospital fees this month. His father says, shut up, I have my ways for the hospital fees. You just focus on training. And Haoyan can only stand like a puppet. He doesn't understand why he is here, like a monkey in a zoo for people to watch. He still remembers the first time he awakened his ability. His mother smiled and patted his head. From that time, he dreamed of becoming a hunter. But to his father, his dream is just something to be exploited. Haoyan becomes a machine, repeating the commands input by his father every day. Just then, a dungeon rift appears near the shopping mall. At that moment, Haoyan freezes in his tracks. His father says, what are you still doing there? Hurry up and come over. You're a genius who will control the nation's destiny in the future. If you get injured here, it will only be counterproductive for the opening ceremony at Milas Academy. But thinking of those ordinary people who can't protect themselves. And Haoyan immediately runs toward the dungeon. This is his only chance to prove he is a hunter. He wants to confirm one thing, whether he is still the child his mother can be proud of. But upon seeing the goblins, Haoyan stops in his tracks. This is his first time encountering these monsters up close. Even though they are just low-level monsters, they make him tremble uncontrollably. And Haoyan can only watch as the goblin in front of him charges toward him. He's terrified. At the critical moment, Zai Xuan arrives just in time to save him. The powerful impact sends Haoyan flying to the side. Zai Xuan asks, are you Haoyan by any chance? Going back 2.5 minutes, Zai Xuan purchased a mistletoe. At this time, Park Han-na just arrived at the store where Zai Xuan was. She was curious why Zai Xuan would buy such a strange stone. Before Zai Xuan could explain, a broadcast announced the appearance of a dungeon. Zai Xuan made the same choice as Haoyan, rushing toward the mall exit immediately. Because this is the choice all hunters make. As soon as he leaves the mall, Zai Xuan releases the holy arrow. The powerful magic instantly rains down on the goblin horde, but there are simply too many monsters. Zai Xuan can't kill so many goblins alone. And that's when he encounters the unfortunate genius in Haoyan. And Haoyan is curious who this person before him is. Zai Xuan says, we'll talk later. I need your help now. And Haoyan says, wait, there's something behind you. Before he can finish, Zai Xuan already kills the goblin behind him. Zai Xuan says, are you going to keep standing? Pull yourself together and take up your weapon. The moment he hears those words, all of Haoyan's anxiety and hesitation disappear. Zai Xuan's appearance is exactly what a hunter should be in his mind. Now they only have one thing to do. Kill these monsters and protect the ordinary people in the mall. Zai Xuan says, do you know how to use taunt? If possible, go and attract some monsters' attention first. There are too many goblins. You need to lure them as much as possible. And Haoyan immediately summons his weapon, then activates his skill, taunt. This is a more advanced skill than ordinary taunting. Learning such a skill at his age is why people call him a genius. Zai Xuan believes that the future in Haoyan will definitely become useful to him. Just then, a voice rings out, my god, what's going on here? Zai Xuan and Haoyan immediately look toward the source of the voice. The newcomer is actually a hunter who comes to support. He says, I'm Park Eun-hoon from the Hunter Association. Did you two kill all these goblins? Park Geun-hoon quickly recognizes In Hao-yan. This way, it makes sense that just the two of them killed so many goblins. Park Geun-hoon says, how should I report this to my superiors? Zai Xuan says, I was just about to talk to you about this. Please report that the association handled it. No one would believe we could kill so many monsters anyway. Park Geun-hoon says, but doing this is clearly against the rules. It would be against the rules if someone saw us. If you don't want to stand out, I'll help you handle this matter as discreetly as possible. Zai Xuan says, then give him the monster bounty too. Please keep my appearance here a secret. And Hao-yan says, wait a minute, what do you mean? You were the one who killed those monsters just now. Zai Xuan says, I'm sorry, I have my own circumstances. It turns out the Milas Academy opening is imminent. Zai Xuan doesn't want to risk being noticed by his father. Only by hiding his strength first can he have a chance for revenge when the critical moment comes. Meanwhile, and Hao-yan is caught in a dilemma. He shouldn't rightfully take credit for Zai Xuan's achievement, but with this money, he might be able to help his mother's illness. He wants to become a hunter with a clear conscience, but he also doesn't want his mother to die. Zai Xuan is also curious what In Hao-yan is hesitating about. Zai Xuan says, think carefully. Each of your decisions will lead to different outcomes. If you hesitate, someone will definitely lose their life. And Hao-yan realizes that if he loses the most important person to him, what would be the meaning of his dream? And Hao-yan says, if I have the chance, I'll definitely repay this favor. Just from their brief conversation, Park Geun-hoon can tell Zai Xuan has a maturity beyond his years. Park Geun-hoon says, since you seem to have reached an agreement, I'll do as you say. Zai Xuan says, now that it's settled, I'll take my leave. And Hao-yan says, please tell me your name and contact information. Zai Xuan says, no need to be so formal. We're the same age. Besides, I'm also a new student at Milas Academy. We'll see each other often. Time quickly arrives at the enrollment day of Milas Academy, and Hao-yan has the title of Combat System Genius. He quickly attracts the attention of nearby students. Another person who catches their eye is Shu Ruina. She is destined to top the hunter popularity rankings in the future. However, Ruina's situation is different from others. Zai Xuan can't easily recruit her, and there is no need to rush things now. He already has 3 companions with abilities far beyond ordinary people. Jin Yuqing says, no matter how pretty that girl is, you shouldn't keep staring at her. Hearing Jin Yuqing's words, Shu Ruina looks in Zai Xuan's direction. Just then, a voice rings out. New students of Milas Academy, I am Director Chu Zirin. The moment he hears the voice, Zai Xuan's expression becomes serious. A large part of his tragic life back then is due to Q Zirin. Zai Xuan says, you need to prepare yourself mentally. We can't predict what will happen here. Jin Yuqing says, you're actually worried about me? Don't worry, I'm quite capable. This is indeed true. After enrollment, Jin Yuqing becomes the 3rd ranked elite in the magic system. So this time, Zai Xuan will not let Jin Yuqing repeat the same tragedy. Fellow students, the Milas Academy enrollment ceremony now begins. We have prepared a special activity for everyone. That is a hunting activity between current students and new students in the subspace. The new student hunt officially begins. Jin Yuqing is startled by the magic circle that suddenly appears beneath her feet. At the critical moment, Zai Xuan grabs Jin Yuqing's hand in time. Meanwhile, Xingkai says, Zai Xuan's enrollment day is today, right? Lu Xinan says, so soon? I want to send him a message before his enrollment to cheer him up. If I send it now, he probably won't see it. Xingkai says, I already guessed what you were thinking, so I sent him a message yesterday on your behalf. Liu Xinan says, really? Did he reply? What does Zai Xuan say? Xingkai says, he says not to worry about him. At the same time, Zai Xuan and Jin Yuqing arrive in the subspace, and there is one more person besides them. The magic system genius who becomes S-class after Lu Xinan, Shu Ruina, who changes people's perception of the magic system. The scene shifts to the central control room of Milas Academy. Q Ziren observes the performance of the new students with the school's teachers. There are many talented individuals in this batch of students. Besides In Hao-yan, there are several potential stars. Shu Ruina, Jin Yuqing, Li Shuxian. Although they're in the magic system, they all score over 90 points. There's also a student who transfers majors midway whose information hasn't been updated. People who change their aspirations midway probably won't last long in our academy. Everyone who enters Milas Academy possesses extremely high talent, but among these people, there are already famous geniuses like In Hao-yan. We always need to provide some opportunities for those stepping stones. If they can awaken a second time, then we profit. Q Ziren's task is to screen out the most outstanding geniuses to offer to that person. We can't delay any longer, or that person will be angry. The Milas Academy enrollment ceremony is a hunting game conducted in the subspace. The subspace can break free from the constraints of time and space. Things impossible in reality can all be distorted into real forms here. Every year, 5% of students are eliminated here. Such a cruel activity is to make students experience their limits. So Zai Xuan must not let his guard down under any circumstances, especially in front of the magic system genius Shu Ruina. From now on, I will introduce the rules of the new student hunt to everyone. According to regulations, everyone can only use C-class skills or below. Whenever you take someone else's nameplate, you will gain a certain amount of points. For safety, we have already set the skill power to the minimum. So don't worry about getting hurt. Please actively participate in the game. Zai Xuan realizes he doesn't mention innate skills, and he doesn't explain the limitations of talents either. So his purpose is to eliminate some useless people in advance and discover gifted new students as early as possible. Zai Xuan says, we're going to be here for 3 days. Let's find a shelter first. There are various traps and facilities in the subspace. To survive here for 3 days, the most important thing is to find a shelter. Jin Yuqing says, wouldn't it be safer if we team up with that person? She seems to be a magic system student student like us. Although recruiting Zhu Ruina would be ideal, she is an extremely unpredictable factor. Future news repeatedly reports incidents where Zhu Ruina loses control, putting countless people in danger. So Zai Xuan says, this isn't something to decide lightly. How do you know she won't betray us? She's full of wariness. Her eyes are filled with distrust toward us. Jin Yu King says, but I can't feel any of what you describe. The feeling she gives me now is exactly like you when you were little. So Jin Yu King walks towards Zhu Ruina and says, if possible, would you like to team up with us? We're all from the magic system. This activity is disadvantageous to us new students. The more people we have, the easier it will be to fight. Zhu Ruina says, whether we team up or not might have to wait. Just then, a gust of wind howls past them. Someone says, I didn't expect to find 3 new students so quickly. It looks like it will be easy to get points this year. How can there be 3 people? I only sense 2. Quan Solv suddenly realizes he can't sense Zai Xuan's presence. Jin Yu King says, those 2 current students are from the combat system. We should escape from here. Zai Xuan says, we can't escape. We must settle this here. Because Quan Solv's innate ability can track his targets within 300 kilometers. The man says, since the points are right in front of me, I won't hold back. After saying this, Shen Junxiang charges straight at the 3 of them. Unexpectedly, Zai Xuan easily dodges his sword. Zai Xuan says, it's been a long time since someone swung a sword at me. Shen Junxiang says, there is no way I don't know the new student who is able to avoid my attack, especially since you're just a new student from the magic system. But in the next second, Shen Junxiang's sword is firmly grasped in Zai Xuan's hand. Zai Xuan says, I'm surprised someone as stupid as you has survived until now. Then, Zai Xuan crushes Shen Junxiang's sword. Zhu Ruina is shocked by the scene before her. Zai Xuan says, I'll give you 3 seconds to hand over your nameplate and I'll let you go. By now, Shen Junxiang is terrified. He can't react in such a short time. Zai Xuan punches him and says, I already gave you a chance, you didn't cherish it. Quan Solv hasn't expected his companion to be eliminated so quickly. Instructor Zheng Lixiu excitedly says, finally, a new student has taken a nameplate. Is there a system error? Why isn't it an Haoyan? Another teacher says, Instructor Zheng Lixiu, the system hasn't shown any abnormalities. Qiu Ziren says, Ming Zai Zhuan. I haven't heard this name before. Meanwhile, the woman asks in shock, who exactly are you? Zai Xuan says, I sent you a team invitation, hurry and accept it, let's deal with the other one too. Jin Yu King wonders why Zai Xuan suddenly becomes so strong. Beside her, Zhu Ruina says nothing and silently takes out her weapon. Even without Zai Xuan, it would be impossible for Quan Solv to win against 3 opponents. So she immediately decides to eliminate one first, then escape in the chaos. Unfortunately, her attack is dodged by Jin Yu King. If Jin Yu King were an ordinary person, this tactic might have worked. After dodging the attack, Jin Yu King immediately casts bind on Quan Solv. Quan Solv throws her dagger during a gap while avoiding the binding. Fortunately, Jin Yu King blocks her attack with magic. Zai Xuan knows Jin Yu King will have difficulty winning, but just as he is about to act, he hears Zhu Ruina chanting a magic spell. Zhu Ruina uses her innate skill, Sword of Alfheim. Almost instantly, Quan Solv is defeated by Zhu Ruina's skill. Only then does Quan Solv understand that all 3 new students before her are formidable. Zhu Ruina says, did I interfere with you just now? Jin Yu King says, no, you just saved me. Zhu Ruina says, is your earlier offer still valid? After these events, Zai Xuan feels it necessary to reassess his evaluation of Zhu Ruina. Perhaps she isn't as bad as the news portrays, just naturally suspicious and taciturn. After the 3 form a team, they arrive at the nearest shelter. There are footprints of others here. Looks like they've entered the shelter. Everyone stops searching and gathers here. They believe that new students capable of defeating current students wouldn't hide in a shelter for long, but they don't know that Zai Xuan's group has already detected their traces. A sudden attack takes down one of the current students in the crowd. This behavior is undoubtedly an insult to them. Following the magic trajectory, they discover Jin Yu King hiding nearby. Thus, they all fall into Zai Xuan's trap. Jin Yu King taunts, so many of you can't catch me, don't you feel ashamed? The opponent angrily says, you bastard, stand still. Jin Yu King is inwardly mocking these simple-minded fools. In fact, Zai Xuan has anticipated this situation early on. Although the shelter is safe, they can't stay there forever. Besides needing food, they also have to gain as many points as possible. So their goal is to attack and hunt current students. Just then, Jin Yu King activates the wind booster. They have reached the paralyzing spore mushroom cluster. Zai Xuan has previously found Li Zaixiang and asked him how to counteract the paralyzing spore mushrooms. Li Zaixiang said, although there's no prevention method, the juice of the large leaf plant can treat its poison. Zai Xuan said, being able to treat it is enough, thank you. So, Zai Xuan's group has been searching for the large leaf plant, because this game is tailored for the combat system. Every rule here is a favorable restriction for magic system students. For someone like Jin Yu King who has no innate skills, she has lost almost all means of attack. Zai Xuan says, we need to use basic skills to turn the tide. You know how to use swap, right? Zhu Ruina is curious how a magic that swapped positions with teammates could turn the tide. Zai Xuan says, don't worry, with it, we can make a big move. Back to the present, the current students also notice something unusual. If they continue chasing Jin Yu King, they will enter the paralyzing spore mushroom cluster. So they begin to hesitate whether to give up. One of them says, we've chased this far, are you thinking of giving up now? Another says, if we turn back now, we can still make it. That new student eliminated a current student and now you're saying this? Even if they're new students, if we all get paralyzed, we can't do anything about them. Even if we get paralyzed, that guy definitely won't escape. Park Songa, you stay here and guard outside the paralysis range for us. The rest follow me. I'll teach them the consequences of playing tricks. Zheng He clearly understands Jin Yuqing wants to lure them into a trap for her companions to ambush. But by now, he is completely consumed by anger. Moreover, they never take magic system new students seriously. He says smugly, "Little one, nowhere to run now, huh? You little bug of a girl, making things so complicated." Jin Yuqing says, "Really? I feel like you don't dare to come over. You were just talking big earlier, now why don't you dare to come?" Hearing Jin Yuqing's taunt, the current students immediately charge forward. Jin Yuqing immediately triggers the paralyzing spore mushroom at her feet. After the mushroom explodes, all creatures within 50 meters enter a 2-hour paralyzed state. Seeing this, Zai Xuan says, "Looks like it's our turn to appear." Zheng He hasn't expected Jin Yuqing to actually trigger the paralyzing spore mushroom. This action benefits none of them. Jin Yuqing says, "Time to switch, it's not my stage anymore." As soon as she finishes, a foot suddenly stomps on Zheng He's face. Zai Xuan says, "Respected seniors, it's my stage now." After saying this, Zai Xuan kicks Zheng He flying. Zheng He says, "You're really stupid to run into the paralyzing spore mushroom cluster yourself. Just to be safe, I had my companion guarding outside." Zai Xuan says, "I'm sorry, but that person probably won't be coming either." At the same time, a violent explosion sounds from the forest. Current student Park Songa has been eliminated, and the person who eliminates him is Shu Ruina. The moment Zheng He sees the system notification, he is completely stunned. Zai Xuan says, "Didn't I tell you? That person won't be coming." The spore mushrooms can paralyze everyone for 2 hours, yet they have no effect on Zai Xuan, only because Zai Xuan possesses Hell's protection, which makes him immune to all abnormal states. Zai Xuan thus becomes the only person who can move here. Zai Xuan says, "If you want to know why, go ask God." The other three can only watch as Zheng He is eliminated by Zai Xuan. Zai Xuan says, "Now there are only 3 of you left?" Meanwhile, the continuous score notifications startle the instructor teachers. Zai Xuan's group's score jumps to the top of the leaderboard. At the same time, Jin Yuqing drinks the juice of the large leaf plant to remove her paralyzed state. Having resolved the trouble, they prepare to rendezvous with Zai Xuan. Shu Ruina says, "Zai Xuan seems to understand magic very well. I've never seen such a usage of swap in textbooks." Jin Yuqing says, "He transferred to the magic system less than 3 months ago. I taught him the basic theory." Shu Ruina says, "Was he planning to join the combat system before?" Jin Yuqing says, "Just a few months ago he was still obsessed with the combat system. Back then he even looked down on magic. But how did he know the branches of the large leaf plant could remove paralysis? Where did he learn such things?" Soon, the two arrive at the meeting point. Zai Xuan says, "Has the paralysis on your body been removed? You two don't look very tired." Jin Yuqing says, "I just ran for my life and used magic once." Shu Ruina says, "I'm fine too." Jin Yuqing says, "You usually look kind of foolish, but today you seem different." Zai Xuan pinches Jin Yuqing's face and says, "Who are you calling foolish? How dare you say that?" In Shu Ruina's eyes, Zai Xuan doesn't seem foolish at all. In fact, he is quite handsome, exactly her type. But Shu Ruina quickly suppresses her thoughts. It is best to remain cautious for now. After dealing with them, the group returns to the shelter. Zai Xuan begins working on something in a pot. Shu Ruina asks, "What are you doing?" Zai Xuan says, "Making a potion to restore energy. I thought we might need it, so I asked a method from a brother I know." Jin Yuqing says, "A brother you know? Don't you have no friends?" Zai Xuan says, "Listen to yourself, as if you have friends other than me." Shu Ruina says, "Zai Xuan, you're really amazing. You don't seem like our peer. You look mature, as if you've lived 10 years more than us." Jin Yuqing says, "Stop chatting there. For tomorrow's action, we need to eat something." But Zai Xuan and Jin Yuqing have no talent in this area. Shu Ruina says, "I know a bit about cooking. Let me try. I live with my grandmother, so I cook every day." So Shu Ruina ties up her hair and prepares to show her culinary skills. Zai Xuan doesn't know much about Shu Ruina's family situation, but she lives with her grandmother. Zai Xuan guesses her parents might have met with some accident. Soon Shu Ruina prepares dinner for everyone. After eating, the two are amazed by the taste. Jin Yuqing is so excited she hugs Shu Ruina. They never expect to eat such delicious food here. Being with the two of them, Shu Ruina also experiences a long-lost sense of happiness, a hunting game tailored for the combat system. Yet Zai Xuan leads his team to the top of the leaderboard as a magic system student. This phenomenon shocks all the instructors observing. The much-anticipated student in Haoyan is currently ranked 4th. Even more unbelievable is that the current 1st and 2nd places are both magic system students. Until now, such results only appeared among combat system hunters. But now, no one knows how to explain the situation. 3 magic system new students are actually dominating the activity. Q Ziren says, "Play the footage from the paralyzing spore mushroom cluster again." In that situation, he is not only brave but also has amazing judgment, and even has the strength to defeat combat system students. Completely unlike the magic system, hard to believe he's a new student. But the data on Ming Zaishuan hasn't been updated yet. The subordinate says, "Director, we found information about Ming Zaishuan, but I don't know if this information is credible." Q Ziren says, "What do you mean you don't know if this information is credible? Calm down and explain clearly what's going on." The subordinate says, "You'll understand when you see his profile." Ming Zaishuan's magic system compatibility reaches 97%. The moment he sees this number, Qiu Ziren can hardly believe his eyes. At the same time, he can barely contain his joy. Qiu Ziren says, "I want to confirm personally what kind of talent he is." The subordinate says, "Do you mean to directly intervene in this test?" Qiu Ziren says, "I can't wait to meet this child. Let's design an interesting game." Meanwhile, Zai Xuan's group score has reached 1.1 million, firmly securing first place among new students. Since no current students are coming to the Nightmare Forest now, Zaishuan's group has to leave the shelter. To gain more points, they have to take action. Shuruina says, no choice, let's prepare then. The highest record for new student hunting is 1.14 million points. We should break the record and create new history. Zaishuan hasn't expected Shuruina to have such a strong competitive spirit. Just then, Zaishuan suddenly notices someone approaching. A violent slash comes straight at Zaishuan. This powerful force far exceeds C-class skills. It turns out that due to the subspace's instability, skill restrictions have been removed. At once, everyone looks toward the direction of the attack. Jin Yuking says, Zaishuan, are you okay? We're all new students. Why is he attacking us? Zaishuan says, I didn't expect we'd meet again this way. And Haoyan, what are you doing now? But Haoyan seems not to hear Zaishuan's words. Shuruina says, he looks like he's lost consciousness, as if being controlled by someone. Zaishuan immediately thinks this must be Q Ziren's doing, because the same thing happens on Milas Academy's anniversary. When Q Ziren's embezzlement is exposed, to escape legal punishment, he brainwashes the students, creating a terrible accident to divert attention, then disappears without a trace. That accident claims countless students' lives. Jin Yuking also falls into Zaishuan's arms that day. As a friend, Zaishuan certainly wouldn't fight with Haoyan. So what needs to be done now is to restore his consciousness. Just then, the Norn system suddenly sends a mission. Save the student under brainwashing magic, with the reward being a blank card. Zaishuan says, I can handle this alone. You should leave here quickly. Go as far as possible, and if you can, help me earn more points. Jin Yuking says, he's the combat system genius in Haoyan. How can you handle him alone? Zaishuan says, do you think I can't do it? Seeing Zaishuan like this, Shuruina immediately chooses to believe him. She says, understood. We'll go now. Jin Yuking says, Ruina, why are you also going along with Zaishuan's nonsense? Fine, I'll go. We'll handle earning points. But Zaishuan, don't get hurt. Come find us as soon as you resolve this problem. Zaishuan says, don't worry, I'll find you soon. Going back to a day earlier, and Haoyan eliminated many current students with his abilities. He had 600,000 points. Just one more day, and the game would end. He had tried his best, but still can't get first place. He never expected magic system people can take first place under these conditions. Even his teammates were ranked high. He can't help but recall his first meeting with Zaishuan. He was indeed impressive. If that's the case, I won't give up easily either. There's still time if I push harder. Just then a voice rung out. Student and Haoyan, I am Director Qiu Ziren. And Haoyan asked, what can I do for you? Qiu Ziren said, I need Student and Haoyan to help me with something, with a sharp pain shooting through his head, and Haoyan was brainwashed by Qiu Ziren. Why am I here? What was I going to do? I remember now, I need to eliminate Ming Zaishuan. Back to the present, and Haoyan sluggishly charges at Zaishuan, and Haoyan suddenly sends out a powerful slash, but Zaishuan easily dodges it with a light jump. Zaishuan recognizes this as his A-class skill, Ultimate Combat. Seeing his attack fail, and Haoyan immediately closes the distance with Zaishuan. Zaishuan wonders why and Haoyan suddenly becomes so strong. During their first meeting, his performance is quite ordinary, but in Haoyan's proficiency now is completely different from back then. And physically, Zaishuan can't match in Haoyan, and Haoyan can send Zaishuan flying with just his shield. Zaishuan can only rotate in the air to disperse this enormous force. After stabilizing, he immediately activates Wind Booster. Now Zaishuan's speed far exceeds in Haoyan's. He uses this advantage to get behind in Haoyan, planning to use Lightning Chain to end this meaningless battle. Unexpectedly, and Haoyan quickly widens the distance between them. His body reacts before his eyes can track Zaishuan's movements. Truly a genius born with exceptional battle instincts. Zaishuan knows dealing with him might not be as easy as he thought, although using absolute calculation can remove the brainwashing. The problem is that Qiu Ziren is certainly watching this battle from the control room, probably with a lecherous smile on his face. But now Zaishuan's competitive spirit has also been provoked by Haoyan, and he wants to make Qiu Ziren pay. Even though he is a magic system student, he fights in close combat like the combat system, and even has the upper hand in battle. It should be noted that Zaishuan's opponent is the combat system genius and Haoyan. This scene makes the instructors unable to believe their eyes, because the magic system can never defeat the combat system. That is the truth he has felt deeply when he takes the path of the magic system. But such a thing is happening right before everyone's eyes. By now, Haoyan has been beaten to the point of being unable to fight back. Zaishuan says, I didn't mean to be so harsh, but your body is sturdy. You'll probably get up soon. Now it's time to deal with them. Zaishuan looks toward the people in the control room. The next second, the monitoring screen turns into a white light. What happens? Why does the screen suddenly become like this? Qiu Ziren grabs the remote from the instructor, but no matter how he presses it, the screen remains unchanged. It seems he casts a magic to cut off the feed. It's a flash bomb trying this trick on me. Qiu Ziren says, Instructor Kim Seok-ji, listen carefully. After the activity ends, have this student called Ming Zaishuan come to my office. Instructor Kim Seok-ji says, is it okay for us to make decisions so quickly? Qiu Ziren says, Instructor Kim Seok-ji, do you know why he uses magic to cut off the screen after winning? Because he knows how to increase his value. Meanwhile, Zaishuan arrives in front of Haoyan. Then he uses absolute calculation to remove his brainwashing. Zai Xuan says, "Are you more clear-headed now?" And Haoyan tries to get up but finds his body in excruciating pain. Finally, he collapses on the ground, convulsing. Zai Xuan says, "I'm sorry, you suddenly charged and attacked me." And Haoyan says, "I attacked you? Why would I do such a thing?" Zai Xuan says, "You were under a mental control magic." Only then doesn't Haoyan recall that he seems to have heard a voice. But such magic definitely exceeds A class. The subspace has restricted skill levels. Zai Xuan says, "Maybe the subspace suddenly has a problem, or someone intervenes here." And Haoyan says, "Do you know who this person is? Why would they do this?" Zai Xuan says, "I can't guess these things either, but since they could create such a grand scene, this person must not be someone ordinary people can easily provoke." But Zai Xuan believes that in the future, and Haoyan will definitely see through Q Ziren's true face. And Haoyan struggles to get up, but finds the pain in his body hasn't lessened. In contrast, Zai Xuan stands nearby as if nothing has happened. Thinking of the gap between himself and Zai Xuan, he clenches his fists and says, "I'm really sorry, truly sorry." Zai Xuan says, "I'll go now, keep up the good work." But at this moment, and Haoyan throws something to Zai Xuan. Zai Xuan opens his hand to find it is actually in Haoyan's nameplate. Zai Xuan says in surprise, "What are you doing? You should know that without a nameplate, you're essentially eliminated." And Haoyan says, "Although I can't match you, I also have quite a few points. And since I lose to you, this should belong to you. But next time I definitely won't lose again, and I'll take back the nameplate with my own hands." Although this thing is only worth 10,000 points, for Zai Xuan, it holds extraordinary significance, because he once desperately craves the abilities of the combat system, craves recognition from combat system geniuses. This sense of achievement is unprecedented. The child who can once only envy combat system hunters has now defeated a combat system genius with his own hands and gained his recognition. This is the most fulfilling thing Zai Xuan has done since coming back in time. He can clearly feel that he has moved beyond his fragile past. Soon the freshman hunting game ends. Zai Xuan breaks previous records with 1.53 million points. Jin Yuqing says, "You've broken the record. Shouldn't you be a bit happier?" "I'm right, aren't I, Ruina? If we had another hour, we could have broken 1.6 million points." Jin Yuqing says, "Forget it. Anyway, these points are enough for me to splurge for a while." Zai Xuan says, "Of course, multiply our points by 10, and it's about the same as money in the real world." Jin Yuqing says, "So you've earned about 15.3 million? Zai Xuan says, since I ranked first, with you two tied for second, there should be an additional 1 million point bonus." Hearing she'd earned so much money, Jin Yuqing can't help wanting to pounce on Zai Xuan. Unlike them, other students can only cast envious glances. Just then, a tall figure passes through the students. "Hello everyone, I am your instructor Jin Shiji." Hearing this, the two immediately greet the instructor. Instructor Jin Shiji says, "Send, I have something to tell you. There are too many people here, how about we go somewhere else?" Zai Xuan says, "Are you going to talk about our results in this freshman hunt?" Jin Shiji can only nod silently in response. Zai Xuan says nothing and walks past Jin Shiji. Instructor Jin Shiji says, "Shouldn't you ask where I'm taking you?" Zai Xuan says, "A director's office. Am I right, instructor?" So the three follow Jin Shiji to Q Ziren's office. Where is the director? How can he summon us but not be here himself? Seeing such an arrogant Zai Xuan, Jin Shiji dares to be angry but not speak out. "You two should also sit down and wait." Unlike Zai Xuan, Jin Yuqing and Shu Ruina only dare to obediently listen. A voice rings out, "Sorry to keep you waiting, I'm late." Jin Yuqing and Shu Ruina greet politely. "Hello, I'm Jin Yuqing from the Magic System Freshman. I'm Shu Ruina." Q Ziren says, "Seen I know you both, student Jin Yuqing, student Shu Ruina." Zai Xuan says, "You are indeed late. I was almost falling asleep waiting." The two haven't expected Zai Xuan would say such things. Jin Shiji is also stunned by Zai Xuan's attitude. For a moment the whole office is dead silent. Q Ziren says, "I'm really sorry. To better converse with you all, I needed some time to prepare." Zai Xuan says, "Kono, we should be the ones apologizing. We've been roughing it in the subspace for 3 days, and came here without even having a chance to clean up." Q Ziren apologetically says, "That was inconsiderate of me." After several probes, Zai Xuan discovers that Q Ziren is showing weakness to them, meaning he doesn't want to miss out on the talent before him. Q Ziren continues, "I've brought what should be a good proposal for you all, so please forgive me. Listen carefully. First, congratulations to the 3 students who rank in the top 3 in this hunt, especially to Ming Zai Xuan, who achieves first place. Not only that, but you also break the record with an overwhelming advantage. This achievement is truly incredible and quite surprising to me." Zai Xuan says, "What exactly are you trying to say? Couldn't you be more direct?" Q Ziren says, "Our Milas Academy plans to offer some benefits to the 3 of you. First, you can use the suites in the dormitory building for free. Second, all 3 of you have priority access to facilities that require reservations. Third, if you're not satisfied with your exam results, you can apply for a retest. In addition to the benefits I just mentioned, you 3 students can also sign this agreement to become partners with Milas Academy." Zai Xuan says, "Those benefits sound good, but we could earn those things with our own abilities within a month. After all, Milas Academy is a place where strength speaks. I don't understand why we need to pay tuition and sign an agreement. Let me see the agreement first." After signing the partnership agreement with Milas Academy for 5 years, as hunters, we must donate 30% of our income to the academy. Zai Xuan angrily says, "Director Q Ziren, this isn't a benefit, it's a trap." Q Ziren says, "If that's how you see it, there's nothing I can do. This agreement isn't mandatory. Whether to sign it is up to you 3. After hearing Zai Xuan's words, Jin Yuqing and Shu Ruina exchange glances. The two quickly decide not not to sign the agreement. Q Ziren says, what a pity. It's really a pity. This is the best offer I can make for you all. Perhaps you haven't thought it through yet. I can give you another chance. Ming Zishuan, do you still not want to sign with me? Q Ziren doesn't know that Zishuan has been waiting for him to activate his brainwashing skill. Due to Hell's protection, Zishuan won't be affected by the brainwashing. Zishuan says, I've made myself very clear. I don't want to sign that agreement. If there's nothing else, we'll be leaving. Being called to the office right after 3 days of combat, we really need to rest. And so, the three of them pass by instructor Jin Shiji again. After hearing these conversations, Jin Shiji is terrified with cold sweat. Only Q Ziren and Jin Shiji remain in the office. Q Ziren says, Instructor Jin Shiji, you can leave too. He's just a freshman, yet he can resist my innate ability. Ming Zishuan, you make me want you even more. Meanwhile, Zishuan asks, are you two really okay with this? You just rejected Q Ziren's proposal. Jin Yuqing says, at first I was tempted, but after hearing what you said, it made a lot of sense. Shu Ruina says, I was also suspicious of that agreement, and felt refusing was the right choice. If we receive special treatment from the beginning, it would definitely be unfair to others. Those things should be earned through our own abilities. Zishuan says, that's good, I actually hoped you would reject the agreement. Jin Yuqing says, don't you find it strange? When we rejected his proposal, his expression became terribly gloomy. Shu Ruina says, I also feel something's wrong. The first activity after enrollment already had issues, but neither of them mentioned anything about it. Ming Zishuan, do you know any inside information about Director Q Ziren? Hearing Shu Ruina's words, Zishuan stops and says, why would you think that? Shu Ruina says, you previously seemed too composed for a freshman, but you were unusually hostile toward the director. Zishuan says, I'm not entirely sure, but it's not convenient to talk about now. But there's one thing I can tell you. Don't trust anyone, whether it's the director or the instructors. Zhu Ruina says, in that case, does that mean we can't trust you either? Jin Yuqing says, that's right, you can't trust him either. Look at his fierce face, he even abandoned me alone in the middle of the road before. As she speaks, Jin Yuqing pounces on him saying, do you know how much I suffered then? After some playful scuffling, Zishuan pushes Jin Yuqing away, saying, alright, let's head back. Zhu Ruina says, then let's part ways here. Jin Yuqing looks at the two standing awkwardly and says, are you two acting out a teen romance drama? Want to include me too? Zishuan says, the girls' dormitory is on the left, the boys on the right, hurry back and rest. Shu Ruina says, then we'll head back first. Zishuan, you should get some good rest too. Tomorrow is our first class. See you tomorrow. Zishuan returns to his dormitory again, the moldy room, the creaking floor. All the coldness he had suffered as a helpless poor student remains here. Zishuan hasn't experienced this feeling for a long time. Early the next morning, students have already gathered in the equipment room. Magic System students. Hello everyone. My name is Jin Jian. I'm the main instructor for the basic magic adaptation class. Zishuan realizes that he doesn't seem to have any memories of her from his previous life. Perhaps because he was in the combat system then, and Jin Jian left Milas Academy shortly after. This isn't difficult to understand. Being an instructor at Milas Academy is notoriously difficult. Of course, there are also people like Jin Shiji who stay at Milas Academy out of desire for Q Ziren's money. Jin Jian says, you may be surprised why our first class isn't in a classroom, but instead has you gather at this large facility. The reason is simple. Today I want to test everyone's magic sensitivity. The doorway behind Jin Jian emits magic similar to the magic cube. Many students are frightened by this aura, but Zishuan has already noticed the differences between them. The magic concentration behind these doors is much lower than the magic cube. The device before you is called a magic room. It's an improvement on the magic cube used by regular guilds. For current students, conquering a magic cube is almost impossible. So our Milas Academy has prepared this for you. It consists of multiple small rooms. The first room has a magic concentration similar to air, and it gets denser as you go further. Generally, freshmen can endure up to the 3rd stage. Graduates can endure about the 7th stage. This class is for everyone to confirm how much magic concentration they can bear. Hearing Jin Jian's words, Shu Ruina can't help but clench her fists. All students, please line up behind me. If you feel unwell during the process, raise your hand immediately, and assistants will help you out. Now let's officially begin the test. From the second room, some students can't withstand the magic concentration. These people leave the magic room with the help of assistants. By the 3rd room, more and more students can't bear the pressure. The 3rd room is about the average level for freshmen, and nearly half the people have given up by now. By the 5th room, very few students remain. Jin Yuqing says, are you feeling short of breath? Zishuan says, I'm fine. Seeing that Zishuan can easily handle the magic concentration in the room, Shu Ruina is determined to work harder. By the 6th room, only 4 students remain. They are all top ranked in the freshman hunt. Jin Jian inwardly sighs. Q Ziren had reason to make her pay attention to Ming Zishuan, but she has no intention of obediently following Q Ziren's orders. We're about to enter the 7th room. Everyone must remember, if you feel uncomfortable, raise your hand immediately. The 7th room is already at the level of graduates. Next, we'll enter the 8th room. Does anyone feel uncomfortable? Seeing everyone looking composed, Jin Jian walks into the 8th room first. After entering the 8th room, Jin Yuqing and Li Shuhei are the first to show discomfort. Zishuan, however, still looks completely at ease. From here on, the magic concentration in the device changes constantly like in a dungeon. Even geniuses start to struggle from this point. Next, we'll enter the 9th room. Almost the moment she enters the room, Shu Ruina's body can't take it anymore. Zishuan, who enters the room after her, immediately calls her name. Jin Jian hears the sound and looks back, remembering what Shu Ziren said. Instructor Jin Jian, remember, no matter what situation students encounter, you cannot help. Crisis is also an opportunity for students. If you take away opportunities before their eyes, they would be very hurt. Zishuan Xuan says, Ruina, are you okay? Ruina says, I'm fine, I can continue. But the scene before Ruina's eyes is already blurry. Her heart tells her that she absolutely cannot lose. This is a world where only the strong survive. What if you have a talent for magic? You still have to be inferior to the combat system. If she can't be recognized here, there would be no place that could recognize her. Eventually, Ruina is carried out on a stretcher by assistants. After Ruina leaves, Xuan enters the 10th room without looking back. Even Jin Jian finds it difficult to breathe from this point. But when she enters, she finds Xuan still appears as calm as ever. Xuan says, I'm also having trouble enduring, let's stop here. Jin Jian says, then come out with me this way. Jin Jian knows very well that what Xuan just said can't be true, because he looks even more relaxed than she does. The magic room test can reveal a mage's potential. When most students are still stuck in the 3rd room, Xuan can already adapt to the magic concentration of the 10th room. Ming Xuan has broken through the 10th stage of the magic room. This means he has already reached the level of a B-rank hunter, or has the potential to reach even higher. Everyone should work hard to catch up to him. Although Ruina wants to beat Xuan, the 9th stage is already her limit. Xuan says, Ruina, are you alright? Ruina says, sorry for worrying you, they said it's just a common magic poisoning phenomenon. Jin Yuking asks, are you okay? You seemed quite normal earlier. Xuan says, I'm fine, but could you take the towel off your neck? I was actually worried about you. Are you feeling better now? Is there anywhere uncomfortable? Jin Yuking says, I also don't have any problems. After asking Jin Yuking, Xuan gives Ruina another look. He originally thought Ruina just had a strong competitive spirit, but after experiencing this incident, he discovers that Ruina is clearly forcing herself. Although she isn't injured this time, with her personality, she'll be troublesome to manage in the future. While Xuan doesn't intend to control these people's fates, with his intervention, their futures have indeed already begun to change. So Ruina's future is also very likely to change. Of course, Jin Yuking also can't possibly die at the academy like in his previous life. Seeing Xuan looking at her, Jin Yuking says, why are you staring at me? Is it because I'm too beautiful? Xuan says, are you really okay? From the way you talk, you seem quite sick. Xuan doesn't know how much impact his actions will have on the future, but the current situation changes rapidly. To stay one step ahead, he must prepare in advance. Jin Yuking says, what are you muttering about? Say something I can understand. To prevent involving Jin Yuking, Xuan must divert her attention. So he puts the towel on Jin Yuking's head and rubs it vigorously. After removing the towel, Jin Yuking's hair has become a bird's nest. Jin Yuking angrily says, you damned brat, this is the hairstyle I worked so hard to do this morning. Xuan says, you look the same whether you style your hair or not. Jin Yuking says, so now you're saying I'm ugly. Xuan realizes he said something wrong and immediately runs away. Ruina says, even though I'm the one who should go to the infirmary, why do I feel like Xuan might end up more seriously injured? But Ruina's eyes still reveal a hint of envy. Their relationship is really good. Meanwhile, Li Shuhei is also observing the two people horsing around. He doesn't understand how Xuan broke through the 10th stage of the magic room. Li Shuhei, what are you thinking about standing there alone? Li Shuhei says, Jin Mingju, how much do you know about that guy? Tell me everything. Jin Mingju says, don't you know who Ming Xuan is yet? Analyzing other students' abilities is a required course. He's the first magic system student to get first place in the freshman hunt. Li Shuhei says, I already know all that, I want to know where he came from. But Jin Mingju doesn't know about this matter either. I just feel there's something strange about him. He's definitely hiding something. Jin Mingju still hasn't adapted to Li Shuhei's change. Jin Mingju says, you don't think he pulled strings from the beginning, do you? Li Shuhei says, if he didn't use connections, no one could be stronger than me. Hearing this, Jin Mingju feels awkward inside, because Li Shuhei has actually already been surpassed by Ruina and Jin Yuking. Jin Mingju says, don't be so stubborn this time. No matter how hard you try, you can't do anything to Ming Xuan. But before he finishes speaking, Li Shuhei has already left. What a Chunabu guy, this part of him never changes from childhood to adulthood. Jin Mingju shouts, Li Shuhei, wait for me, let's go together. Meanwhile, since Xuan hasn't contacted Lu Xinan for days, Lu Xinan takes the initiative to contact Xuan. Xuan says, you must want to hear about my performance in the freshman hunt. Lu Xinan says, that's right, it's more interesting to hear it directly from you. Xuan says, you probably already anticipated the result, I got first place. Lu Xinan praises, our Xuan is really remarkable. Xuan asks, is Xingkai also with you? Lu Xinan says, yes, hearing you say this makes him happy too. No wonder you live in such a nice environment despite being a freshman. It seems you've earned quite a few points. Surviving at Milas Academy is famously difficult. You've already had a successful start. As your teacher, I'm very proud. Xuan says, that's great. I was quite worried you'd scold me if I got second place. Liu Xinan asks, did you meet any particularly outstanding students during the freshman hunt? Xuan says, are you looking to recruit some talented people? Liu Xinan says, I do have that idea. If you can provide information, I'll give you appropriate compensation. Xuan says, providing information isn't difficult, but it's too formal if you still give me compensation. Liu Xinan says, because I know that after some time, even 10 times this compensation won't be enough to invite those people to our guild. Xuan says, then I'll tell you, in the magic system, Ruina and Jin Yuking, and in the combat system and Haoyan, these three are talents worth recruiting for the Lotus Guild. Besides these freshmen, I also know of a very good talent among the current students. That person is Li Zaixiang. Liu Xinan says, I know him too. Isn't he the youngest son of S-rank hunter Li Zaiqian? That child's talent is somewhat inferior to his brother's, so he doesn't get much attention in the family. But still, family is family. If we recruit him to the Lotus Guild, it might create friction with the Wind God Guild, where Li Zaiqian works. Do you think it's necessary for us to take this risk and recruit that child? Zai Xuan says, yes, I think it's very necessary. He will become one of the world's top alchemists in the near future. What do you think? Would you welcome his joining? Lu Xinan says, with your guarantee, of course I would welcome him. After chatting with Zai Xuan, Lu Xinan's mood is noticeably better. At this time, Shinkai says, Chairwoman, Park Ji-hyun has arrived. I know, please show him in. A blonde woman enters the room under Park Hana's guidance. After Park Ji-hyun enters, Park Hana immediately waves to Shinkai. Understanding Park Hana's hint, Shinkai quietly leaves the room. Lu Xinan says, you're quite punctual. Park Ji-hyun says, for us business people, time is money. It's been a long time. Liu Jin-en says, we're not close enough to be happy to see each other. Please sit down. So, what brings the chairperson of the Planner Guild to see me? Park Ji-hyun says, going straight to the point. If you ask like this, our relationship can never improve. But I don't dislike this kind of relationship either, as it avoids wasting time. Lu Jin-en says, what exactly do you want? Park Ji-hyun says, I hear the Lotus Guild is currently focusing on nurturing a particular talent. That child, why don't you name a price? With these words, the room instantly falls silent. Liu Jin-en says, I'm sorry, I've never thought of treating Lotus Guild members as money-making tools. Park Ji-hyun says, do you think that child thinks the same way? Lu Jin-en says, there are many things in this world that money can't buy. You just don't know it yet. As a business person, Park Ji-hyun doesn't take these words to heart at all. Park Ji-hyun says, anyway, I didn't expect you to accept my proposal. I just thought that out of courtesy, I should speak with you first. Lu Jin-en says, but your so-called courtesy really makes me uncomfortable. Park Ji-hyun says, if that's the case, it's really a pity. You don't seem willing to continue talking with me, and it's getting late, so I'll take my leave. Lu Jin-en says, as expected of a business person, you're really good at reading people's faces. Park Ji-hyun says, of course, this is my basic quality as a business person. Meanwhile, Zai Xuan and the others also welcome the second day of physical ability testing. Everyone is watching the test results about to be released. Zai Xuan is curious what level he can achieve in this life. Soon the physical ability test results appear before everyone. Seeing these results, Zai Xuan feels a bit disappointed. As expected, I still can't compare to the combat system geniuses. While there's no need to rush, the fact is he still can't achieve his goals now. Zai Xuan quietly glances at an Haoyan standing nearby. The last person slowly leaves. Jin Yu King says, what's going on with you? How can you, a magic system hunter, rank second only to an Haoyan? Moreover, this is a physical ability test. Does that make any sense? Zai Xuan says, there's nothing strange about it. I was originally in the combat system. Don't focus all your attention on magic. Your body is the foundation of revolution. Jin Yu King says, just you wait. Someday I'll give you a good beating. After this test, Jin Shiji also realizes Zai Xuan's danger. Because generally speaking, magic system people absolutely cannot possess this kind of physical ability. From now on, we'll conduct the second physical ability test, AR Space Evasion Test. This test checks students' abilities and lets them know their limits. This is the legendary AR testing space, which gathers the top technology of our Milas Academy. You will all undergo an evasion test here. Simply put, it constructs hyper-realistic virtual enemies for students to fight to improve their combat abilities. Originally, everyone should resolve virtual monsters formed by drones. But since this is just a physical ability test, we'll only simply assess your evasion abilities. Of course, if you can defeat the monsters, we'll give higher scores. Although Zai Xuan is very dissatisfied with him, Jin Shiji is correct on this point. Because the basic job of hunters is to hunt monsters. Hunters without sufficient attack power aren't considered successful. Next, Jin Shiji distributes something to the students. What is this thing that looks like a headset? This is a kind of receiver, used to assist the combat system and enhance reality. You're right, student Ming Zixuan knows quite a lot. This device can stimulate the brain to make the enemies constructed by projectors feel real. AR combat makes monsters appear in front of you through drones. The greatest significance of this device is its safety. Although they're monsters, they're virtual, so no one gets hurt. The receiver stimulates brain waves, transmitting about 1/5 of the enemy's attack damage. But the reason for doing this isn't to harm students, but to give them appropriate tension, thereby improving their survival rate in dungeons. This AR system has 100 stages, but today's test will only go up to the 10th stage. The test will be in groups of 4. Students whose names are called will form a group, then test in sequence. Zai Xuan and Li Shuhei are assigned to the 3rd group. Each group mostly consists of 2 combat system students plus 2 magic system students, and each group's strength is quite evenly balanced. Li Shuhei walks towards Zai Xuan and says, so you're the guy called Ming Zixuan. I hear you got first place in the freshman hunt. I still can't understand how a magic system student could get first place. I feel there must be some special reason. Zai Xuan says, what if I say there's no such thing? Li Shuhei says, then I'll have to find out myself. Even if I have to use force, I'll definitely find the truth. Zai Xuan says, why not just be straightforward about your purpose from the beginning? Just say you want to fight me. Li Shuhei says, you're quite direct. That's exactly what I want. The 2 combat system students have fierce expressions. Since they're in the same group, they still feel they should ease the tension between the 2. Next is the 3rd group. Students in the 3rd group, please come up quickly. Hearing Jin Shiji's words, Zai Xuan immediately walks toward the AR equipment. Although Li Shuhei is very dissatisfied, the test still takes priority. The first stage enemy is skeleton soldiers. The moment the monsters appear, Li Shuhei retreats to the back of the team. No one expects Zai Xuan to charge directly toward the monsters. The 2 combat system members want to call Zai Xuan back. After all, in people's understanding, magic system people rushing to the front lines during battle is suicide. Actually, Zai Xuan is also curious why people still dare to provoke him at this point. To reduce unnecessary trouble in the future, he must show his skills here. With Zai Xuan's punch, the skeleton soldier is instantly killed. This is something no one expected. Even Jin Jin Yu King and Shu Ruina outside the arena are shocked. Next, more skeleton soldiers appear. But without exception, these monsters are all one-punched by Zai Xuan. It turns out this is an active skill Zai Xuan learned, magic armor. This is a special skill that ordinary mages absolutely cannot learn. But it's not that this skill is rare, it's because this skill increases a mage's physical damage. So for other mages, this skill is useless. But for Zai Xuan, it can greatly enhance his combat power. In this way, Zai Xuan passes the 10-stage AR evasion test, even breaking the record. And all of this is thanks to Lu Jianen's hands-on combat teaching. Although each teaching session gave Zai Xuan a chilling feeling, the facts prove that Lu Jianen's teaching method is very effective. Li Xiuhe says, "What kind of trick did you play?" Zai Xuan says, "What you just saw is everything." Li Xiuhe says, "You, a magic system student, charge to the front and then single-handedly sweep away the enemies. Who would believe such a thing if told it's impossible without some trick?" Zai Xuan says, "No matter what you say, I'll still say the same thing. What you saw is everything. I won't repeat it a third time. If you're really that curious, why don't I show you my skills right now?" Li Xiuhe is already blinded by anger and instinctively tries to use magic on Zai Xuan. "What's happening between you two?" Hearing the instructor's reprimand, Li Xiuhe immediately calms down. If he's expelled for fighting, it would all be for nothing. Seeing Li Xiuhe has no intention of making a move, Zai Xuan turns and leaves. Li Xiuhe says with frustration, "Don't think you've already beaten me." Zai Xuan says, "I don't think I lost to you." Li Xiuhe says, "At the Milas Academy Festival, let's have a decisive battle." Zai Xuan says, "No, I won't fight with you at the Milas Academy Festival." Li Xiuhe thinks Zai Xuan is looking down on him, and his brows immediately furrow. Zai Xuan says, "I already have an appointment on the day of the Milas Academy Festival." As this drama ends, the second day's classes also conclude, and Haoyan lies on his bed recalling everything that happened today. He knows that the person who arranged to have a decisive battle with Zai Xuan at the Milas Academy Festival is himself. He's happy that Zai Xuan sees him as a rival. Now is not the time to rest. I need to step up my training. I can't disappoint him then. Meanwhile, Jin Shiji brings today's data to find Qiu Ziren. Have you seen the results of this physical ability test? This year's freshmen are really extraordinary. The magic system student called Ming Zai Xuan even broke the record for the shortest time in the physical ability test. Jin Shiji knows very well that Ming Zai Xuan isn't simply outstanding in ability. As a magic system student, the proficiency he shows in the vanguard position already surpasses many hunters. Soon, they arrive at Qiu Ziren's office. Qiu Ziren says, "Thank you all for your hard work in today's physical ability test. Quickly tell me the results of this physical ability test." Jin Shiji says 3 students achieved perfect scores, namely in Haoyan, Che Yuan, and Ming Zai Xuan. Among them, Ming Zai Xuan's performance is particularly excellent. Qiu Ziren says, "Continue to pay attention to Ming Zai Xuan's actions and grades and report to me. If he has any strange behavior, tell me immediately." With instructor Jin Shiji here, I can rest assured. That's all for today, instructors. Please go prepare for the next activity. Ming Zai Xuan, what other surprises can you bring me? Even though Zai Xuan's strength already far exceeds other students' levels, he still needs to prepare for the next activity, because the upcoming simulated dungeon event is a great disgrace in Malice Academy's history. It's also a tragic event that caused innocent students to lose their lives. In his previous life, Zai Xuan was at the center of this tragedy. In the end, only he survived out of the entire team. Everyone said to him, "You might as well die." Even suffering such abuse, Zai Xuan couldn't leave Milas Academy, because he couldn't disappoint those who trusted him. Finally, his life became darker and darker because of this tragedy. He doesn't know if he can live differently from his previous life this time. In his previous life, unable to protect anyone, he was condemned by thousands, living a life like a disposable item that could be replaced and thrown away at any time. So Zai Xuan doesn't want to repeat the same mistakes. Experiencing these regrettable things once is enough. Time unconsciously reaches the day before entering the dungeon. Jin Yuqing says, "Zai Xuan, do you want to walk with us?" Whenever he sees these two, Zai Xuan's tense nerves get a chance to breathe. Jin Yuqing says, "What should I do? This is my first time entering a dungeon. I haven't slept well since yesterday." Zai Xuan says, "It's okay. Everyone is like this. Their first time entering a dungeon." Jin Yuqing says, "The way you say that makes it sound like you've entered dungeons before." Zai Xuan says, "I haven't been to dungeons, but I've seen monsters a few times. In fact, there's a monster right beside me now." Hearing this, Jin Yuqing immediately pounces on Zai Xuan and beats him. The usually cold Shuruina watches the two from the side. She's actually quite envious of this kind of relationship. Even just being with them, Shuruina can feel warmth in her heart. Zai Xuan says, "If you're really that worried, take this with you." "What is this? Did you buy potions?" Zai Xuan says, "I bought mine and brought some for you too. Remember to use them when needed." Zai Xuan knows very well that in his previous life, it was luck that kept him alive, but this time he relies on his own strength. Time quickly reaches the day of the dungeon activity. Zai Xuan starts warm-up exercises early in the morning, because even magic users with super magic power can suffer magic backlash from suddenly overusing high-level magic. In that case, the user's body would be greatly damaged, and Zai Xuan's lightning chain and sacrifice are both high-level skills, so he starts running magic early in the morning to warm up. Plus, in this simulated dungeon, who knows what dangers await? Perhaps Zai Xuan or his teammates might remain in the simulated dungeon forever. Zai Xuan suddenly discovers that if he concentrates his magic power in his Dantian in advance, he can immediately use it to strengthen his body or magic when needed. At this moment, the Norn system suddenly appears without warning. You will experience a turning point that you once regretted. Will you make the same choice as before, or a different one? Besides giving Zai Xuan 2 choices, words. The Norn system doesn't display any other information about the task. Zhaixuan doesn't understand what these words mean. But one thing is certain. The Norn system wants Zhaixuan to grow to help them achieve their goals. But Zhaixuan completely doesn't understand this task and choices. Soon, everyone arrives at the simulated dungeon location. This simulated dungeon practice will have random grouping. People in the same group must work together to clear the dungeon. Hearing these words, students immediately begin discussing. Because this grouping method is very unfair. If they meet powerful teammates, they can easily pass. But with bad luck, there might be a situation where the whole group consists of weak people. But Jin Jian quickly raises her hand to signal everyone to be quiet. This simulated dungeon practice is a real test, and the results will enter the final grades. Only low-level monsters matching your levels will appear in the simulated dungeon. I hope everyone will do their best to complete this test. But Zhaixuan knows very well this is just a trap set by Qiu Ziren. While most monsters here are indeed low-level. According to Zhaixuan's previous life experience, some high-level monsters are mixed in. With Zhaixuan's current level, the D-rank Beast King isn't his match, but he doesn't want Qiu Ziren's plan to succeed. Moreover, in this activity, Qiu Ziren has already shown his hand. Perhaps it's an opportunity to deliver a fatal blow to him. It's about time. Now let's start random grouping. Students whose names are called, come forward and draw lots here. Under Jin Jian's organization, the grouping quickly ends. Zhaixuan and Shu Ruina are fortunately assigned to the same group. Great, there's a familiar face in the same small group. Shu Ruina nods with a blushing face but says nothing. For Zhaixuan, this is indeed good news, because Yu Ruina's strength is guaranteed. Just then, the remaining two members of the group come over. The moment he turns around, Zhaixuan can hardly believe his eyes. Hello, I'm Jin Zhenya from the combat system. I'm Park Xinyu from the combat system. We're members of the third group. Please guide us. In his previous life, the ones who stood in front of Zhaixuan were exactly Jin Zhenya and Park Xinyu. Only now does Zhaixuan understand the task given by the Norn system. So, this is the choice before him. In the previous life, they saved Zhaixuan's life. Now they have become Zhaixuan's teammates once again. Looking at the two people in front of him, a strange emotion wells up in Zhaixuan's heart. Perhaps it's the joy of reunion, or the shame and regret of not being able to save them. But Zhaixuan quickly suppresses this emotion. Zhaixuan says, nice to meet you, I'm Ming Zhaixuan from the magic system. This is Shu Ruina from the magic system beside me. She's a bit shy with strangers, so I'll greet you on her behalf. Thanks for your help later. Park Xinyu says, it's fine, we're all teammates, we'll get familiar soon. Jin Zhenya says, we're easy to get along with, just relax. Seeing them like this, Zhaixuan feels a bit happy inside. They're always like this, very enthusiastic with everyone. Zhaixuan says, now that we all know each other, let's make a battle plan. After unanimous recommendation, Zhaixuan becomes the squad leader. For the next period of time, Zhaixuan explains several common battle strategies to them. Everyone must remember, no matter what appears in the dungeon, never waver. Especially the combat system at the front. If you waver, the whole team is finished. Park Xinyu thinks, no wonder he's the #1 in the freshman hunt. These detailed plans are no joke. Jin Zhenya says, there are 6 in total, right? I've memorized them all. The preparation time is over. All squad leaders and members come to the front to gather. Hearing this, Zhaixuan quickly searches for Jin Yuking in the crowd. After finding her in a team with an Haoyan, Zhaixuan feels relieved. And so, Zhaixuan leads everyone into the simulation dungeon first. The next team to enter the dungeon is an Haoyan's team. They adopt a 1-2-1 formation. Since it's their first time in a dungeon, everyone is more or less nervous. Since it's a mineral-type dungeon, there should be werewolves here. There should be, and there should also be quite a few minerals. Then there should be diamonds too. If we look carefully, we might find some. Something is approaching. Everyone take your positions. Jin Yuking enters battle stance almost immediately. The remaining 2 are trembling with fear. Their enemies are a group of ordinary werewolves. In the narrow mine, the 4 are surrounded by magical beasts. Although these beasts are weak, if there are too many, we must end this quickly. So an Haoyan charges out first. Jin Yuking doesn't hesitate either, immediately beginning to chant magic. In an instant, powerful light bursts forth in the mine. The werewolves, long accustomed to dark environments, almost all lose their vision. And Haoyan, who rushed into the monster group, takes the opportunity to harvest their lives. But he soon discovers that the remaining 2 team members have been attacked by werewolves. Heimdall's underworld wind heed my call. As Jin Yuking uses her skill Air Explosion, the werewolves attacking their teammates are all killed. After dealing with the beasts, and Haoyan immediately inquires about his teammate's condition. They find that the combat type Shihao keeps kneeling on the ground, coughing non-stop. Normally, werewolves don't use poison. They don't understand what's happening. At this moment, a huge wolf foot appears before them. Shihao is not poisoned. This is magic poisoning. There's terrifying magical power around us. And Haoyan can't figure out why the Beast King would appear here. A regular simulation dungeon test. Yet it conceals high-level magical beasts. Although Zhaixuan knew this information long ago, he cannot tell his teammates these things. But thanks to Zhaixuan's powerful strength, they haven't encountered any trouble along the way. Jin Zhenya says, I didn't expect you to be so amazing, Zhaixuan. Solving several monsters by yourself. Zhaixuan says, it's nothing. They were easily dealt with. While everyone is chatting enthusiastically, Zhu Ruina remains silent. Zhaixuan notices Ruina's situation, so he quietly walks to Ruina's side and says, are you still not comfortable being with them? Ruina nods silently. Zhaixuan didn't expect Ruina to be this shy. However, in the previous life, there were rumors that Ruina never spoke more than 3 sentences at once. At this moment, Park Xinyu walking ahead suddenly stops. They have arrived at a spacious room. In Zhaixuan's previous life memories, there was nothing like this. He immediately realizes this must be Qiu Ziren's doing, but the next second, he feels a powerful powerful magical force. The source of this power is the Beast King, which put him at the center of tragedy. Something is coming toward us. Execute Plan C, adopt a defend first then counterattack strategy. It's different from our previous opponents, everyone be careful. Park Shin-yu doesn't understand. Could there be an even stronger enemy here? Didn't the instructor say there were only low-level beasts here? Suddenly, a violent explosion occurs in front of them. Then, the figure of the Beast King appears before everyone. This is the Beast King. How could there be a high-level monster here? Shuruina's first reaction is also to retreat, but she remembers Zaishuan's earlier reminder. If the combat system at the front waver, the whole team is finished. So without another word, she cast magic barriers on the two. The moment the magic barriers appear, Park Shin-yu quickly recovers. He immediately releases his taunt skill to attract the surrounding small monsters. Seeing everyone has calmed down, Zaishuan charges toward the Beast King. In the blink of an eye, he arrives before the Beast King and unhesitatingly uses magic armor. With a thunderous boom, the mine is immediately filled with dust. Although Ruina has seen Zaishuan use this skill before, its powerful impact still surprises her. Unexpectedly, after taking this punch, the Beast King still stands before everyone. Although Zaishuan had thought there might be new variables before coming, he didn't expect to encounter a Beast King with regeneration abilities. Just with this ability, the difficulty of defeating the Beast King increases dramatically. At this moment, the Norn system detects that the person behind the Beast King is Odin's Raven. It immediately issues a mission to Zaishuan: eliminate Odin's Raven that suppresses you and the opponents of the Aesir. For each Raven defeated, you get a blank card. When all Ravens are solved, your rank will be upgraded. Jin Jian, as an instructor, is unaware of the Beast King situation. She is still watching Zaishuan's previous battle recordings. Even as an A-class hunter, she cannot fight like Zaishuan. So she believes Zaishuan's team will probably take first place in this simulation dungeon. But just then, a simulation dungeon door suddenly opens. She didn't expect Zaishuan to complete the test so quickly, but when she sees who it is, she can't help but widen her eyes. Instructor Jin Jian, it's bad. Something terrible happened. What's wrong? What happened in there? Instructor, a Beast King appeared in our dungeon. You said a Beast King? How is that possible? Fortunately, Shihao doesn't have a big problem, just mild magic poisoning. Jin Jian doesn't understand where this test went wrong. Instructor, haven't the members of the third group come out yet? Jin Jian says, no, Zaishuan and his team haven't come out yet, and Haoyan doesn't understand why this is happening. With Zaishuan and Shu Ruina's strength, they should have come out by now. With no choice, Jin Jian can only call Q Ziren. Director, this is Instructor Jin Jian. Instructor Jin Jian, what can I do for you? After confirmation, a B-class magical beast has appeared in the simulation dungeon. Please send support quickly. Q Ziren says, alright, don't worry too much. I'll send a support team right away. Please stay where you are until the support team arrives. Although Q Ziren told her not to worry, Jin Jian still has an ominous feeling in her heart. Meanwhile, Zaishuan and his team are still fighting the Beast King. Shuruina and Jin Zhenya are exhausted and collapsed on the ground. Park Shin-yu, who stood at the forefront, has already lost his fighting ability. Now the only one who can still fight is Zaishuan. But the Beast King remains unharmed due to its self-healing ability. Through the prompts of the Norn system, Zaishuan knows things aren't so simple. Odin has two ravens, one named Fujin, representing feelings and thought, one named Wuni, representing memory. He observes the world through these two ravens, ruling Asgard. This is all you're doing, isn't it, followers of Odin? The magical power of the Beast King has exceeded B-class, and it has regenerative abilities. Such an opponent is difficult for even Zaishuan to defeat. For Zaishuan, escaping might be the best choice. After all, before his transmigration, running away was something he did often, but he lived in regret every day. Now that he finally has a second chance, Zaishuan hopes he can protect them this time. Zaishuan says, everyone, you must remember what I'm about to say. I'll hold this thing back, you quickly get out of the dungeon. Park Shin-yu says, what do you mean? How can you possibly alone? Before he could finish, Zaishuan killed the werewolf behind Park Shin-yu. Zaishuan says, this is no longer a test, it's now a matter of life and death. Stop talking and run. I can't protect you and fight at the same time, I'll buy you time. Zaishuan, watch out behind you. At the critical moment, a magic barrier blocks the Beast King's attack. Zaishuan instinctively looks back. Shu Ruina says, I can still fight, I'll stay to help you. Looking at Ruina's eyes, Zaishuan knows he definitely can't persuade her. Perhaps this is a variable that Zaishuan brought. Zaishuan says, you guys quickly go to the dungeon entrance. Tell Instructor Jin Jian about the situation here. Please, whether we can survive depends on you. Jin Zhenya also knows that staying would only hold them back. She says, we'll bring the instructor as quickly as possible, you must hold on. So, Park Shin-yu and Jin Zhenya leave the dungeon. Zaishuan and Shu Ruina stay behind. They need to delay as much as possible or defeat the Beast King with regenerative abilities. Ruina, I'll cover you from behind. Feel free to use your skills confidently. Holy Sword, help me eliminate the world's evil spirits. Almost instantly, all werewolves are killed by Shu Ruina. But at this moment, the Beast King swings his wooden hammer again. Zaishuan relies on his speed advantage to constantly dodge its attacks. Suddenly, he notices a detail that could change the battle. The Beast King's body is slowly melting. This means its physical body can only bear limited magical power, and the raven hiding behind it must be forcibly giving it magic beyond its limit. Zaishuan doesn't hesitate, immediately equipping Mistletoe. Mistletoe allows Zaishuan to expand his vision and provides an active skill, Magic Perception. Through Magic Perception, Zaishuan can sense all beings using magic and the direction of energy flow. Magical threads appear on the Beast King's body, and those threads' ends are controlled by a raven's hand. Finally found you, the one who only plays tricks from behind. Under the raven's control, the Beast King raises his wooden hammer again. This farce ends now. Let me me send you off properly. The scene switches to Asgard. Fujin, do you have something to report to me? Fujin says, through my subordinate ravens, I found the whereabouts of the mistletoe missing from the god's warehouse. So where is it now? Fujin says, in Midgard, currently in the hands of the rebel in the prophecy. The rebel, could it be that old man Mimir? You're making too much of a fuss. We've already signed a contract with the opponents of the Aesir. Thor, you're too complacent. Have you forgotten that we lost Badr in the last war? It was mistletoe that killed him. Fujin, check if the rebel in the prophecy has contacted the opponents of the Aesir. Fujin says, I obey Lord Odin's command. Fujin's appearance is exactly that of Zaichuan's father, Ming Shenggao. Meanwhile, in Kyuzuren's office. Kyuzuren says, how is the situation over there now? Jin Shiji says, as you instructed, Jinjian is still waiting outside without entering the dungeon. No one has realized anything is wrong yet. Kyuzuren says, that's good. Fortunately, I borrowed that person's power in advance. Everything I do is for Odin and the Aesir. On the other side, with the help of mistletoe, Zaichuan can summon more lightning chains. Almost instantly, the lightning chains reach the Beast King. But the Beast King is after all a high-level magical beast. Moreover, it has received power from Odin's raven. One strike fails, Zaichuan can only quickly distance himself. He says to Shu Ruina, Ruina, can you cover me? Make his attacks miss me. Shu Ruina says, I'll try, but Ruina's current condition is also very poor. They both know one thing. Even if Zaichuan defeats the Beast King, Ruina might die from magical backlash. So Zaichuan can't understand why Ruina still wants to help him despite this. Zaichuan has finally managed to start over, and he had already resolved not to trust anyone again, because for the weak, this world has long had no place for them. But in the previous life, a combat system uncle told him, among all causes of death, none is more tragic than dying from not trusting companions. And now the opportunity before Zaichuan only comes once. Zaichuan absolutely cannot allow himself any mistakes. Several lightning chains rush toward the Beast King again. The Beast King wants to shatter these chains like last time. Unfortunately, this time Zaichuan has Shu Ruina's help. The magic barrier helps Zaichuan block all the Beast King's attacks. However, Zaichuan knows very well that Ruina cannot hold on for long in her condition. So he must end this quickly. Only this way does Ruina have a chance to survive. And he wants to prove that Uncle was right. Ruina didn't expect Zaichuan would use lightning chains as a movement skill. Without extremely strong magical control ability, this would be absolutely impossible. Just as Zaichuan is about to clash head-on with the Beast King, Zaichuan suddenly controls the lightning chains to arrive above the Beast King. The Beast King immediately gathers strength for a fatal blow to Zaichuan. If Zaichuan is hit, Ruina's magic barrier will definitely break instantly. Just as Zaichuan is about to be hit, he uses the lightning chains to throw himself into the air. Zaichuan recalls the basic sword technique he practiced countless times in his previous life. From lower left to upper, swing the sword vertically upward. As the nightmare that haunted his once dark life, Zaichuan hopes to end it with a skill from his previous life. This time I won't let you regenerate so easily. It turns out Zaichuan was aiming at the magical threads between the Beast King and the Raven. After cutting these threads, Zaichuan fiercely slashes at the Beast King. The rage-filled strike causes Zaichuan's sword to break. Fortunately, it's all over now. Now let me take a good look at your ugly face. After saying this, Zaichuan uses lightning chains to break through the nearby rock wall. Behind the wall is hidden a cave. Hiding inside is the Raven controlling the Beast King. Zaichuan steps on it without a word. Tell me, what exactly is Odin's purpose? But this Raven remains silent. At this moment, Zaichuan notices the necklace on its neck. So he gives the Raven another hard kick and asks, what is the relationship between Kyuzuren and Odin? Seeing the Raven still not answering, Zaichuan knows there's no point in continuing, so he ends the Raven's life with one step. Now the only thing to worry about is magical backlash. Shu Ruina says, Zaichuan, is it over on your side? Zaichuan suddenly feels a chill throughout his body. Zaichuan says, the battle isn't over, beware of magical backlash. After saying this, both of them suffer from magical backlash at almost the same time. However, the chaotic magic entering Zaichuan's body is purified by his pure magic. This has a lot to do with him warming up with magic early in the morning. Not only that, but the magic Zaichuan can command in the atmosphere permanently increases by 5%. At this time, the Norn system also sends Zaichuan his mission reward. After defeating a Raven, he gains 5 talent points and a blank card, leveling up once. Due to the level up, Zaichuan's body quickly recovers. But the Norn system alerts him that a teammate is in danger. If not treated promptly, the teammate will die. Later, Shu Ruina finally opens her eyes. Zaichuan is sleeping soundly beside her. Ruina is very curious about what's going on. She quickly wakes up Zaichuan beside her. Zaichuan says, oh, you're awake? How do you feel now? Ruina remembers clearly that she just suffered from magical backlash, but now her physical and magical power have all recovered. Shu Ruina says, I seem to be fine now, what about you? Zaichuan says, I'm fine too, just fell asleep just now. Then Ruina looks around. She says, wasn't the Beast King already defeated? Why didn't you leave? Zaichuan says, I was waiting for you to wake up, because I have something to tell you. Shu Ruina says, you have something to tell me? What do you want to say? Zaichuan says, I think we should have a deep conversation here after everything. The moment she hears this, Ruina's face turns red. The scene moves outside the dungeon. Jinyu King is scolding Park Shinyu and Jinjenya, who ran out alone. Jinjian says, calm down first, I completely understand your concern for your classmates. And Haoyan watches all this, but he has no way to help. Unless Zaichuan and Shu Ruina return, this matter definitely won't end easily. Just then, he notices the dungeon door opening. He says, Yu King, wait a moment. Jinyu King says, don't stop me. And Haoyan excitedly says, look, they're both back. Seeing this, Zaichuan says, you're not arguing because of us, are you? The monitoring team clearly said they were dead, and judging from the magic power in in the dungeon, their opponent was at least a B-class monster. Seeing the two return, Jin Yuking cries and rushes toward them saying, "The instructor and monitoring team all said you wouldn't come back. Thank goodness you're okay. Thank goodness you're okay." Zaishuan says, all right, let me go now." Park Xinyu and Jin Zhenya hesitate whether to approach and check on them. During their hesitation, Zaishuan says, "Park Xinyu, Jin Zhenya, thank you for being willing to trust me. They left early at my request. I asked them to leave first to find the instructor for help, so they shouldn't be blamed by everyone." Jin Yuqing says, "Even if you say so, they shouldn't have left their teammates behind." Zaishuan says, "I would have done the same thing, so stop blaming them. Don't be angry with them because of me." Jin Yuqing says, "What nonsense, I'm not angry because of you, it's because of Ruina." Seeing everyone like this, Jin Jian also feels relieved, but in her heart, she has planted a seed of doubt about Q Ziren. Turning back 3 minutes earlier, Shu Ruina thought Zaishuan's deep conversation meant a romantic exchange. But Zaishuan actually just wanted to be honest with her and ask her to keep today's events confidential. Zhu Ruina says, "Why do you hide such abilities?" Zaishuan says, "Aren't you curious why the Beast King appeared in the dungeon? Why students were put in danger? Director Qiu Ziren is a scumbag. He's always treated students as tools. His true face is completely different from what you see in the media. Even if students he considers worthless die, he doesn't care." Shu Ruina says, "So you want to restrain him and deliberately hide your strength for this?" With these answers, Ruina's thoughts are suddenly clear. "The day we left the director's office, you told me not to trust Qiu Ziren and the instructors. I want to know, how much do you know about Director Qiu Ziren? You seem to have known from the start that he's a bad person, and your behavior makes me feel like you knew what was going to happen. How do you know these things? Since you want to have a deep conversation with me, answer my questions." Zaishuan knows very well that if he involves Ruina, she will definitely be in danger. And her magic compatibility is high. Zaishuan's brainwashing skill won't work on her. And even if he tells her these things, it won't necessarily make Ruina his ally. Zaishuan says, "Sorry, I can't tell you too much right now. Knowing too much will put you in danger, I hope you can understand." Time returns to the present. Jin Jian apologizes to Zaishuan for not providing timely rescue. Zaishuan also knows that as an instructor, she had to maintain order outside. Zaishuan says, "It's okay, you didn't intentionally put us in danger. I have to go now. Today was really exhausting." On the other side, Qiu Ziren says, "Instructor Jin Shiji, you've really disappointed me." Jin Shiji says, "I'm sorry, director, I failed in my duty." Qiu Ziren says, "As my most loyal subordinate, I can forgive you once, but I will never keep useless people by my side. You understand my meaning?" Jin Shiji says, "Next time I absolutely won't disappoint you." Qiu Ziren says, "Instructor Jin Shiji, you'd better keep your word. The next activity must tame this wild horse Ming Zaishuan. Don't let my patience run out, or you know the consequences." The scene shifts to Zaishuan's suite. He has already taken a bath and relaxed. Looking at the battlesuit he wore today, Zaishuan can't help but fall into deep thought. In the world before his transmigration, Jin Yuqing died, and Haoyan didn't even develop half of his abilities. To change all this, Zaishuan must intervene in their lives. But Shu Ruina is different from these two. Even without Zaishuan, she can fully grow on her own. So Zaishuan decides that the next time he interacts with her, he must be more cautious. After all, Zaishuan doesn't know what changes he might bring to her future. But now more important is to find the relationship between Qiu Ziren and the Aesir. After all, this dungeon incident is just a beginning. More dangerous situations will definitely appear later. To deal with these things, he must grow up quickly. Just as Zaishuan is thinking about these things, he hears a conversation on TV. In this world, besides ordinary dungeons, there are other dungeons, like theme dungeons. The clear conditions for these dungeons are different. Certain conditions must be met. The special thing is that when challenging a theme dungeon, you cannot exit midway. Hearing this, Zaishuan stands up abruptly. He quickly goes to the calendar to check what day it is. If not for the TV reminder, he would have almost forgotten about this. People who challenge theme dungeons become characters in that theme. To clear it, they must meet specific conditions. Although theme dungeons are much more difficult than ordinary dungeons, the rewards they provide are often more powerful items. Hunters call these items God's arrangements. This is why hunters are eager to challenge theme dungeons. The scene shifts to Jin Yuqing's dormitory. Shu Ruina says, "I'm sorry, we made you worry." Jin Yuqing says, "It's fine, as long as you two are safe." Zaishuan's personality is a bit annoying. I was actually worried he might bully you. He always annoys me when we're together. Hearing this, Ruina is obviously a bit unhappy. Seeing this, Jin Yuqing says, "Did he really bully you in the dungeon?" Ruina quickly explains, No, it's just that Zaishuan seems to trust you a lot." Ruina thinks, if only Zaishuan could rely on her a bit more, if only I could be stronger. Seeing Ruina like this, Jin Yuqing feels uncomfortable. She says, "Let's go eat something delicious, without Zaishuan." Ruina is hesitant at first, but thinking that Jin Yuqing is just doing this to make her happy, she finally opens up to Jin Yuqing. In the near future, a theme dungeon will appear in a certain amusement park, and its reward is Thialfi's Thunderstep, the speed boots once used by Thor's servant. Due to its effect of greatly enhancing agility, it became an item all combat-type hunters eagerly sought. Zaishuan had previously allocated all his talents to magic power and endurance. With it, he could keep his abilities balanced. But before that, Zaishuan needs to sort out this mission's rewards first. Idun's golden apple is a mythical-level consumable item. After use, it can not only slow down aging and enhance self-healing, but also increase 20 points of physical and magical power. These effects are enough to sell it for a good price. Unfortunately, it's an exclusive item and cannot be traded. Luckily, those effects are solid enhancements for Zaishuan. Taking advantage of his improved attributes, Zaishuan decides to challenge the theme dungeon, so he calls Lu Shinen. Soon after, after, Zai arrives at the amusement park where the theme dungeon will appear. Recalling the world before his transmigration, the facilities here are indeed a bit boring. Hello sir, what kind of ticket do you need? Zai silently hands a card to the ticket window and says, I'm Ming Zai, a hunter from the Lotus Guild. In a while, a theme dungeon will appear here. Meanwhile, someone comes to the floor of Zai dormitory. You say student Ming Zai has already left? Yes, he came to me last night for an exit permit. Jinjian didn't expect Zai to recover so quickly after experiencing such things. He's just a freshman who just entered school. Not only is his strength outstanding, but the speed at which he overcomes psychological shadows is also very fast. Jinjian begins to involuntarily pay attention to Zai Jinjian says, when student Ming Zai returns, can you trouble him to come find me? The clerk says, I will convey your message. After finishing her business, Jinjian leaves Zai dormitory. Then she comes to a corner of the campus. After making sure no one is following her, she takes out a communication device. This is Jin Jian. Team leader Song Jixi. Can you hear me? Song Jixi says, I can hear you. How's your investigation going? Jin Jian says, the accident in this simulation dungeon is very special. Qiu Ziren personally did it. Song Jixi says, the person in charge this time is Jin Shiji, right? He should be on Qiu Ziren's side. Keep an eye on them. Jin Jian says, I understand. I have one more thing to report to you. The student Ming Zai I mentioned to you before, he seems to know something. On the other side, Zai just says one sentence to the ticket seller, and the bustling amusement park instantly becomes empty. Until now, the broadcast is still playing emergency evacuation notices. Although Zai contacted Lu Xinen for convenience, he didn't expect the name of the Lotus Guild to be so effective. However, Zai cannot use the Lotus Guild's name without restraint. For instance, this time, Liu Xing'an made a condition for Zai Once danger occurs, you must put your safety first. It's not that I don't trust your strength, but what teacher would want their student to be in danger? After all, dungeons are unpredictable places. At this moment, the theme dungeon and fantasy park in ruins appears. Only by accepting and completing the 3 tasks here can you obtain Thialfi's Thunder Step. The time for the tasks is a total of 24 hours. The reason Zai could find this place is because in the previous life, the person who cleared it published the location of each level. Her innate skill is thought acceleration. With this skill, Xu Yaxuan showed off everywhere. Eventually, she died in a secret fight due to jealousy. Because of this, Thialfi's Thunder Step eventually fell into someone else's hands. So rather than letting this equipment fall into others' hands, he might as well get it first. With the hints from his previous life, Zai quickly finds the first task location. The first task is the pirate ship. What Zai needs to do is change the story's ending. With a flash of light, Zai is transmitted into the dungeon. But just as he leaves, a figure appears in front of the pirate ship. Zai first task is Thialfi's hatred. He will transform into Thialfi, a warrior who survived the Viking invasion. Because Thor admired Thialfi's fleet-footedness and wanted to make Thialfi his subordinate, Thor ordered the kidnapping of Thialfi's sister Roskva as a hostage. To pass this level, Zai needs to rescue Roskva while ensuring both survive. Thialfi was originally immortal because his whole family died at the hands of Vikings. He extremely hates the Aesir worshipped by Vikings. But this information is exactly opposite to the stories Zai read since childhood. Could this also be the difference between the Aesir system and the Norn system? Thialfi, wake up. Zai who just crossed into this world, is still a bit uncomfortable, but Zai memory tells him they have now taken a Viking ship to rescue Roskva, and the person in front of him is the planner of the ship-taking action Fettake. Just then, the 2 ships crash into each other. The only people who can stand steady on the deck now are Zai and Fettake, and they have already been surrounded by Viking ships. Countless Vikings jump onto their deck, although not knowing the current situation, Zai can only put finding Roskva on hold. Zai says, you go hide, I'll handle this. Fettake says, wait, Thialfi, you alone can't possibly. Before he finishes, Zai jumps onto the enemy's ship, and here he sees an unexpected person. The person playing Roskva is actually Xu Yaxuan. He doesn't understand why this would happen, and Xu Yaxuan's role in the dungeon is Roskva. Zai doesn't know that Xu Yaxuan's appearance here is completely an accident. During the first 3 minutes of the evacuation broadcast, Xu Yaxuan happens to be in the bathroom. When she comes out, she finds that the amusement park has somehow transformed into a themed dungeon. Even more unfortunate, everyone except her has already evacuated. So Xu Yaxuan can only hope that the strategy team will arrive soon. However, before that, she hopes to find others who, like her, haven't managed to get out. At that moment, she spots Zai who is preparing to tackle the dungeon. So Xu Yaxuan follows Zai closely until they enter the first level of the themed dungeon. Now Zai is feeling troubled. If someone else had gotten caught up in this, it wouldn't be so bad. But the person who enters the dungeon happens to be Xu Yaxuan, who completed it in her previous life. You fool, instead of hiding quickly, you dare to boldly board the enemy ship? Let that stupid boy taste the power of our arrows. Countless arrows instantly shoot towards Zai but Zai simply activates a magic barrier that blocks all the attacks. Why do I always encounter people with mental problems around me? Before he finishes speaking, Zai activates his magic armor and charges forward. In an instant, only the screams of enemies can be heard on the deck. Although Zai mind is in chaos right now, looking on the bright side, perhaps bringing along the cunning Xu Yaxuan might make it easier to complete the dungeon. Since things have already come to this point, Zai decides to take her along. Just then, a bald man charges toward him, but Zai dodges his attack with a slight sidestep. Then he forcefully punches the man in the face. What Zai needs to do now is to quickly deal with these people, then rescue Xu Yaxuan and enter the next level. Zai says, See, I don't have time to fool around with you now. Don't waste time, all of you come at me at once. In the blink of an eye, Zishuan eliminates all the enemies. Zishuan says, stop pretending to be asleep, get up now. Are you Roskva? Shu Yaxuan says, Sao Sentu found me out. Then you must be Thialfi, right? Zishuan says, Shit, that's right, but anyway. Zishuan suddenly slams his fist against the mast and says, I know what you're up to. Don't try to act clever and test my limits. Shu Yaxuan is so frightened that she can't say a word and can only nod obediently. After rescuing Shu Yaxuan, the two return to the starting point. Zishuan sits across from Shu Yaxuan, staring at her. Seeing Zishuan remain silent, Shu Yaxuan can only sit quietly. In her eyes, Zishuan is a magical hunter with combat skills. Though about the same age as her, his personality is quite unlikable. Shu Yaxuan can't understand how she has run into such a strange person. Zishuan asks, what did you say your skill was again? Shu Yaxuan says, my skill allows people to better wield swords. Since very few people at Shu Yaxuan's age have mastered skills, she thinks she can get away with this lie. Zishuan says, your skill shouldn't be just that one, right? I hate when people lie to me. Shu Yaxuan says, I'm not lying. It's a skill called Basic Sword Correction. Zishuan says, let me guess. Your skill should be called Thought Acceleration. I don't think I'm wrong, am I? Shu Yaxuan can't understand how Zishuan knows the effect of her skill. Zishuan says, it seems I can't take you with me. You probably want to use me to break into this dungeon. There's a limit to looking down on people. After saying this, Zishuan turns and walks away. Shu Yaxuan says, son, I was wrong. Everything you said is correct. Please don't leave me alone. Zishuan says, how can I trust you? Shu Yaxuan replies, Tinsal, I'll do whatever you say. Really? Then let's sign a contract. Hearing this, Shu Yaxuan completely panics. She never thought Zishuan would have such a skill. After signing the contract, Shu Yaxuan would have to obey his commands until they complete the dungeon, and the contents of the contract must be kept confidential from others. In return, before completing the dungeon, Zishuan will protect her safety. It turns out this is a subsidiary skill of the brainwashing ability Zishuan copied from Q Zirin. By signing a contract, he can gain partial dominance. For Zishuan, this is the most effective way to tame Shu Yaxuan. At this point, Shu Yaxuan can only sign the contract. Zishuan says, my terms aren't bad, right? I didn't take away your thoughts. Of course, if you want to stay here by yourself, you can break the contract anytime. Shu Yaxuan says, I'll work hard. Please don't leave me alone. Meanwhile, in Hell's temple, it seems that little rebel is trying quite hard. Those greedy Acer gods' gazes are becoming increasingly sharp. If I leave, they will surely come to make trouble. What should we do? Hearing these words, Hell just chuckles lightly, giving no answer. Hell, become my eyes. Help me watch the rebel's growth. We must buy more time to let the rebel fully develop. The scene shifts to inside the themed dungeon. Shu Yaxuan is curious about where they will go next. Zishuan says, to Ghost House. We need to go there first. Seeing Shu Yaxuan's reaction, Zishuan asks, are you afraid? How could I be afraid? Who's still afraid of such things nowadays? There seems to be someone here who is afraid. I told you I'm not afraid. Good that you're not afraid. We need to prepare to go in. But the expression on Shu Yaxuan's face has already betrayed her. Shu Yaxuan says, wait, I'm tired from walking. I need to rest a bit first. Unfortunately, the next second they are teleported to the second level. They need to leave this mansion without violating 3 rules. There is a dark and vile secret hidden here. They need to use cameras to record all the truths, uncover the secrets of this place, and escape. If successful, they will gain an active skill called illusion. The punishment for failure is death. Zishuan asks, what's your role this time? Shu Yaxuan replies, I seem to be a photographer. What about you? Zishuan says, seem to be a live streamer exploring a haunted house. Suddenly, a voice sounds, it's been a long time since we've had guests here. Esteemed guests, hello. My name is Alfred. I am the butler serving the master of this mansion, Count Frandio. Today, I've come to receive you two at the Count's command. Please come in. The Count instructed me to treat you two well. You've come from afar, you must be hungry. Let me take you to the dining room first. As soon as Zishuan enters, he notices a vase. It reads, to the most beautiful yet confused girl, gone. Seeing no useful information, Zishuan starts to look around. Suddenly, Shu Yaxuan says, that painting is so beautiful. Following Shu Yaxuan's gaze, the painting shows a little girl with a golden retriever. The butler says, Tis is the master of the mansion, Frandio, with her beloved dog Sean, in a portrait. To have the portrait hung here, it seems her childhood memories are incredibly meaningful to her. The butler continues, naturally, she has kept many childhood memories. Those were dreamlike, very happy memories. Looking at the butler's expression, both of them suddenly feel a chill down their spines. This way, please. Please don't touch anything here. So the butler continues to lead the two. Zishuan knows he has to stay alert now. The previous task had explained the cause and effect of events, but now all the events and secrets here have to be explored personally. Seeing Shu Yaxuan's expression, Zishuan asks, are you okay? Earlier you said you weren't afraid of ghosts, but it turns out that was a lie. Shu Yaxuan says, just haven't adapted yet. yet. Give me a little time to adjust. Just then, the butler walking ahead suddenly stops and says, "Here we are. This is the dinner Count Frandio has prepared for you. Please enjoy it slowly. I will return after you finish your meal." With that, the butler closes the door and leaves. Both of them know clearly that this meal is definitely not to be eaten. Zai Xuan says, "Let's quickly take advantage of the butler's absence to look around." Shu Yaxuan says, "Trina, wait, before that, we need to get some information about this place." Then, Shu Yaxuan activates her skill, Thought Acceleration. Almost instantly, her eyes scan the information of all items in the room. Then she sends this information to her brain for analysis. After scanning, Shu Yaxuan says, "Ina, I've learned some things about this mansion." Although Zai Xuan is very surprised, he maintains a calm appearance and says, "Please tell me what you found." Shu Yaxuan says, "The master of this mansion should be a child, very petite. The chairs in reception room are clues. The master seat is higher than the other chairs. This means the mansion's master is much shorter than others. The cabinets in the reception room are all very low, and only the bottom of the handles are dusty." As Shu Yaxuan explains this, Zai Xuan realizes why he has been feeling something was off. Shu Yaxuan says, "Let's go look at other places and gather more information. By the way, this camera is quite expensive. It would be nice if we could take it out of here." Seeing Zai Xuan standing at the door, Shu Yaxuan asks, "Weren't you going to leave? Why are you just standing there?" Zai Xuan says, "Now's not the time for casual chat. We're locked in here." By now, 2 hours have passed since the themed dungeon appeared. The entrance to the amusement park is full of reporters and staff. Due to the nature of the themed dungeon, rescue personnel can only wait outside. I was about to get promoted, but now this mess happens. Who would have thought a themed dungeon would suddenly appear in an amusement park? You'll see, the public evaluation of us will definitely drop. Even you, who just got promoted due to the goblin incident, will probably be demoted this time. Looks like we're taking the blame again. Let's first check the information of those 2 people who got caught in there. When Park Gun-hoon sees the information, he is stunned, because one of those who entered the dungeon is Ming Zai Xuan, a listed member of the Lotus Guild. Park Gun-hoon had heard that Zai Xuan had gone to Milas Academy for further studies, but he hadn't expected Zai Xuan to join the Lotus Guild so quickly. What's wrong? Don't tell me it's not 2 people but 3 people who got involved? No, this themed dungeon might actually be cleared successfully. Although they had only met once, Zai Xuan's powerful abilities had left a deep impression on Park Gun-hoon. Meanwhile, inside the themed dungeon, learning that she is locked in, Shu Yaxuan's mood plummets. Shu Yaxuan anxiously says, "What if we're locked in here forever and can't get out?" Zai Xuan says, "Can't calm down. This is a dungeon. There must be a way out." Hearing this, Shu Yaxuan regains her confidence and says, "First, there's no such thing as a dungeon you can't exit, right? Then I'll go over there to check the situation." Zai Xuan senses that the mansion's master doesn't seem very friendly toward them. Although Zai Xuan could forcefully open the door with his strength, the fact that Shu Yaxuan could clear this level alone in her previous life indicates that this level doesn't have high strength requirements. So there must be some hidden information here. At this moment, Shu Yaxuan says, "Brother, come look at this. This camera seems a bit strange." Zai Xuan says, "If you keep getting startled like this." Before he finishes, when Zai Xuan sees the camera, he freezes on the spot. The images in the camera are filled with blood and gore. The butler who had just led them was fake. At this moment, the system sends a prompt, and the first mystery of the mansion, Alfred's secret, 70% completed. This means that Zai Xuan and Shu Yaxuan are on the right track. Zai Xuan says, "TT seems this camera can capture things our naked eyes can't see." Shu Yaxuan says, "So that's why they specifically included the photographer role? This camera is the key to solving the mysteries." Zai Xuan has been curious about how the timid Shu Yaxuan had managed to clear the level, but now he sees that she is quite calm when thinking. Shu Yaxuan says, "The key now is to figure out what exactly the camera is showing." Zai Xuan says, "If Alfred is fake, then the images should either be from the past or the present." Shu Yaxuan says, "For he says to make a good point. Since the dungeon is about uncovering the secrets of the mansion, there's no reason to show future events. And all these physical objects actually exist. This means the camera is showing the past of this mansion through the camera. The Manchuhan banquet that the Count used to entertain guests turns into Alfred's corpse." Shu Yaxuan is so scared that tears nearly come to her eyes. Suddenly, Zai Xuan thinks of something. To verify his guess, he throws the camera to Shu Yaxuan. From the beginning, Zai Xuan has been sensing a weak magical power, so he guesses that everything here is an illusion, a magic sometimes used in dungeons to set traps. Zai Xuan plans to use absolute calculation to break the magic here. But surprisingly, absolute calculation seems to be interfered with and doesn't activate successfully. Zai Xuan guesses it might be due to the nature of the themed dungeon. At this moment, he notices Shu Yaxuan lying on the ground as if looking for something. It turns out Shu Yaxuan is guessing that the mechanism to open the door might be hidden. Shu Yaxuan says, "Sharnson, what's in front of us is food, but what the camera shows is Alfred. This is the only difference. From the current situation, the clue to escape must be here." Hearing Shu Yaxuan's analysis, Zai Xuan immediately gets a clue. He activates another skill, magic sensing. Sure enough, he senses magical fluctuations in the pudding. Sealing magic fundamentally needs to attach to other objects. To remove this kind of magic, you just need to clear away what it's attached to. Zai Xuan says, "Tin, the key to leaving this place is in that pudding." Hearing this, Shu Yaxuan falls silent, because that position is Alfred's skull. Zai Xuan asks, "Are you afraid now?" Shu Yaxuan says, "No, I'm not. I'll get it." So Shu Yaxuan rolls up her sleeves and reaches toward the pudding. After some searching, she indeed finds the key. They don't know that Alfred is silently watching the two of them at this moment. It seems the guests are not satisfied with the meal I prepared. One should never neglect hospitality hospitality to guests, isn't that right? As a butler, I will never disappoint the count. Meanwhile, Zai Xuan and Zhu Yaxuan have already left the dining room. All along the way, Zhu Yaxuan observes the surroundings through the camera. Without exception, all the scenes in the camera are in ruins. But at this moment, Zai Xuan, who is walking in front, stops his steps. Zai Xuan says, "This seems to be the guest room for receiving visitors, right?" Zhu Yaxuan says, "Since it's for receiving guests, after dinner the next step should be going to the guest room. And the blood trail points right here too. We don't seem to have other choices." Zai Xuan says, "Then let's go to our respective rooms to look for clues." Zhu Yaxuan asks, "Do we really have to go in?" Zai Xuan says, "We need to clear the level. Do you want to be trapped here forever? Shut up and search the guest room properly. If anything happens, call me immediately." So the two of them enter their respective rooms. Apart from being exceptionally eerie, the room doesn't seem to have anything unusual. It seems they need to look for more clues. Zai Xuan doesn't know that a long dress has appeared behind him at that moment. Sensing something wrong, Zai Xuan immediately looks back. The girl has golden blonde hair, just like the portrait at the entrance. Just then, the girl suddenly raises her hand and points at Zai Xuan. It turns out Alfred is already quietly standing behind Zai Xuan. In a daze, Zai Xuan feels there is a red shadow in front of him. Startled awake, Zai Xuan suddenly opens his eyes. Zhu Yaxuan says, "Brother, are you awake now?" Zai Xuan says, "Punching my head still hurts. Keep your voice down." Although Zai Xuan had anticipated a possible attack, he hadn't expected to not even have a chance to react. He guesses this might also be part of the dungeon plot. Zhu Yaxuan says, "Sai used thought acceleration to check out our situation. There's a lot of moss here, and the air is extremely damp, and there are traces of torture everywhere. It should be an underground prison. Why would there be such a place in the Count's mansion? It's chilling." Zai Xuan says, "In that case, the key should be hidden somewhere here." As soon as he finishes speaking, Zai Xuan forcefully punches the prison's iron door. Fortunately, he had used silencing, which prevented attracting the butler. "Let's try to move quietly. It would be troublesome if Alfred notices us. Also, instead of wasting time talking nonsense, why not think about how to escape from here?" Just then, Zai Xuan suddenly hears a dog bark. A chubby little dog suddenly leaps into Zai Xuan's arms. Zai Xuan is curious why there would be a small dog in the prison, and the dog's mouth is carrying a key. Zhu Yaxuan says, "Put that dog down quickly." Zai Xuan says, "There's no magic on it. It's just an ordinary dog, probably also imprisoned here." Zhu Yaxuan says, "The dungeon wouldn't give us the key so easily. It might be a trap." Sensing Zhu Yaxuan's hostility, the small dog immediately makes whimpering sounds. Zhu Yaxuan is also scared and takes a step back. Just then, a new task appears. They now need to go to the 4th floor of the mansion to count Frandio's room to read her diary. The reward for this level is removing the skill restrictions of the themed dungeon. For Zai Xuan, the importance of this reward is self-evident. This also means that the diary must be closely related to the secrets of this place. So the two of them, along with the dog, set off again on their journey to find clues. Zhu Yaxuan says, "Pison, we've now reached the 4th floor curtent, but this mansion is so big I have no idea where to go next. The camera's been taken away too. It seems we can only search room by room." However, Zai Xuan doesn't answer Zhu Yaxuan. Zhu Yaxuan says, "To why have you suddenly gone quiet? It's scary." Zhu Yaxuan follows Zai Xuan's gaze. Behind them is the girl who had warned Zai Xuan. Her golden hair is so striking. Zai Xuan is just about to speak to her. Zhu Yaxuan says, "Let's just go. Now's not the time to chat with ghosts." Unexpectedly, Zai Xuan pushes Zhu Yaxuan aside and says to the girl, "Why are you still here? Do you hold a grudge against this mansion?" Hearing Zai Xuan's words, the girl shakes her head. Zai Xuan asks, "And then, have you come to help us?" This time the girl nods. Zai Xuan says, "Fen, let me ask you a question. Where is Frandio's room on the 4th floor?" The girl still doesn't speak, just silently raises her hand, and the direction she points is right behind Zai Xuan. Zai Xuan says, "Sai si, thank you. Wait, if I get the chance, I'll definitely help you find peace." As they leave, Zhu Yaxuan looks back at the girl once more, but the girl's figure has already disappeared. Meanwhile, just as Song Jixi is about to be promoted, a themed dungeon suddenly appears in the amusement park. Just when he thinks his promotion is hopeless, the Lotus Guild actively reaches out. Song Jixi says, "So you're saying the Lotus Guild will be responsible for this themed dungeon?" The other person says, "That's right. And all the public criticism from the National Hunter Association and Public Evaluation Committee's accusations, we at the Lotus Guild will take responsibility for resolving them. However, Director Lu Xinen hopes you won't disclose any information about Ming Zai Xuan." Song Jixi says, "For a student still studying at Milas Academy, the Lotus Guild is making such a big move?" The other person says, "Sina, I can't conveniently tell you the detailed reasons." Song Jixi says, "Anyway, it's not a bad thing for us. Let's go with the Lotus Guild's proposal. But if the dungeon clearance fails," the other person says, "You don't need to worry about that. If he can't even clear this kind of dungeon, then the Lotus Guild wouldn't have gotten involved from the beginning." Meanwhile, back in the themed dungeon, Zai Xuan easily deals with the magical beasts blocking their way. Zhu Yaxuan says, "As far as I know, the Phantom Kage is a C-ranked magical beast." Zai Xuan says, "Tu's path is a shortcut. Just a few magical beasts. Dealing with them is a piece of cake." And so, the two of them along with the dog enter Frandio's room. Unlike other parts of the mansion, even without the camera, this place is noticeably chaotic. Zhu Yaxuan says, "Tinfen, I'll start searching from the desk." Zai Xuan says, "Tun place obviously will have the information we need. You go check other places that might hide clues." Zhu Yaxuan says, "Fine, I'll look around elsewhere." So Zai Xuan, with the dog, comes to the desk. When he picks up the thick book on the desk, the system notifies notifies him that he has obtained Count Frandio's diary. Without hesitation, Zai Xuan immediately opens the diary. May 7th, 1474, my skin is getting paler. The doctor has come many times to treat me, but it doesn't seem to have any effect. Am I destined to never go outside, just waiting to die like this? May 10th, 1474, father and mother said they would buy me the doll I've always wanted. They'll be back from the neighboring city in 2 days. Even the waiting time feels happy. May 12th, 1474, father and mother were attacked by bandits and both died. I can't stop crying. If I hadn't asked father and mother to buy me that doll, would they still be alive? Father and mother's funeral is over. As the only bloodline of the Frandio Count family, I became the master of this mansion. But I can't be happy at all. I'm all alone now, and from now on, forever. July 4th, 1474, today the servant caught a girl who had snuck into the mansion and broken a lily. She's about my age and looks like my doll. I want her to live with me in this mansion. July 20th, 1474, that girl said she has no name, so I named her Celia. We play together in the mansion every day. I'm very happy. I've finally made a friend. September 8th, 1474, Alfred left without saying a word. Celia said he looked very anxious, seemingly going to the neighboring village. For some reason, I have an uneasy feeling. September 10th, 1474, Alfred is back, but I feel he's different from before. Celia also seems to be hiding something from me. Something must have happened. November 9th, 1474, moans keep coming from outside the room. It's the kitchen manager Solana and the maid Miche screaming. Celia and Alfred are now knocking on my door. They must want to kill me. What should I do? After reading these diary entries, Zai Xuan finally understands the cause and effect. It turns out that Frandio had been killed from the very beginning. The ones who committed these acts should be magical beasts who occupied the mansion. If Zai Xuan isn't mistaken, the culprit is a living ghost. The Shu Yaxuan, who had been accompanying Zai Xuan throughout the second level, turns out to be the culprit behind this dungeon, a living ghost. Having solved all the secrets of the mansion, Zai Xuan now needs to safely escape from here. The living ghost transforms numerous tentacles to attack Zai Xuan. Unexpectedly, Zai Xuan dodges all these attacks. Since he had recognized her identity early on, Zai Xuan had been prepared. Zai Xuan says, "To finally show your true face, I was wondering how long you'd continue this disgusting act. My patience was reaching its limit." The living ghost says, "Since I didn't expect you to react so quickly." Zai Xuan says, "Actually, it wasn't that difficult. It's just that I'm smarter." "No, maybe it's because you're too stupid." The living ghost says, "You hateful human, I'll kill you here today." But now Zai Xuan has unlocked his skill restrictions. Almost instantly, countless lightning chains appear around him, directly freezing through the living ghost's body. The next second, lightning illuminates the entire hall. The living ghost is a B-ranked magical beast with the ability to copy others' bodies and skills. But in terms of combat power alone, it's only a C-ranked monster. The living ghost says, "Sight, I will devour your body. I will take your life." With that, the living ghost rushes towards Zai Xuan. However, just before touching Zai Xuan, the living ghost's tentacles stop. The lightning chains have already firmly bound it. Zai Xuan says, "How does it feel to try to fool others but end up being fooled yourself?" The next second, several lightning chains attack the living ghost again. "So envious, I'm so envious. Human, I also want a human life." As the dust slowly settles, the living ghost has been eliminated by Zai Xuan. Zai Xuan says, "You're quite good at howling. Looking at you, do you have potential to be a dog? But considering you brought the key, I'll let it go this time." As Zai Xuan prepares to leave, he looks back once more. In the center of the hall appears a little girl with golden hair. Frandio is there, waving goodbye to them. Zai Xuan says, "I fulfilled my promise to you. Goodbye." With a flash of light, Zai Xuan and company exit this level. Shu Yaxuan, who has just been turned into a dog, is obviously unhappy. Zai Xuan is checking the 2 skills he has just acquired. The commander's shout is for supporting teammates, which Zai Xuan rarely uses, but the illusion skill is quite good. "Zai Xuan, you knew all along that little dog was me, and you didn't warn me. I really thought I was done for this time." Zai Xuan says, "As long as you made it out alive, it's fine." Shu Yaxuan says, "But I still feel wronged." Zai Xuan says, "Try now is not the time for nonsense. We should go to the next task location." Shu Yaxuan says, "Tai, let's rest a bit first." Zai Xuan says, "Are you tired? You haven't done much since the underground prison. If you mean mental fatigue, once your body starts moving, your mind won't be tired." "Alright, let's go, my subordinate." Soon the two arrive at the final task location. Shu Yaxuan says, "This couldn't be the flower parade, could it?" Zai Xuan says, "That's right. We should be more careful with the final task." Welcome everyone to Fantasyland. I am today's host, Bryn. We will present the most spectacular flower parade for everyone. Mr. Ming Zai Xuan, Ms. Shu Yaxuan, welcome to you both. It seems you have successfully completed the first 2 tasks. Thank you for your hard work. Zai Xuan says, "Sen, I won't waste words. What's the last task?" Bryn says, "The final task is very simple. It's hide and seek. Do you see that door in front of you? Magical creatures will appear there, and what you two need to do is avoid them until you reach the destination." Zai Xuan says, "It shouldn't be that simple, right?" Bryn says, "To Mr. Ming is indeed smart. You're right. In this game of hide and seek, the magical creatures will change according to your strength. First, let me assess your strength." Zai Xuan realizes that if calculated this way, it would be difficult to both protect Shu Yaxuan and clear the level. Bryn says, "Congratulations, your level is S rank. This is the first time such a high level has appeared. It's really surprising." Without waiting for Zai Xuan to say anything, Bryn directly starts the game. Please avoid Surtur's clone's attacks. Either reach the checkpoint alive or kill his clone. Zai Xuan quickly notices that the number of participants is actually 3. He knows something must be wrong, but now he has no time to think about these things. Surtur is the guardian of Muspelheim, the realm of fire giants. He exists even before the birth of Ymir, the first giant. His only goal is to burn down the entire world. It is said that the magic sword in his hand, infused with flames, can reduce the whole world to ashes in an instant. So Zhaixuan can only pull Shu Yaxuan and run as fast as possible. Shu Yaxuan says, how can we shake off that guy? Zhaixuan says, Heinz-san, I'm thinking of a way too. If you don't want to die, shut up and keep running. A small cat watching the scene says, it seems my appearance is what caused things to turn out this way. Should I go help them a bit? Hell says, you're really naughty. You clearly don't intend to help, yet you're talking like this. Let them be. I want to see if he can survive this time. Zhaixuan knows clearly that confronting Surtur head-on would be too dangerous. He can only find the checkpoint quickly while avoiding direct conflict. Look over there! The carousel should be the checkpoint, right? Great, let's hang on a bit longer. Zhaixuan immediately activates his speed skill and pulls Zhu Yaxuan forward. Which foolish mortal has summoned me? As soon as the words are spoken, countless fireballs rain down behind Zhaixuan. Zhaixuan says, pay attention and listen carefully to what I say. From now on, we need to split up and run. You just keep running toward the carousel. That's all you need to do. Shu Yaxuan says, bait brother, are you going to be the bait to draw him away? Zhaixuan says, Keenward, you want to be the bait? Hurry and run, I'll attract his attention. However, compared to Surtur, Zhaixuan's figure is too small. I'm over here, you bastard! Hearing Zhaixuan's voice, Surtur finally notices his presence. He immediately launches a fireball at Zhaixuan, but Zhaixuan easily dodges it. Zhaixuan says, Tintu, with speed that slow, you think you can catch me? Hearing this, Surtur angrily throws a punch. At this moment, he notices Shu Yaxuan nearby. Just as Shu Yaxuan is about to reach the carousel bursts into flames right in front of her. Surtur says, foolish human, how can a mere mortal like you oppose me? At this point, there's only one way to complete the level, and that is to defeat Surtur's clone. A fireball suddenly flies towards Zhaixuan, but Zhaixuan blocks it with one hand. Surtur says, until now, no one has been able to block my attack. You do have some skill, but can you block this move? With these words, Surtur swings his sword down forcefully. Zhaixuan slowly extends his right hand. The situation is now critical. If they continue like this, both of them will surely die. Shu Yaxuan immediately activates thought acceleration, trying to find a way to survive. Suddenly, Shu Yaxuan says, brother, I've got it. I've figured out how to defeat Surtur. Now Zhaixuan begins to flee under Shu Yaxuan's instructions. Surtur says, foolish human, do you think you can escape? Shu Yaxuan says, Pain, move 5 steps to the left and he won't be able to hit you. Hearing this, Zhaixuan immediately follows Shu Yaxuan's command. As expected, Surtur's attack misses. They plan to lure Surtur near the water tank. If they extinguish the flames on his body, perhaps they can defeat him. After all, he's only Surtur's clone. If they can strike his vital point, he will certainly die. Shu Yaxuan says, I'll use thought acceleration to predict his movement trajectory in advance. Let's lure him over there together. With Shu Yaxuan's help, Zhaixuan can now easily avoid Surtur's attacks. After a while, Zhaixuan finally stops. Surtur says, weak human, have you finally given up on running away? Zhaixuan says, running away? The word retreat doesn't exist in my dictionary. You, who was beaten half to death by the Aesir gods and then sent to guard the door out of fear, yet you still call me weak? That's truly laughable, Surtur says in disbelief. What are you saying? Zhaixuan taunts. What? Could it be that you're afraid of me, a human? Surtur says, Untiu, I will absolutely not let you go. Surtur brings his sword down, but it turns out to be Zhaixuan's phantom. The next second, water from the tank surges toward him. After Surtur's flames are extinguished, Zhaixuan knows the opportunity has come. Zhaixuan's sword precisely pierces Surtur's heart. Surtur says, you actually use such a despicable tactic. Zhaixuan says, despicable or not, as long as I win, it doesn't matter. Surtur says, although I'm fighting you with a clone now. My true body containing real power won't be so easily defeated by you. With Surtur's disappearance, Zhaixuan and Shu Yaxuan have finally successfully cleared this theme dungeon. The cat says, it seems he really doesn't need my help. Is this his choice? This boy named Ming Zhaixuan is quite interesting. He seems eager to become stronger. What do you think, Hell? Hell says, even so, his current abilities can only be described as slightly impressive. The cat says, that may be true, but isn't the one most concerned about Ming Zhaixuan's situation you? However, the rebel's existence cannot yet be discovered by the Aesir gods. Even though that war is Zhaixuan's destined fate, it's still too early now. To kill Odin, he needs to become much stronger. After checking his own reward, Zhaixuan shifts his gaze to Shu Yaxuan. Just by looking at her expression, he knows that Shu Yaxuan also received a good reward. However, as Zhaixuan's subordinate, she has no secrets from him. Shu Yaxuan says, and the item I received is called Roskva's Seal. When equipped, it increases stamina by 50 points and grants the skill Courage. This skill can help me dispel fear status and increase stamina and agility values. Considering that this skill is not as effective as Shu Yaxuan's thought acceleration, Zhaixuan decides not to ask for this equipment. Bryn says, you seem quite satisfied with the rewards from this mission. It's alright, but thanks to you, it cost me quite some effort. If there's nothing else, we'll be leaving now. Bryn says, then I wish you safe travels, destined rebel. Zhaixuan is surprised that Bryn knows his identity and prepares to ask him about the rebels. But Bryn gradually dissipates before his eyes. At this moment, the theme dungeon is successfully cleared. Everyone look over there, the survivors are coming out. There are 2 survivors in total. They walk out safely. Seeing so many people surrounding her, Shu Yaxuan immediately immediately becomes flustered. Everyone step back, this is not the time for casual chats with the survivors. But before Song Jixi can finish speaking, Zhaixuan vanishes into thin air. With this, only Xu Yaxuan is left behind. Park Geun-hoon speculates that Zhaixuan must have used an invisibility skill. It's probably not invisibility. According to Jin Jian's report, Zhaixuan is magic-based. If it's not invisibility, how can a magic user possess such speed? Because he's a close combat mage. After Zhaixuan comes out, Liu Xingyan immediately contacts him and invites him to visit the Lotus Guild when he has time. Accomplishing such a great feat, then disappearing just like that. This child is truly extraordinary. This student of mine, if I don't ask, he definitely won't tell me voluntarily. I should find time to ask him about it. Following Liu Xingyan's gaze, on the table is clearly a notice for the Milas Academy Guild Experience event. Meanwhile, Zhaixuan has already returned to his dormitory. With the help of the Lotus Guild, there is no news about Zhaixuan in the media. He hadn't expected so many people to gather there at the time. However, this also allowed him to successfully experience the effect of Thialfi's lightning step. Although this dungeon was quite exhausting, the overall gains were very significant. Besides this S-class equipment, Zhaixuan also obtained a consumable item, Searcher's Undying Fire, which can enhance a weapon to its limit and imbue it with fire attributes when used. Moreover, this battle made Zhaixuan realize that he is still too weak. What he needs now is strength that can easily defeat opponents without resorting to clever tricks. Only then can he protect everyone around him, even if the final enemy is the lofty gods themselves. At the same time, in the monitoring room of Milas Academy, Q Ziren says, "To instructor Zheng Lixiu, I'm entrusting this matter to you." Zheng Lixiu says, Fee won't disappoint you. I'll report Zhaixuan's every move in class to you. After Zheng Lixiu leaves, Q Ziren immediately changes his demeanor. If you want to nurture flowers well, you must first clear out the weeds. This activity is truly something to look forward to. I can finally clean up all those messy individuals. After returning to the academy, Zhaixuan tells everyone about being involved into the dungeon. Jin Yuqing says, "Is everything you said true? No wonder I couldn't reach you all weekend." Zhaixuan says, "Xingtai didn't intentionally ignore your calls, so please forgive me." Jin Yuqing says, "Do you know how worried your aunt was when she couldn't reach you all weekend? I was the one who covered for you, so as a reward, you need to treat me to a meal." Unlike Jin Yuqing, Shu Ruina is more concerned about Zhaixuan's physical condition. Zhaixuan says, "Sen, I'm fine, Ruina. You don't need to worry too much." Jin Yuqing says, "Instead you've always had such bad luck since the past. Could it be that you're disliked by the gods?" Little does she know, Zhaixuan is actually under divine protection. Suddenly a voice rings out, "I thought I saw an annoying face, so it was you. If you want to play tricks again this time, you'd better be prepared." Upon hearing this, Zhaixuan immediately falls into deep thought. Jin Yuqing and Shu Ruina are also curious about who this person is. Suddenly, another voice speaks up, "Student Li Shuhei, no talking in the classroom." As the voice sounds, instructor Zheng Lixiu walks into the classroom. Seeing the situation, Li Shuhei can only temporarily let Zhaixuan off. "Hello everyone, my name is Zheng Lixiu. I'll be responsible for teaching you magic calculation understanding 1 this semester. I will do my best to help everyone improve their strength. I hope all of you can keep up with my progress. This course is mainly to help you understand magic at its essence, so we'll cover some content about calculation formulas in class. I'd like to first ask, how much do you all know about magic?" Li Shuhei answers, "Pen magic is based on calculation formulas, manifesting supernatural phenomena through the infusion of magical power %. That's right, magic is the study of using calculation formulas to trigger certain phenomena." Having received the instructor's affirmation, Li Shuhei immediately gives Zhaixuan a smug look. Zheng Lixiu says, "Now I'll give each of you a book. This book contains basic calculation formulas that can trigger D-class magic. These formulas are also the foundation for all magic you'll use in the future, and fully mastering this book is your task for this semester." After receiving the book, students begin to discuss among themselves because the book appears to have no words to them. However, after receiving the book, Zhaixuan's expression shows a slight change, and this subtle detail is fully noticed by Zheng Lixiu. "Now I have a question for student Ming Zhaixuan. Can you tell me what kind of text is written in this book?" Zhaixuan says, "110 text in this book is runic." Zheng Lixiu says, "That's correct. The text here is indeed runic. This is a magic guidebook that needs to have its calculation formulas decoded before it can be read. New students usually need a week to decode it, but Zhaixuan could see the text as soon as he received it." Zheng Lixiu says, "Then let me ask you another question. Do you know what the runic title means?" Hearing this, Zhaixuan can't help but chuckle. He's not sure if it's his destiny with the Aesir gods, or another joke played by the Norn system. The name of this book is actually Tunodin's Life and Basic Runic Writing. On the other side, after facing countless cameras, Xu Yaxuan returns home physically and mentally exhausted. Although she really hates interacting with Zhaixuan, now she has no choice but to find a way to meet him, because Zhaixuan has not yet released her from their subordinate relationship, so Zhaixuan can still control her every move. Thinking about this, she can't help but pound her bed in frustration. Xu Yaxuan suddenly realizes she can locate Zhaixuan's position through this skill. Meanwhile, Zhaixuan is in the library studying magic calculation formulas. All calculation formulas change according to different ways of application. For example, lightning chain is actually a combination of attribute magic and chain magic, so as long as you build a good foundation, even low-level magic can be used to produce different effects. For combat system, after improving proficiency in basic swordsmanship, they can master intermediate swordsmanship. For magic users, the deeper the understanding of calculation formulas, the higher the level they can reach. At this moment, Zhaixuan looks up at the two people beside him. They don't find it as as easy to understand this book as Zai does. Zai consoles them. At least you managed to understand the title. Jin Yuqing says, I'm so frustrated. I was the one who taught you magic in the beginning. Zai says, since student surpasses the master, it's quite normal. Just then, Zhu Ruina suddenly exclaims excitedly, great, I can finally see the content of the first chapter. Zai says, hard work always pays off. Congratulations. Hearing Zai praise her like this, Zhu Ruina's face immediately turns red. Then she buries her head in the book. Zai feels she seems a bit distant with him, thinking it might be because he intentionally kept a distance from her. Jin Yuqing angrily says, damn it, why am I the only one who still can't see anything? Jin Yuqing's sudden shout draws angry glares from many people. Zai hurriedly explains that it wasn't his doing. But what they don't know is that a raven is watching them from outside the window. Only after Zai and his friends finish studying for the day does the raven flap its wings and leave. After leaving, they go to Li Zaixiang's workshop. Now they need to come up with a name for Li Zaixiang's magic potion shop. But this is not a simple task for them. After all, there has never been a precedent for a magic potion shop before, so they worry about what to do if there are no customers and the shop goes bankrupt. Li Zaixiang says, for hunters, survival is the most important thing, so the magic potion shop could never go bankrupt. And you've all just tasted it, so you should know how effective it is. This can be called a revolution in hunter history, Tess, and everything started a few days ago. After passing the magic theory quiz, everyone welcomed a brief rest period. To become stronger, Zai sold all the materials he collected from Heimdall's underworld, but this money alone is not enough for Zai to buy sufficient equipment, so he decided to let Li Zaixiang fully utilize his role. This led to everyone gathering together to discuss the name for the magic potion shop. But just then, Shu Yaxuan angrily pushes the door open and says, if you're going to leave, at least fulfill your promise first. Zai is curious about why Zhu Yaxuan found him. Shu Yaxuan says, and to keep me obedient, didn't you cast a spell on me? Hearing this, the two girls' faces darken as they say, how could you use that kind of skill to threaten a child? Zai says, since you're here, sit down in that empty seat. Let me borrow your clever brain. As a super genius with an IQ of 150, Shu Yaxuan encounters her life's downfall when naming the magic potion shop. She wants to name Li Zaixiang's shop Heaven Demon Potions. The other two want to name it Anjaixiang's Potion Shop and Annalisa's Potion Workshop. Hearing these names, Zai feels completely dissatisfied. Not a single one is appealing. Jin Yuqing says, Xiaowen, why won't you ask for my opinion? Zai says, Xiaowen, whether I listen or not, the result will be the same. Alright, go ahead and tell me. Jin Yuqing says, Elixir Workshop, how about this name? Elixir is an alternate name for the Philosopher's Stone created by alchemists in the past. It's also a mysterious potion that can heal wounds and save lives. Li Zaixiang says, this name is good. It can both promote our potions and enhance brand value. Zai can't help but grab Jin Yuqing's shoulders and say, thank you. And so, the name of the magic potion shop is officially decided. After a brief rest, Zai and his friends return to their daily courses. Since Zai progress in magic calculation far exceeds others, almost all questions in class are answered by him. And without exception, Zai can always give perfect answers. As a result, Li Shuhei's jealousy towards Zai intensifies day by day. That's all for today's class. Thank you everyone for your hard work. Just as Zheng Lixiu prepares to leave, Zai suddenly stops her and says, I have some questions while reading this magic guidebook, so I'd like to ask for your guidance. Seeing this book, Zheng Lixiu becomes flustered. Because this is a 4-star magic guidebook, even general instructors find it difficult to understand. She doesn't understand how Zai has already reached this level. Since Zheng Lixiu cannot provide help to Zai he can only research it himself first. Unfortunately, Zai makes no progress during this time. With no choice, he has to seek help from his teacher Lu Jinan. However, his every move these days is observed by the library administrator. After Zai leaves, he silently writes in his notebook, Ming Zai borrowed a 4-star magic guidebook. After leaving the library, Zai arrives at the Lotus Guild. Lu Jinan says, you came earlier than I expected. Zai says, since I actually wanted to come find you much earlier, but I was busy preparing for exams, so I was delayed. So you've come this time to have me help you decode the 4-star magic guidebook? Yes, with my current abilities, I completely cannot understand the contents of the book. Creation that can write brand new magic. Destruction that can dispel magic. Turning everything to nothing. Amplification that can enhance the power of magic to the next level. Both the calculation formulas and theories are more complex. So far, Zai can only understand some basics with Odin's Eye, but he now urgently needs a deeper understanding of magic. Liu Xinan says, speaking of this, I can't clearly tell you either. Zai is curious why even S-class Liu Xinan cannot provide help. Liu Xinan says, those concepts that appear in the 4-star magic guidebook, it is meaningless if you don't familiarize yourself with them personally. Only when you understand them yourself can you step into the realm of A-class hunters. And for Zai only by reaching A-class hunter level would he have a chance to avenge on his father. Liu Xinan says, however, since my student has asked, as your teacher I can tell you a training method. Zai is curious why it's a training method, not a decoding method. Liu Xinan says, this training method can help you comprehend the concept of amplification among the 3 concepts. Are you interested? Zai says, of course. As long as it can make me stronger, I'm interested in anything. And the method Liu Xinan mentions is to train while wearing Gleipnir. After putting on Gleipnir, all of Zai ability values will decrease by 50%. During this time, he needs to repeatedly use one skill and continuously analyze that magic's calculation formula during the process. Zai doesn't doesn't understand the relationship between amplification and this kind of training. Liu Xinan says, "In the relationship between these two is something you need to realize yourself. But starting with a too complex magic would be too difficult. Something like magic arrow should be just right." So Zaishuan begins training in the AR battle space wearing Gleipnir. According to Liu Xinan's instructions, Zaishuan can only use the magic arrow skill. Due to Gleipnir's effect, Zaishuan's attributes have decreased significantly. His body becomes heavy and slow again. Monsters that he could easily defeat before now become difficult to handle. Jin Yuking says, "Are you really okay like this? The smell of ointment on your body can be detected from 100 meters away." Shu Ruina says, "Do you know that you've practically been living in the AR battle space for a week? It's better not to push yourself too hard." Zaishuan says, "Thank you for worrying about me, but you know there's a quiz in 2 days, right?" Jin Yuqing, "You probably haven't finished reading all the content covered in the exam yet, right?" And Runa, "I heard if you fail again, you'll have to stay for remedial classes." Jin Yuqing nervously says, "It seems like it's time to go to the library." Ruina, "Let's go, we can't chat with Zaishuan here anymore." Zaishuan can only helplessly watch the two leave. After this, Zaishuan returns to the AR battle space again, although the difficulty of clearing the levels is much higher than before. After a week of effort, Zaishuan finally perfectly passes level 41. At this moment, Magic Arrow upgrades to level 2, and Zaishuan finally comprehends the meaning of amplification. Amplification, as the name suggests, is the leap of a skill, or the upgrade of a skill. As the understanding of a magic calculation formula deepens and the proficiency of using the skill increases, the power of the skill also strengthens. However, at this level, the highest would be B class, or perhaps the entry level of an A class hunter. Although Zaishuan initially approached Liu Jinan with an attitude of exploitation, now there is indeed a master-student relationship between them. The scene changes, Jin Shiji comes to Q Ziren's office again, but this time Q Ziren doesn't even look up at him. Jin Shiji knows this is because he didn't handle the simulation dungeon matter well. The guild experience activity is ready. Q Ziren says, "Faster than I expected. Is there anything unusual about that place?" Jin Shiji says, "Please rest assured, the preparations are very thorough this time." Q Ziren says, "Instructor Jin Shiji, you've done well. All created things have their own use, even at the moment when they become useless." On the other side, Zaishuan, who has reached the entry level, finally gets a moment to breathe. But just then, he senses a familiar magical power on campus. Zaishuan says, "Are you going to come out yourself or should I come over?" As soon as he finishes speaking, Zaishuan suddenly turns around to look behind him. Tremendous magical power immediately surges from within him. He quickly senses the ravens hiding around. After seeing the number of intruders, Zaishuan reveals a slight smile. These ravens are perfect for testing his current strength. With his agile figure, Zaishuan easily dodges the ravens' attacks. He can even find the ravens' weaknesses and counterattack during the evasion process. Zaishuan says, "It seems you don't know that your companions have already been killed by me." As soon as he finishes speaking, 2 other hidden ravens rush out. Zaishuan realizes that these ravens are also a group without rationality, but their boldness to act so openly within the academy indicates that Qiu Ziren has also begun to take action. After a simple analysis, Zaishuan no longer holds back. After all, these ravens contain no useful information. Zaishuan says, "Whatever your purpose is, you've provoked someone you shouldn't have." As soon as he finishes speaking, Zaishuan uses Magic Arrow. The level 2 Magic Arrow easily kills 2 ravens. Just when Zaishuan thinks everything is over, he suddenly senses a dangerous presence, so he immediately activates a magic barrier. At this moment, a familiar figure appears before Zaishuan. In an instant, Zaishuan is on high alert. "How are you?" Ming Chenggao says, "Long time no see, my useless son." Before Ming Chenggao finishes speaking, Zaishuan launches Lightning Chain, but these attacks are easily dodged by him. Seeing his enemy, Zaishuan cannot calm down at all. He continuously controls Lightning Chain to attack Ming Chenggao. Perhaps out of impatience, Ming Chenggao breaks the Lightning Chain's offensive with one sword, and the aftermath of this sword forces Zaishuan to stop casting. Although Zaishuan dodges in the first place, he is still injured, and Zaishuan cannot even see his sword movement clearly. Ming Chenggao says, "Tish, I just haven't seen you for a long time, so I came to check on you. I didn't expect that during this time your character has become quite bold." Zaishuan says, "I don't need you to check on me. I never considered you as my father." Ming Chenggao says, "Since seems you've reached your rebellious phase." Xuan says, "What is your purpose in coming here?" Ming Chenggao says, "You ask me why I'm here?" Actually, Ming Chenggao is also curious about why Zaishuan has grown so much in such a short time. "I just want to ask you one question. Have the opponents of the Aesir gods contacted you?" Hearing Ming Chenggao's words, Zaishuan's eyes betray his thoughts. Ming Chenggao says, see, I don't need your answer anymore." As soon as he finishes speaking, Ming Chenggao slashes his sword at Zaishuan. Zaishuan immediately uses a magic barrier to resist his offense. But as soon as the magic barrier appears, it is shattered by Ming Chenggao's sword aura. The remnants of the sword aura seriously injure Zaishuan. Zaishuan doesn't believe this is the power of an A-class hunter, and he is curious about how Ming Chenggao knows these things. Zaishuan says, "Are you going to kill me now?" Ming Chenggao says, "Yeah, I won't kill you, but I will cut off your limbs here." As soon as he finishes speaking, Ming Chenggao swings his sword towards Zaishuan. In Zaishuan's condition, he is absolutely unable to dodge this attack. But at this moment, a dark green magical power suddenly appears around them, and the source of that magical power is a black cat. Ming Chenggao says, "Qinxi, are you trying to destroy the treaty between us, or do you dare to offend Lord Odin?" The cat says, "Sin, I really don't understand what you're talking about." Zaishuan suspects he's hallucinating. A cat is actually talking in front of him. The cat cat continues, "Step back, we have business with this child." As she speaks, the black cat transforms into a young girl. Zaichuan can feel that her magical power is even stronger than Ming Chengao's. Zaichuan doesn't understand what's happening now. Ming Chengao says, "Do you really want to push things to this point?" The girl doesn't answer Ming Chengao. She just cuts her arm with her finger. Her blood drips onto the ground one by one. The next second, that blood transforms into ghostly claws attacking Ming Chengao. Ming Chengao can only temporarily block these attacks with his sword. The girl says, "Min should know that we have only this one choice left, right?" In an instant, the ghostly claws attacks become more fierce. Powerful magic firmly suppresses Ming Chengao in place. Trying to end the war of the gods with a mere human, it seems you've grown quite weak, Lord Loki. And how great can Odin be when he's trying to eliminate even a mere human? Ming Chengao says, "I'll withdraw today, but next time if you interfere like today, I will officially hold you accountable according to the treaty." The girl says, "Whatever, but you better remember, if you play such tricks to interfere with me again, I can cut your throat at any time." The treaty was only signed between the Aesir gods and the opponents of the Aesir gods. There's no clause saying we can't kill Odin's ravens. Ming Chengao doesn't say much more, he simply turns and leaves. The girl stares at where he disappeared, lost in thought. At this moment, Zaichuan finally can't hold on anymore and coughs up blood. The girl says, "'Tis nice to meet you, Ming Zaichuan. I am Hell's avatar, Hela. I am both the observer who witnesses you, the prophesied rebel, and the guide who will lead you to complete the 5 trials." Back at the dormitory, Zaichuan immediately begins to heal himself. Hela says, "Phew, you can ask whatever you want now. As long as it's within my ability to answer, I will tell you." Zaichuan says, "Then tell me, who exactly is Ming Chengao?" Hela says, "He is not your biological father. His real name is Fujin. He is one of Odin's 2 ravens. Fujin was originally a sacred bird with the ability to erode people's hearts and manipulate their power. He uses the power of Wuni, another raven that can control memories, to wreak havoc. He has been pretending to be your family, lingering around you just to restrain you, the prophesied rebel. Rather than listening to me, it would be easier for you to understand if you see it yourself." So she uses the Norn system to awaken Zaichuan's backup memories. Zaichuan suddenly appears outside a room. Inside, a boy is being beaten, and that man is Ming Chengao, or rather, Fugin. From the day Zaichuan awakened his magic power, that place called home was filled with abuse and insults, although his mother always protected Zaichuan. What she received in return was a body covered in injuries. Suddenly, the scene before Zaichuan changes. An incense burner appears before him, something that only appears when someone in the family passes away. The boy is now curled up in his mother's arms, crying. Although tears continuously flow from his mother's eyes, she still constantly comforts the child in her arms, and the photo above the incense burner gives Zaichuan a very familiar feeling. Zaichuan suddenly finds it difficult to breathe, but not because the smoke is too thick, but because he seems to have forgotten something very important. Gradually, a man holding ice cream appears before Zaichuan. Even though he would be scolded by his wife, he still couldn't help buying the ice cream Zaichuan wanted. That should have been a memory Zaichuan could never forget in his life. How could I forget all this? Zaichuan can't help but touch the person in the photo, but before he can look more, his consciousness is transported back to the real world. Hela says, Seems you've finally broken free from the fabricated memories." Zaichuan says, Why is it like this?" Hela says, "Possibly because you are destined to become the rebel." Zaichuan says, "What does this all mean? Why make my life so painful?" Hela says, 1 million years ago, Ragnarok descended. Everything started from that time sent. Ragnarok is both the final battle of the gods and the place where all stories end, the end. In the final battle, the allied army of the Aesir gods' opponents fought fiercely, but in the end, they were defeated by the Aesir gods and the army led by the Valkyries. Odin forced them to sign a treaty, using it as a condition to release hostages. This treaty made Odin's power even greater. Countless beings in the world suffered torture because of this, constantly wailing. However, at that time, the 3 Norns made a prophecy. About 10,000 years later, when the second end descends, the weakest existence in the world will overthrow Odin and Asgard's rule, opening a new world. And that prophesied rebel is you, Ming Zaichuan. You could say you are our hope. Zaichuan says, "So using me to eliminate Odin is your plan?" Hela says, "Yes, this is our only chance." Zaichuan asks, "Then what is Odin's purpose? What does he gain from all this?" Hela explains, "He wants to reach the pinnacle of the 9 worlds. Odin wants to control all 9 worlds in his hands, including here, Midgard, where humans live. It is rumored that in the distant Asgard there is a supreme god. It is because of his existence that the 9 worlds can continue to live in peace. When humans living in Midgard face the threat of monsters, Odin gave humans the Aesir system, providing them with the power to fight against monsters." But Hela tells Zaichuan, Odin's true purpose is to control the 9 worlds in his hands. Suddenly learning such information, Zaichuan feels a bit at a loss. Odin has already conquered 4 worlds: Vanaheim, Jotunheim, Svartalfheim, Muspelheim. Zaichuan asks, "So he wants to occupy the remaining worlds in the second war?" Hela says, "That's right, so we don't have much time left." Zaichuan says, If that's the case, why didn't Odin kill me earlier?" Hela says, "'Tis because the power of prophecy is a historical torrent that even gods cannot violate." Zaichuan says, "So that's why Odin allows me to grow?" Hela says, That's right, you are now protected by that power. However, Odin probably already knows about your contact with the opponents of the Aesir gods, which means Ragnarok might come earlier than expected. There is no eternal power in this world. When the second Ragnarok descends, all shackles and restraints will disappear. Similarly, the power protecting you will also disappear. At that time, you will be be eliminated by the Acer gods. No, you should say you've already been eliminated once by the Acer gods. In an instant, Zaichuan understands everything. It turns out that his death before the transmigration was a trap set by Odin. They have been manipulating Zaichuan's life from the beginning, not only killing his family but also fabricating his memories, making him live in hell. Hela says, Hansh rebel, do you want revenge? Do you want to protect your most precious things? Ming Zaichuan, listen carefully, I am the guide of the 5 trials. Prophesied rebel, to help you grow into a godslayer capable of eliminating Odin. I will give you trials. As long as you pass these trials, you will gain the power to slay gods. The Norn system suddenly pops up a new mission, Path of the Godslayer. The user is destined to become the rebel against Odin and Asgard. To break Odin's ambition, please inherit the power of the opponents of the Aesir gods. So far, Zaichuan has only passed Hell's trial. When all trials are completed, he will receive the blessing of the opponents of the Aesir gods. Please strive to become stronger before the next weekend arrives. I will watch you as the eyes of the rebels. Please don't disappoint us. The scene shifts to Asgard. How annoying, just because of a prophecy I have to spy on such an insignificant existence. Just a human who can't even touch the tip of our feet. Even the seed of a giant tree, if eliminated in its budding stage, it cannot continue to grow. But the more it's like this, the more persistent the opponents become. Our great cause is about to be completed. At this time, we absolutely cannot show any flaws. Heimdall, I will grant you temporary authority. You should know what this means, right? Of course, I can finally leave Asgard. In order to completely nip the prophesied rebel in the bud, Zeus granted Heimdall the right to go to Midgard. Zaichuan cannot digest all this information at once. Whenever he stops, he can't help but recall what Hela told him. So he can only force himself to become stronger, at least to have the ability to protect the people around him when crisis comes. Meanwhile, Enhaoyan continuously trains during this time, attempting to catch up to Zaichuan. Due to recent special training, his body is sore all over, so he plans to ask Li Zaixiang for some fatigue relief medicine. Although Enhaoyan has successfully mastered an S-class skill through special training, given the current situation, his body is still not capable of using this skill for an extended period. But Zaichuan's strength has already reached a very high level. With Enhaoyan's current strength, it's absolutely impossible to defeat Zaichuan at the Milas Academy Festival. Thinking about these things, Enhaoyan abandons the idea of going back to rest. To become an opponent worthy of challenging Zaichuan, he decides to practice a bit more. But just at this moment, the broadcast suddenly sounds. Director Qiu Ziren calls student Enhaoyan. Please report to the director's office immediately. At the same time, Qiu Ziren is on the phone with someone, and after filtering out the downstream students, resources will naturally return to the excellent students. And even if there are any idle gossip from outside, you will immediately step in to resolve it, right? Park Yaowon says, but the incident in the simulation dungeon last time was too big. Those people from the Hunter Management Headquarters must have started taking action. Hearing Park Yaowon say this, Qiu Ziren says, Tus, they're just rice worms eating the nation's food. Don't worry, I've already prepared. For the guild experience activity in a few days, I'll arrange for someone to deliberately cause an accident there. Park Yaowon says, you mean you want to borrow a knife to kill someone? Qiu Ziren says, your understanding is quick indeed. What do you think of this plan? Park Yaowon says, Ten, as discussed before, we will continue to provide support funds to Milas Academy. Now I want to discuss the specific plan with you. Qiu Ziren says, of course, I await your visit at any time. Qiu Ziren doesn't know that a pair of hands has stopped outside his office, and the owner of those hands is Enhaoyan, who came here after hearing the broadcast. Hearing the familiar voice inside, he recalls what happened on the day of the freshman hunt. Only now does he realize that the culprit who invaded his mind that day was Qiu Ziren. This means that the person who triggered the simulation dungeon incident and observed from the sidelines was also him. At this thought, Enhaoyan is immediately consumed by anger. He unconsciously tightens his grip on the doorknob. Fortunately, Enhaoyan quickly calms himself down. Acting rashly now would be too dangerous. Moreover, this problem cannot be solved by him alone. Director, it's me, Enhaoyan. Student Enhaoyan, you've finally arrived. I've been waiting for you for a long time. Please come in. Enhaoyan knows clearly that if he wants to thoroughly resolve this matter, he must find trustworthy people. Meanwhile, the magic system students are attending class. Zaichuan is still thinking about what Hela told him. Alright, that's all for today's class. I have a few announcements to make. Those who are dozing off, wake up. In an instant, the classroom becomes noisy again. Zaichuan knows it's time for the next activity to begin. According to previous notifications, the guild experience will take place in 3 days. Through the guild experience, you can learn about how the Hunter Guild operates. You'll also learn how they hunt magical beasts. This is a great opportunity. Director Qiu Ziren has specially planned this activity for everyone. Zaichuan inwardly sneers. In his previous life, he went to a newly established E-rank guild and just sat on a sofa until the activity ended. But in this life, with his achievements at the academy, he can join any guild he wants. However, what he desires most is the Sea God Guild. In his previous life, it was the #1 guild in the country, so he wants to see it with his own eyes. Additionally, several students from our department have already been pre-selected by guilds. Pre-selection means that a guild sends invitations to students they're interested in. If the student accepts, the guild will provide special points. Ming Zaichuan, Zhu Ruina, Jin Yuqing, you 3 have been selected by the Lotus Guild, and Li Zhuhei, you've been pre-selected by the Sea God Guild. Upon hearing she's been selected by the Lotus Guild, Jin Yuqing excitedly shouts, Zaichuan has lost his chance to visit the Sea God Guild because of that phone call. You need to make your decisions by today and then send me your prepared materials. After class, Jin Yuqing excitedly hugs Zhu Ruina because she can meet her idol. Since the three of them have been selected, Zai Xuan believes and Haoyan has been too. At that moment, the three of them simultaneously receive a text message. To their surprise, it is an invitation from the Lotus Guild. Instead, it's an Haoyan asking them to come to Li Zaixiang's workshop. Shortly after, and Haoyan tells everyone what he heard in Qiu Ziren's office. Jin Yuqing says in shock, Qiu Ziren wants to get rid of students with poor grades during the guild experience, and Haoyan says, that's right, I heard him say it himself outside his office. Li Zaixiang says, his corruption issues are brought up every year, but I don't think he would go this far. Zhu Ruina says, this is too much. How can he play with others' lives like this? In his previous life, Zaichuan only knew that an accident had occurred, causing several students to die during the activity, and Haoyan says, currently, only we know about this. That means only we know the truth in advance and can take appropriate measures. But Zaichuan hesitates. If they interfere rashly, everyone might be in danger. I absolutely cannot stand by and do nothing when I know fellow students will be harmed. Being considerate of others is indeed noble, but you can't be brave without a plan. Seeing this, Jin Yuqing says, now is not the time to consider. This concerns the lives of other students. Li Zaixiang says, I agree. Although I'm a bit scared, if I can help, I'll do my best. Zhu Ruina says, if we can prevent this from happening, I don't want to stand by either. Zaichuan is a bit surprised. He clearly didn't expect everyone to think this way. He unconsciously used his former way of thinking. But Zaichuan forgot that the people around him are all geniuses who dream of becoming hunters. A hunter's job isn't just to find treasures and hunt magical beasts. Their most important duty is to protect others. As Zaichuan makes his decision, the system notification sounds, marking the second turning point of the main quest. Under everyone's gaze, Zaichuan slowly stands up and says, then, let's create a battle plan. Hearing this, everyone present smiles. We need to make a plan that will teach Qiu Ziren a lesson. After discussing how to deal with Qiu Ziren, Zaichuan first finds instructor Zheng Lixiu. Zheng Lixiu says, you've mastered the 4-star magic book so quickly. That's truly unbelievable. Zheng Lixiu suddenly trembles, feeling that the Zaichuan before her is extremely dangerous. Although Qiu Ziren wants to groom Zaichuan as his next pawn, Zaichuan is clearly not a blade that can be easily controlled. Zaichuan says, after all, you've taught me a lot of knowledge. Why do you look so serious? Are you planning to report to that guy Qiu Ziren again? In that moment, Zheng Lixiu feels as if she's plunged into an ice cellar, completely stunned. After coming to her senses, she immediately asks loudly, how did you know? Zaichuan puts his hand in front of Zheng Lixiu and says, Instructor Zheng Lixiu, please calm down first. More importantly, I have something to ask of you. Can you agree to it? The moment Zaichuan finishes speaking, Zheng Lixiu's eyes lose focus. This is a skill Zaichuan copied from Qiu Ziren, brainwashing. Now that Zheng Lixiu's mental strength is inferior to Zaichuan's, he can easily control her. The most effective way to defeat an enemy is to thoroughly grasp their movements from within. Zaichuan says, Instructor Zheng Lixiu, you'll be my colleague for the next few days? Zheng Lixiu says, we are colleagues. Zaichuan says, that's right. Now we can finally have a proper conversation. Tell me, what dirty scheme has Qiu Ziren planned for this guild experience? Time jumps to 3 days later, the day of the guild experience. Jin Yuqing excitedly says, great, I actually made it to the Lotus Guild. Shinkai says, very pleased to meet you all. I am Park Shinkai, the manager of the Lotus Guild. I will guide you through this guild experience. Please follow me. Shinkai first shows them around some of the guild's facilities, finally leading them to a room. Lu Xinan says, very pleased to meet you all. I am Lu Xinan, president of the Lotus Guild. I've prepared some afternoon tea for you. Please have a seat. Shu Ruina suddenly notices that Jin Yuqing beside her is trembling non-stop. Jin Yuqing says, I can't believe I'm seeing you this close. I'm your fan. Please give me your autograph. Thank you. The support from fans gives me great strength. Lu Xinan says to Zaichuan, I didn't expect you to make so many friends so quickly. You're really amazing. Zaichuan says, you're too kind. And Haoyan notices the unusual relationship between the two and says, Zaichuan, do you know director Lu Xinan? Lu Xinan says, of course I know him. Zaichuan is my disciple. In that moment, everyone present is stunned. They never imagined Zaichuan and Lu Xinan had such a relationship. Lu Xinan says, thanks to this connection, I was able to hear about these things from Zaichuan. Calling you here after the guild experience is also about this matter. Actually, including the Lotus Guild, several other guilds are aware of Qiu Ziren's corruption issues. But Milas Academy gives him too much power, so everyone has to pretend not to know. If this weren't the case, Qiu Ziren wouldn't dare to act so blatantly. He seems to possess the ability to open dungeons. Qiu Ziren hides his abilities well. Even we don't know all of his capabilities. If you really want to act, you must formulate a detailed strategy. Then Liu Xinan looks at Shinkai nearby, and everyone follows her gaze. Xinkai says these are the marked guilds currently conducting guild experiences. I investigated the magic fields in the area a bit. These two places have magic fields that are stronger and more concentrated than normal. If a dungeon appears, it's likely to be at one of these locations. Liu Xinan says, let's have our Lotus Guild members watch these places. Once signs of trouble are detected, immediately seal off the surrounding area and prioritize evacuating residents. Zaichuan says, this method is good, but Qiu Ziren will never fight unprepared. If he knows the Lotus Guild is involved, that guy might become more aggressive in finding ways to counter. Liu Xinan says, judging by your expression, you already have an idea, right? Zaichuan says, yes, we need to personally save those students. Meanwhile, Milas Academy students are led by the guild representative into a dark corridor. Chen Kan in the crowd reveals a smile. The director personally arranged for him to come here. He believes the director must have discovered his hidden potential. When he leaves this place, it will be the day he makes his mark. mark. A voice calls out, Chen-kan, wait a moment. Chen-kan says, what is it? Do you need something? The girl says, don't you think this place is a bit strange? A normal guild should have various facilities, but this place looks like it's been abandoned for a long time. Hearing the girl's words, everyone realizes that this place indeed doesn't look like a proper guild. At this moment, Jin Shiji says, students of Milas Academy, this is our destination. Instructor Jin Shiji, why are you here? Jin Shiji says, I didn't expect the skill to wear off so quickly. Well, there's no helping it, although it's a bit earlier than planned. Students, we must part ways here. This is the last lesson I'll teach you, everyone. But who knows? Perhaps you'll be able to survive that hell. Meanwhile, Zaishuan's group follows the navigation to the vicinity. Jin Yuqing says, this doesn't look like a guild. It seems more like an abandoned building. Zaishuan is looking at the nearby bushes and says, you followed us, right? Xingkai says, of course. Please don't worry. But by the way, how did you master telepathy so quickly? Zaishuan says, I've read several magic books these past few days. Xingkai says, the process of intervening in someone's mind and conveying thoughts with magic isn't easy. You're really impressive. Zaishuan says, I'll have to go in with them. When an accident happens, I'll trouble you. Xingkai says, leave it to me. I won't let anything happen to you. The scene returns to the Lotus Guild, where Lu Xinen says, taking my manager with him, that child Zaishuan is really bold. Park Hana says, I hope he can really help. He's a bit silly. He is your brother after all. Be gentler with him. But that's also the charm of you siblings. But at this moment, Lu Xinen feels a surge of uneasiness. There seems to be a very unstable magical force nearby, appearing and disappearing, drifting. Liu Xingyan looks up toward the window. That's the place Zaishuan told her they would go. Zaishuan says, Q Ziren wants to trigger a dungeon at the Kane Guild. Liu Xingyan says, Kane Guild? As far as I know, that's a guild Q Ziren personally established. This makes his behavior somewhat incomprehensible. The Kane Guild is in the city center of S City, and it's not far from the Lotus Guild. He dares to be so blatant. This isn't like his usual style at all. Zaishuan says, this is internal intelligence, so it must be correct. I think Qiu Ziren must be playing some trick. Liu Xin'en says, Hana, have you investigated that guild established by Qiu Ziren? Park Hana says, I have. The investigation shows that the Kane Guild is actually a ghost guild. As you know, some people use guild fronts for tax evasion and illegal activities. Most of these guilds have no actual achievements. Qiu Ziren seems to have established this guild for that purpose. What Zaishuan said is indeed correct, but Liu Xin'en still can't understand what Qiu Ziren is trying to do. Hana, help me prepare equipment for emergencies. Despite making thorough preparations, Liu Xin'en still fears Zaishuan and the others might encounter accidents. Meanwhile, Zaishuan and his group have also arrived at that dilapidated corridor. Jin Yuqing says, is it really here? This place looks like ruins. Zaishuan says, yes, it's here. It's emanating from here. That magical power with a putrid smell that makes one sick. This magical power is too unusual, so Zaishuan plans to have himself and Xingkai handle it. Shu Ruina says, I sense traces of residual magic. Someone must have cast high-level magic nearby just now. At this moment, that eerie magical power becomes even more intense. Zaishuan quickly turns around and shouts, everyone leave this place now. But the moment the formation appears, the four discover they can't move. Foolish ones, come. To the realm of the Dark Elves, Svartalfheim. New prey has arrived. Wake up, everyone. It's time for a feast. The realm of the Dark Elves, also known as Svartalfheim, is the legendary dwelling place of Dark Elves. In Norse mythology, Dark Elves possess power that rivals the gods. Fortunately, this is in dungeon, and the Dark Elves' power has been greatly reduced. What angers Zaishuan most is that Qiu Ziren wants to kill his students in such a place. And Haoyan says, to think the director can use such high-level teleportation magic. What is his background? Hearing in Haoyan's words, Zaishuan immediately calms down. Qiu Ziren is just a mortal. How could he activate the teleportation array of the 9 worlds by himself? This means he must have some connection with the Acer. No matter how we look at it, the current situation is unfavorable to us. While the group is discussing strategies, Park Xingkai slowly walks into the teleportation array. And Haoyan says, Uncle Xingkai, why are you here? Xingkai says, Zaishuan said that just in case you need an adult hunter who can help, so I followed along. If Director Lu Xinen came personally, she would definitely be noticed by many eyes. Jin Yuqing says, that's great. I thought we were doomed. Xingkai says, we can't let our guard down. Even with me here, the situation is not optimistic. This is Svartalfheim. Even A-ranked hunters would struggle to leave alive. Everyone stay alert. If we're not careful, we could all lose our lives. The method to conquer Svartalfheim is still largely unknown, but that's only in terms of the present. As a transmigrator, how could Zaishuan not know the method to clear this place? Zaishuan reassures, don't worry everyone. No matter what, we'll all leave this place alive together. I promise you. But first, we need to find those survivors. Meanwhile, and Haoyan's father is conversing with a man. And Haoyan's father says, your actions clearly violate our agreement. I remember you told me you would nurture an Haoyan well. Qiu Ziren says, you have absolutely no need to worry. In the next activity, an Haoyan will easily take first place. And Haoyan's father says, what kind of person got first place in this new student hunt? How could Haoyan be outdone by him? Qiu Ziren says, you've already seen the video. There's no need to ask such redundant questions. His name is Ming Zaishuan, a genius with a 97% magic system adaptation rate. And Haoyan's father says, that's impossible. How could there be such a high adaptation rate? Qiu Ziren says, don't be too excited. The tea has already gone cold. Let me get you a new cup. And Haoyan's father says, no need. I'll take my leave for today. And Shijushi has a military background and has many connections in relevant departments, which Qiu Ziren finds useful. But with Qiu Ziren's current background, he has no need to force himself himself into the situation. More importantly, Qiu Zirain would never participate in a game where he would suffer losses. The scene returns to Svartalfheim, where the group is still exploring deeper into the dungeon. Shu Ruina says, "It's too dark here with no visibility. Looks like I need to use Light Wave." Zai says, "Don't waste your magic. This would be better." Then Zai uses Light Wave. In an instant, countless light orbs fly into the air. Jin Yuqing says incredulously, "How is this possible? Are these lights?" Zai says, "You guessed right. I've already upgraded the D-rank magic Light Wave." Shu Ruina says, "Isn't skill upgrading something only A-rank hunters can do?" And Hao Yan also falls into thought, unable to imagine that Zai Xuan's strength has reached such a level. Zai says, "What are you all standing around for? Let's hurry while we can." As the manager of the Lotus Guild, Xingkai has led countless rookie hunters, but Zai Xuan's existence is truly beyond common sense. He can't help but wonder how far Zai Xuan can grow. After walking for a long time, Zai Xuan stops and says, "Let's rest here before continuing. We've walked for so long, everyone should replenish their energy." Zai Xuan waves his hand and extinguishes all the light orbs. Jin Yuqing asks in confusion, "Zai Xuan, what are you doing? Why did you put out the lights?" Zai Xuan says, "Dark elves are beings accustomed to living in darkness. Light waves are easily destroyed by them, so we must quickly adapt to the darkness." Jin Yuqing says, "Fine. Fortunately, we brought magic potions. The magic here is so dense I can barely breathe." Shu Ruina says, "Thanks to Zai Xuan for having Zai Xiang prepare so many potions for us in advance." At this moment, and Hao Yan notices a cave nearby. He says, "There are many forks in the road here. Maybe survivors are on one of these paths." Zai Xuan says, "I have a way." Then Zai Xuan mobilizes his internal magic to search these paths. The middle path leads to the ultimate monster room, the others are... But before Zai Xuan can finish, an arrow shoots toward the group. At the critical moment, Zai Xuan quickly withdraws his magic and catches the magic arrow aimed at Shu Ruina with his hand. As absolute calculation activates, the magic arrow instantly vanishes. After the first wave of attacks is blocked, the others immediately enter battle mode. Zai Xuan says, "Everyone stay alert, the dark elves have found us." Jin Yuqing immediately activates a magic field, providing amplification for everyone. Considering the elves' speed, Shu Ruina activates the magic skill, Delay. After doing all this, Shu Ruina uses her talent skill, and Hao Yan stands at the front of the team, activating his skill, Extreme Martial Intent. After blocking the first wave, Park Xingkai immediately charges into the dark elf group with his dagger. As the only A-rank hunter in the team, his strength is undisputed. Seeing this, Zai Xuan says, "I can't lose to you all. My attributes are precisely counters to yours." As Zai Xuan waves his hand, several lightning chains appear behind him. As Zai Xuan's strongest attack skill at the current stage, Lightning Chain has reached level 5. It easily kills 2 dark elves. According to Zai Xuan's memories from before his transmigration, all dark elf weapons are made with magic. This means absolute calculation can destroy all their weapons. Seeing themselves at a disadvantage, the dark elves slowly hide in the darkness. Zai Xuan says, "Listen everyone, Yuqing and Ruina use fire attribute magic." While Zai Xuan is instructing everyone, another magic arrow flies toward him. Zai Xuan merely raises his hand slightly, and the magic arrow shatters on its own. Zai Xuan continues, "Hao Yan, you too. Use taunt skills to simplify enemy attacks. Manager Xingkai, please deal with the dark elves whose movements have been delayed." After several rounds of attack and defense, Xingkai discovers that Zai Xuan seems very knowledgeable about dark elves. So he doesn't hesitate at all and immediately activates his skill, Invisibility. Almost instantly, Shinkai's presence completely disappears. There isn't even a trace of magic fluctuation. The next second, Shinkai's figure suddenly appears behind a dark elf, accompanied by several razor-sharp slashes. The dark elf has no chance to react before being completely eliminated by Xingkai. Seeing the situation now under his control, Zai Xuan also begins to actively attack. As Flame Fist activates, another dark elf loses its life. At once, the other dark elves begin to retreat, unable to find any breakthrough point. After a long incantation, a raging fire rises behind Jin Yuqing. The violent flames explode in the darkness, completely destroying the dark elves' escape route. The surviving dark elves immediately decide to kill Jin Yuqing. It's at this moment that Shu Ruina steps forward. As Shu Ruina points her finger, numerous flame arrows appear behind her. The dark elves who barely escaped ultimately lose their lives. A dark elf says, "How is this possible? How do humans know our weaknesses?" But before he can finish, a sharp sword pierces his chest. He quickly looks back at Hao Yan and says, "Mere humans, you dare to..." With flashes of lightning, the last dark elf is also killed. They should all be dealt with now. Let's hurry, we don't have much time left. Is it the path on the left? I sense the survivors' magic power from that direction. If we're any later, they might be in mortal danger. Meanwhile, in the director's office at Milas Academy, Qiu says, "What have you done?" Jin Shiji says, "I'm sorry, director. I really didn't expect outsiders." Qiu says, "What nonsense are you talking about now? Don't worry too much. It's common for ordinary people to accidentally die in dungeons. We just need to cover it up a bit." Are you joking? A terrifying magical power instantly erupts from Qiu. If they were ordinary people without magic power, the teleportation array wouldn't activate. That means those who came in all have magical power. This matter absolutely cannot have any mishaps if any survivors actually walk out of there. You should be very clear about the consequences, Instructor Jin Shiji. The scene shifts to the Lotus Guild, where Parkana says, "Is this really alright?" Liu Xinan says, "The situation is urgent, and going alone would attract less attention." Liu Xinan clearly knows that the magic fluctuation just now would only be produced by at least S-rank magic. The earring hasn't reacted yet, which means there haven't been any casualties so far. But if they wait any longer, sir. Who knows what irreversible events might occur. If I don't return by tomorrow morning, immediately find the association and request support. Also, keep constant watch on the surrounding surveillance to ensure there are no problems. Park Han-na says, Director, please be careful. Don't worry, Lu Xinen says as she rides her motorcycle to the place Zaishuan mentioned. Lu Xinen says, Q Ziren, if you dare touch a hair on my people, I will never let you go.